Darkness shrouded the damp cave, where the chilling echoes of terrified screams reverberated off the walls. The goblins were reveling in the death of their leader. Among them, one goblin with bloodshot red eyes spiraled into madness, boldly proclaiming himself the new leader. Yet another comrade vehemently disagreed, insisting that he had done the most to earn that title. Consumed by envy and rage, he lunged at his comrade, sinking his teeth into the other's nose. The cave erupted into chaos. Screams echoed as more goblins gathered, their eyes gleaming with amusement as they placed bets on the outcome of the brawl. For these simple creatures, chaos was a source of endless joy, a favorite pastime that never failed to entertain. Amidst the excitement, they began to conspire about bringing their prey out to fulfill their desires. The old leader had hidden a human girl, untouched and waiting, sparking whispers among the goblins as they plotted to claim her for themselves. However, some hesitated. The girl was guarded by a goblin unlike the rest. While the others donned simple garments to cover their private parts, this one exuded an air of authority that made them think twice. He was shrouded in tattered clothes that nearly concealed his entire body, creating a terrifying figure not just because of his ragged appearance, but also due to the unsettling aura he exuded. When their leader fell, the others feared that this peculiar goblin would claim the prey for himself. They watched him intently, and among them, some of the more cunning goblins suggested waiting a bit longer. Their strongest members had already ventured ahead to track down the prey. The plan was to let the strange goblin engage in battle with them, and then, amidst the chaos, they would strike him down and seize the prey for themselves. Unbeknownst to them, the peculiar goblin had overheard their conversation. Realizing the girl was in grave danger, he sprinted back to her captors, swiftly outpacing the other goblins. Upon arriving, he was met with a horrifying sight. The rebellious goblins were poised to harm her. The girl's eyes were wide with terror as she pleaded for help. He addressed them, demanding they release the girl. The goblin leader, however, refused, believing himself to be the strongest in the group and claiming the girl as his prey. Unfazed by the leader's arrogance, the strange goblin remained resolute in his determination to protect her. Sensing the tension, the large goblin and his henchmen prepared to attack, intent on eliminating the strange goblin once and for all. Outnumbered, the peculiar goblin was swiftly overpowered, yet he refused to surrender. He couldn't fathom that these lowly goblins could defeat him, and above all, he was determined not to die here. Seizing a fleeting opportunity, he wielded his weapon with surprising skill, striking down the largest goblin. The others recoiled in fear. Never before had they witnessed a goblin wielding a sharp weapon and attacking with such human-like ferocity. The strange goblin aimed his weapon at the others, his voice devoid of emotion as he declared, "Leave or die." The chilling weight of his words, coupled with the haunting image of a giant being slain, sent a wave of fear through the remaining goblins. They scattered, hurling threats over their shoulders, vowing to return with reinforcements to take him down. As the last of them disappeared into the shadows, the strange goblin remained on high alert, struggling to regain his composure. He understood that this was only the beginning of the hellish days ahead, days marked by his decision to stand against his own kind. Her name was Kelia, and she expressed her gratitude for his unwavering support, thanking him for saving her once again. She could sense that he was different from the other goblins. He had never harmed her, and she found herself hoping he wouldn't meet a tragic end. It was true that goblins typically did not protect humans, but there was a deeper reason behind this peculiar goblin's actions. You guessed it, he had been human just days ago. Lin Tian had met a tragic fate in a terrible accident, and instead of finding himself in the presence of God after being struck by a truck, he was transported to another world, complete with a system. However, his system wasn't fully activated yet. Aside from displaying a few stats, it appeared to serve no other purpose and felt rather pointless. However, after meeting Kelia, he learned about the significance of those stats in this world. This realm was governed by gods and teeming with formidable monsters, where humans had carved out their place through sheer strength. Unfortunately, the goblin he had been reborn as was the weakest and most despised creature in existence, with stats so low that he would be easily dispatched by his own kind. At level 5, Lin Tian had an HP of 20, strength of 5, and defense of 5, bringing his overall strength to 30. Fortunately, his name remained unchanged. He was still Lin Tian. Yet, there was a unique path for him to grow stronger in this world through mating with girls. In this unforgiving world, goblins gain strength through relentless mating and procreation. However, lacking a female gender, they could only mate with other female creatures. This drove them to constantly plunder and abduct women. Lin Tian, a former human, found this practice utterly abhorrent. Yet he knew that to survive, he needed to grow stronger. This moral conflict weighed heavily on his conscience. Noticing Lin Tan's concern, the girl reassured him not to overthink things. After spending days together, she recognized that he was unlike any other goblin. He truly didn't want to live among them. With a hopeful smile, she promised that when the knights arrived to rescue her, she would share the story of how he had saved her. The knights, known for their fairness and justice, would surely agree to let him live in her village. Her unwavering optimism filled Lin Tian with hope. He believed in her words and felt a surge of determination. Even if the system couldn't activate right away, he was convinced that if he persevered until the humans arrived to rescue them, he could survive. Once safe under their protection, he could find a way to fully activate the system. However, reality proved to be far more challenging than Lin Tian had anticipated. A piercing scream echoed in the distance, a harbinger of the goblin's return. Without a moment's hesitation, he ordered Kalia to hide, and she complied immediately. Suddenly, the first goblin emerged, charging wildly at Lin Tian. It screeched about the presence of humans and declared its desire to mate with the girl to gain strength, believing that power would ensure its survival. In its frantic search for Kalia, the goblin's haste made it an easy target. Lin Tian swiftly dispatched the unfortunate creature before it could reach its goal. Lin Tian hurriedly informed Kalia that humans had arrived to rescue her. Her face brightened with joy, as she immediately assumed it was a knight come to save her. Eager to see for herself, she declared her intention to go outside. Lin Tian watched her with concern. The arrival of a knight meant salvation for Kalia, and perhaps a chance for him to prove his own worth. However, his excitement quickly faded as he witnessed the knight effortlessly dispatching the other goblins with sheer strength. The knight appeared to be putting little effort into dealing with the goblins, his frustration evident as he vented his anger over the filthy creatures that had torn his clothes. As Lin Tian examined the human stats, he was taken aback. The man's name was Loader, a level 25 warrior boasting a strength of 30 and a defense of 50. Clad in platinum armor and wielding an iron sword, Loader possessed a total power of 400. This was the highest stat Lin Tian had encountered since arriving in this world, leaving him to wonder if Loader was truly human. As Lin Tian stood frozen in awe at how effortlessly Loader dispatched the goblins, Kalia eagerly approached, her face lighting up at the sight of him. But then, Lin Tian's heart raced as he realized Loader was raising his sword, poised to strike at Kalia. With lightning-fast reflexes, he pushed her out of harm's way just in time. Though he had saved Kalia from certain death, Lin Tian was left bewildered. The Holy Knights were meant to protect, so why were they attacking her? He initially thought the darkness of the cave had caused him to mistake the girl for a goblin, but Loader's furious outburst shattered that assumption as he vented his frustration over a goblin having evaded his strike. Kalia hurriedly attempted to clarify that she was human, but Loader silenced her with a wave of his hand. He already knew who she was, and his twisted belief was that she had been defiled by the goblins, perhaps even carrying one of their offspring. The thought struck him as laughable. How could someone so tainted expect mercy from him? He coldly suggested that it would be far better for her to repent for her sins and pay for them with her life. Kalia pleaded with him, insisting that despite her capture, she had not been defiled by the goblins. She pointed to Lin Tian, explaining that he was the one who had protected her. Unfortunately, Loader dismissed her words. The notion that a goblin could save her rather than being a human enemy was simply too far-fetched for him to accept. With a grim resolve, he raised his sword, ready to end her life. Lin Tian couldn't believe his eyes. He never anticipated that things would unfold so swiftly. With no other option, he stepped forward, resolutely pushing Kelly aside to confront Loader. He hoped there would be enough time for her to escape. Gripping his crude weapon tightly, Lin Tian lunged at Loader, fully aware that this was an outcome he hadn't foreseen. Yet even if it meant sacrificing himself, he was determined to protect the girl. This moment could be his chance to prove he was still capable of humanity. Just before the collision, an aura enveloped Lin Tian, leaving both him and Loader in stunned silence. This magic radiated from a woman clad in white, her presence exuding an air of holiness and solemnity. She commanded Loader to halt, sensing something unusual about the goblin. This woman was none other than Saint Ifria. Seizing the moment, Kelia crawled over and pleaded with her to save them. Ifria helped Kelia to her feet and presented her to Loader, the very man who had just tried to kill her moments before. Turning her attention to Lin Tian, she asked if he could understand her, trapped within the barrier. Lin Tian had learned from Kelia that Ifria was the saint and the spokesperson for the Divine Temple. She could very well be his only hope of escaping this place alive. Lin Tian quickly reassured her, taking a deep breath as he insisted he wasn't a monster responsible for the accident. He promised he could explain everything if she would just take him along. wrong. Lower regarded the goblin, thinking he was merely a bit smarter than the rest. Meanwhile, Ephraia smiled. Goblins were typically foolish and lowly creatures, incapable of coherent thought or speech. Yet here was a goblin who could communicate, and perhaps this was a blessing from the Holy Mother. The Holy Woman. Ephraia turned to Kelly, seeking confirmation about the goblin's intentions. With a bright smile, Kelly assured her that Lin Tian had not only spared her harm, but had also protected her from other goblins and even provided her with food. This revelation brought a sense of relief to Ephraia. Recognizing the unusual nature of this goblin, she resolved to take him back to the temple for further study before making any decisions. Upon hearing this, Kellia felt a surge of happiness. She had fulfilled her promise to the goblin. Ephraia then turned to Lin Tian, inquiring if he was willing to join them. Lin Tian's face lit up with joy as he eagerly replied that he was indeed willing. At last, it seemed that things were looking up for Lin Tian, as he found himself in the company of someone who could truly listen and understand him. With a snap of her fingers, Ephraia shattered the barrier that had imprisoned Lin Tian, then commanded everyone to prepare for departure. A wave of relief washed over Lin Tian as he felt a newfound sense of safety regarding his future, and he was profoundly grateful. Eager to express his thanks, he approached Ephraia, vowing to repay her kindness. However, as he drew closer, he caught sight of a cruel smile playing on her lips, leaving him momentarily taken aback. The next sound that pierced the air was one he knew all too well, the sickening sound of metal slicing through flesh. He understood what was happening, yet he turned back in dread. His worst fears were confirmed. Kellia lay lifeless on the cold ground, her body motionless. Lin Tian stood frozen, shock rendering him immobile. Just when he thought things were beginning to improve, reality delivered a cruel twist. In that moment, the voice of the woman he believed to be his savior echoed through the air, accompanied by her cruel laughter. She mocked his naivety, declaring that his willingness to follow her was the best way to repay her. It was then that Lin Tian grasped the harsh reality of this world. A week later, in the village, the bell tolled, calling everyone to the town square. As the villagers gathered, Loader stepped forward to address the crowd, announcing the devastating goblin attack on Bright Town. The villagers erupt in fury, demanding blood for blood, viewing humans and goblins as eternal enemies, exactly the reaction Loader had anticipated. Fanning the flames of their hatred, he begins to extol the virtues of the temple, explaining how the knights, acting on its behalf, have slain the goblins and avenged their fallen kin. Then, the holy maiden Ephraia steps forward. With her radiant powers, she conjures a breathtaking spectacle, urging the villagers to keep their faith in the temple. She reassures them that the temple will always safeguard its devoted followers. Her words quickly sway the villagers, even those who had been skeptical. Their faith is reignited, and they turn to the temple with renewed devotion and trust. Later, Ephraia returns to her chambers, reveling in the success of her speech. It's nothing new. These villagers are the most gullible fools imaginable. They'll pray even harder, worship the temple more fervently, and bring her even greater offerings. Her smug satisfaction is abruptly shattered by a voice calling her name. It's Lin Tian, the goblin, who has finally regained consciousness. He bears the marks of a harrowing ordeal. Horrifying scars mar his body, and one of his eyes has been gouged out. Yet, despite his injuries, a fierce rage flickers in his remaining eye. Ephraia dismisses his words, a twisted smile curling on her lips as she marvels at his indomitable spirit. It had been ages since she had witnessed such tenacity in life, perhaps explaining why the temple had struggled to eradicate all the goblins from the continent. Ephraia felt a surge of excitement. As Lin Tian regained consciousness, she could resume her experiments and observe the effects of the poison on him. But Lin Tian, filled with rage, repeated his accusations. "You tricked me! You killed Kellia! Is this the true face of your temple? This so-called justice that humans boast about?" His fury is met with Ephraia's cold indifference. She silences him with a sharp thrust of her staff against his mouth. A mocking laugh escapes her lips as she taunts him. "How dare a weak, filthy creature like you, a degenerate goblin, speak of human justice?" She continues, claiming that Kellia was under a spell and had the audacity to speak on his behalf. That was a betrayal, she declares, and thus death was her final act of loyalty. "Goblins are nothing more than pests on this continent," she continues, her voice dripping with disdain. "It's a great honor that the Holy Maiden even deigns to speak to you. Be grateful and use your wretched little body to serve mankind in the temple's experiments." The brutal torture persists, leaving Lin Tian powerless against the relentless, excruciating pain. Even when he succumbs to unconsciousness, the torment pulls him back, dragging him into a waking nightmare. As he endures his torment, a haunting thought crosses his mind. Will this be the place of his demise? He desperately hopes not. Yet, deep down, he knows he has no one to blame but himself. Reborn as a lowly goblin, he had foolishly placed his faith in humans, believing in the kindness of those who were not of his kind. His own weakness and naivety had led to Kelia's death. Captured by the villagers, he now suffers at the hands of Loder and Ifria, who take twisted delight in his agony, subjecting him to every imaginable cruelty while dismissing his desperate pleas as mere lies. Lin Tian's suffering finally reaches its tragic conclusion as he is tortured to death by a merciless woman. In his final moments, his only wish is for another chance, a chance to never trust humans again. If fate allowed him to start anew, he would crush their bones and drink their blood. But for now, as his consciousness begins to fade, he finds himself not drifting into an endless void, but awakening in a different realm. Surrounded by a brilliant white light and twinkling stars, he discovers that his body is fully healed. Before he can even ask where he is, a system window materializes before him. It informs him that the Goblin life simulation system has been activated and that he has died. A brief summary of his life flashes across his mind. Due to your naivety, you forgot you were a goblin. Humans will never trust goblins. You died from torture and abuse. This pain will be etched in your memory, and you will never forget it. As a result, you are the most tragic character in the rebirth system. Do you want to start again? Yes or no? Lin Tian is taken aback. His system only activated upon his death, and now it offers him a chance at rebirth. But will he return as a lowly goblin? The system warns him if he chooses no, his soul will completely dissipate. If he chooses yes, he will be reborn in a goblin body 1 week earlier. The prospect fills him with exhilaration. Just a week ago, this was his opportunity for revenge. He must make Loder and Ifreya pay for what they did. Of course, he chose to be reborn once more. A brilliant white light enveloped his body, marking the beginning of his Goblin 2.0 life. Lin Tian's eyes burned with rage. This rebirth was different. It was his Goblin 2.0 life, and the system had decided to grant him a bit more power to help him survive longer. As he felt the surge of strength coursing through him, Lin Tian couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Even if it was just a small boost, returning to life was the most important thing. This felt like his only chance. The system quickly warned him of impending danger. People from the temple were approaching. If he died again, there would be no second rebirth. The realization struck him hard. He had already considered his first resurrection a miracle. Knowing he wasn't strong enough to confront the temple just yet, he urgently turned to the system for guidance. What could he do? The system revealed itself as the Goblin Life Simulation System, capable of simulating his life and predicting future events. Each choice he made would lead to different outcomes, and every simulation required a full 24 hours to complete. Upon finishing a simulation, he would earn points that could be exchanged for various items within the system. Lin Tian couldn't help but chuckle at the situation. This simulation method allowed him to glimpse the future, and he wasted no time diving into it. The system reminder outlined his current predicament. He had just escaped the Goblin Cave, but now he faced a crucial decision. He could either warn his goblin friends and rally them to confront the humans together, earning himself a reward of 10 points, or he could choose to abandon his fellow goblins and make a run for it on his own, which would net him a mere 5 points. The stakes were high, and the choice weighed heavily on him. 3 options lay before him: hide in the cave and pray the temple people wouldn't find him, which would earn him a meager reward of 0 points. Lin Tian pondered this choice. Despite the 3 alternatives, he knew that even if all the goblins in the cave banded together, they stood no chance against Loder. The battle would surely end in their demise, leaving him with no escape. Yet he decided to simulate the first option anyway. He hoped that the points he earned could be exchanged for a weapon from the shop. With that, he could launch a sneak attack on Loder and turn the tide in his favor. As anticipated, the simulation ended with all the goblins eliminated, marking a total failure. The system prompted him to reflect carefully on his decisions and awarded him 10 points. Lin Tian felt a surge of happiness at receiving the points, despite his plan's collapse. Eagerly, he opened the system's shop, where an array of weapons materialized before him. However, he quickly realized the downside. His points were far too few to make any worthwhile exchanges. The only item he could exchange was a short knife, which would boost his movement speed by 10% and increase his strength by 15 points. He seized the knife, and instantly, those stats were reflected in his information panel. At that moment, Lin Tian recalled Kelia and asked why he hadn't seen her. The system explained that due to his rebirth, certain events in this world had shifted. Kelia had not been captured by the goblins. Instead, she was living happily with her family in the village. This realization filled Lin Tian with joy, a smile breaking across his face. He felt he had finally fulfilled his promise to bring her home, and now the weight of revenge no longer burdened him. His immediate focus shifted to escaping and surviving. He opted for a narrow exit, knowing this cramped space would likely have fewer guards. As he slipped outside, he spotted only 2 goblin guards engaged in a mundane conversation about their duties. Weak and distracted, they posed little threat to his escape. Lin Tian listened intently to their conversation as he cautiously approached the cave entrance. The 2 guards exchanged words, their voices low and conspiratorial. Given the narrowness of the passage, any goblin attempting to flee would be an easy target. Lower had instructed them to eliminate any girl who dared to escape, ensuring she would never return to the village. This chilling exchange solidified Lin Tian's conviction. The people of the temple were nothing but ruthless bastards, willing to sacrifice their own. With that realization, he felt no obligation to show them mercy. Lin Tian pinched his nose, attempting to mimic a woman's voice in distress as he pleaded for help. The guards immediately took notice, their eyes glinting with malice. They were eager to eliminate the girl and claim a reward from Loader. One of them stepped into the cave, a knife concealed behind his back. With a feigned gentleness, he assured the girl not to be afraid, claiming to be a temple man here to take everyone home. But instead of a woman, it was Lin Tian, brandishing a sharp knife aimed directly at the knight. The knight noticed his comrade's unusual behavior and decided to investigate. As he approached, he was taken aback to find a goblin standing before him. In an instant, Lin Tian hurled the knight's body aside and charged at the terrified knight with astonishing speed. His agility enabled him to swiftly wound the knight, who collapsed to the ground in agony. Overcome with fear, the knight screamed, "You can speak, human!" Lin Tian's sharp steel blade was the only response to his terror. Realizing he was no match for Lin Tian's might, the knight understood he was staring death in the face. In a desperate plea for mercy, he knelt and showed Lin Tian a picture of his family, hoping for a chance to return to them. He praised Lin Tian's intelligence, claiming that he would understand he was merely following the temple's orders, insisting he had no choice in his actions. The knight then offered Lin Tian a bag of gold and promised to select the most alluring woman for him. Yet for a man like Lin Tian, who had known betrayal, these words only stoked the flames of his anger. The knight's true nature was laid bare before him. He had intended to exploit Lin Tian's moment of hesitation to strike, but that hesitation was merely a part of Lin Tian's own strategy. With swift precision, he coldly ended the knight's life. A flicker of pity for the man's family crossed Lin Tian's mind, yet he recognized that ruthlessness was sometimes essential. Evil had to be eradicated, especially now that he was no longer human. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to a voice echoing from the forest. It was Ladra and his men, making their way toward them. Lin Tian swiftly discarded the knight's armor and hurried away, vowing to locate Loader and Freya soon. When Loader and Freya finally arrived at the scene, they were taken aback by the sight of the 2 fallen temple knights. As they examined the bodies, Loader's suspicion turned to a goblin ambush. The clean, precise cuts were unlike anything he had seen before. Freya, however, was skeptical. She argued that it was unlikely for an ordinary goblin to have taken down both knights. In her eyes, only a mutated goblin could possess the strength and skill to commit such a brutal act. Loader nodded in agreement, his fury boiling beneath the surface. The fact that the knights had failed to subdue a mutated goblin and allowed it to escape was a troubling sign. In a fit of rage, he kicked one of the lifeless corpses, his frustration palpable. Meanwhile, Freya, her lips curling in anticipation, could hardly contain her excitement at the prospect of acquiring such a rare specimen for her experiments. As night descended, the moonlight bathed the forest in an eerie glow. Lin Tian panted heavily, grateful to be alive. He had run until his legs felt like lead, but he knew he couldn't let his guard down just yet. Desperate to regain his strength and continue his journey, he reflected on the deep-seated hatred others held for goblins. It struck him. He would embrace the goblin way to confront his foes. Goblins had a unique ability to enhance their attributes through mating and cannibalism, both of which not only increased their strength, but also birthed even stronger generations. Lin Tian's mind was engulfed in a seething hatred. In this life, he wished for all men to know only the sweet release of death, while he desired all women to kneel and weep at his feet, especially Loader and Freya. However, his dark thoughts were suddenly interrupted by the rustling of leaves. A flicker of worry crossed his mind. Could it be one of Loader's henchmen still on his trail? Without a moment's hesitation, Lin Tian rose and charged at the unseen opponent, ready to strike first. The sudden appearance of Lin Tian startled the stranger, causing them to stumble backward in fear. To Lin Tian's surprise, the figure before him was a goblin. Its sound suggested it might even be capable of speech. Caught off guard, Lin Tian lost his balance and fell forward. As he regained his footing, he was taken aback to realize that this goblin bore distinctly feminine traits. Why was a female goblin appearing at this moment? According to everyone's understanding, goblins were exclusively male, reproducing only by mating with other creatures. Her presence had completely altered Lin Tian's perception. Confused, he stared at the female goblin, and sensing his gaze, she quickly sat up and pleaded with him not to harm her. "I was just fetching water," she explained, desperation lacing her voice. Lin Tian's concern deepened. How could this goblin articulate complete sentences just like him? Seeking answers, he activated his assessment skill to examine her attributes. She was level 3, but her profession was listed as God's messenger. Notably, she held the titles of Fallen God and Pure Soul. Her attributes revealed a blood level of 10, energy of 2, and defense of 1, with skills in Devour and Wild Growth. Overall, her strength measured at 10. Lin Tian was taken aback by the special note he discovered. It revealed that when a male goblin mates with a female goblin, they can become the legendary Goblin God. This sparked an unsettling thought in Lin Tian's mind. If he were to mate with her, he could gain unimaginable power. Sensing the dark intentions flickering in his eyes, the girl instinctively stepped back, fear etched on her face. "I was sent by the patriarch to fetch water," she stammered. "If I don't bring it back, he'll beat me to death." Noticing the girl's fear, Lin Tian quickly spoke up, apologizing for startling her. He gently patted her shoulder, reassuring her that crying might attract unwanted attention from dangerous individuals. However, the girl seemed more intrigued than comforted. Her curiosity was piqued by Lin Tian's ability to speak so fluently, just like her. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. Lin Tian couldn't help but chuckle and nod in response. Given her adorableness, it made perfect sense. After all, ordinary goblins rarely spoke, and she likely had limited interactions with others in her tribe. Lin Tian's train of thought was abruptly interrupted when he noticed the girl clinging to his cloak. She looked up at him and said he was good, explaining that the other goblins had only beaten her. This was the first time a goblin had treated her with kindness. With a hopeful glimmer in her eyes, she suggested that Lin Tian return to her tribe with her. Surprised, Lin Tian hadn't anticipated the existence of a nearby goblin tribe. He was still uncertain if the Loader people were pursuing them, and the situation was far too precarious to consider such a journey. He needed to find a safe place to hide first. Lin Tian's eyes sparkled with excitement. This was the perfect opportunity to recruit his first followers. Without hesitation, he suggested that the girl take him to her tribe. To his surprise, she agreed without a hint of embarrassment. It seemed that meeting a goblin as handsome as him was a first for her. Before long, they arrived at the goblin camp. However, Lin Tian's appearance sparked immediate wariness among the other goblins. A stranger dressed like a human was an unprecedented sight, and their curiosity was tinged with caution. Lin Tian surveyed the scene with a sense of satisfaction. The number of goblins before him was promising. Determined to establish his kingdom, he approached the goblins with a calm demeanor, expressing his desire to join their ranks and meet their leader. However, his proposal was swiftly dismissed. The goblins deemed someone as unusual as Lin Tian unworthy of an audience with the patriarch. Instead, they resolved to capture him and bring him before their leader, whether he liked it or not. At that moment, the girl stepped forward, her expression filled with concern as she positioned herself between the goblins and Lin Tian. "He's a good person," she insisted, her voice steady despite the tension. The commotion had drawn the attention of the patriarch, an imposing figure who now approached with a mix of curiosity and authority. Lin Tian couldn't help but feel a twinge of surprise at the sight of him. The patriarch was an elderly goblin, wielding a staff adorned with an array of skulls, giving him a fearsome presence that commanded respect. His appearance was unlike any goblin Lin Tian had encountered before. Beyond his unusual attire, he boasted impressive stats. Level 25, a priest profession, 102 health, 29 mana, and 17 defense. His skills included Devour, Summon, and Thorn Control. Armed with a skull staff and bone chains, he possessed an overall strength of 200. Lin Tian's eyes widened with caution. He hadn't anticipated encountering such a formidable goblin in this tribe. The goblin leader emerged, slowly making his way toward Lin Tian. Fixing his terrifying red eyes on the female goblin, he inquired if she had brought the stranger back to the camp. Filled with worry, she confirmed that she had, explaining that Lin Tian had nowhere else to go. The leader praised her for her efforts, but to her shock, he then commanded the other goblins to seize Lin Tian, revealing his grim intention to kill and eat him. The goblins, thrilled at the prospect of a meal, leaped with glee, shoving the girl aside as they brandished their weapons at Lin Tian. Without hesitation, Lin Tian drew his own weapon, commanding them to halt. He proclaimed his ability to forge weapons, promising that joining their tribe would make them stronger. The iron knife in his grasp instantly captured the leader's attention. He quickly ordered the other goblins to stand down and rush toward Lin Tian. Curiosity piqued. He leaned in closer to Lin Tian, his nose almost touching Lin Tian's face, claiming he could smell deception. Yet curiosity flickered in his eyes as he inquired about the kinds of weapons Lin Tian could forge. Drawing on his understanding of modern technology, Lin Tian explained that he could craft weapons from iron, as long as they could locate iron ore. With a confident promise, he added that, given enough time, he could create weapons far more powerful than a mere knife. He pondered to himself, noting how clearly the goblin shaman spoke. It seemed that the higher the goblin's level, the greater their intelligence. Observing the leader's hesitation, Lin Tian stressed that with iron weapons, the tribe could stand a chance against humans and other monsters. The goblins began to murmur among themselves, recognizing the immense advantage that iron weapons would provide. They felt inherently weaker than humans, but with such weapons in their grasp, they could venture north to capture mates. Recognizing the immense advantages of iron weapons, the leader reluctantly agreed to give Lin Tian a chance. However, he set a daunting condition. Lin Tian had just 3 days to find iron ore and forge weapons, or he and the female goblin would face a grim fate. The girl's heart raced with worry at the thought. With his demands made, the leader and his goblin horde departed, leaving a heavy silence in their wake. As Lin Tian comforted the girl, he cast a steely glance at the leader, a flicker of anger igniting within him. He silently assessed the leader, deeming him a cruel man, capable of turning against even his own tribe in a fit of rage. Lin Tian stifled his fury, fully aware that he lacked the strength to confront the leader directly. Instead, he resolved to use this time wisely, to forge weapons and grow stronger. The following day, at dawn, Lin Tian guided the goblins of the tribe in their search for iron ore. As night fell, the moonlight cast an eerie glow over the forest, heightening the sense of dread. Among them was Gobu, a female goblin who was utterly exhausted. "I can't walk anymore," she lamented, her energy completely spent after a long day of searching. Instead of receiving compassion from her fellow goblins, she faced harsh treatment. They mocked her appearance, calling her ugly and threatened her life if she failed to find the precious iron ore. She continued to plead, but the abuse showed no signs of stopping. They seemed intent on ending her life out of sheer laziness. Unable to watch any longer, Lin Tian picked up a rock and hurled it at one of the goblins, striking him squarely on the head. The goblins turned to him, their eyes blazing with anger. Lin Tian quickly clarified that he wasn't looking for a fight. He needed their help to find the iron ore. He warned them that he would show them what iron ore looked like, but only if they ventured into the valley ahead to retrieve some. If they refused, he promised to end their lives on the spot. Lin Tian drew his knife, fixing the 3 goblins with a menacing glare. The threat sent shivers down their spines as they envisioned their demise at the hands of his iron weapon. They hurried off in search of iron ore, not hesitating to threaten Lin Tian with death if he failed to forge weapons. Deep down, Lin Tian realized that once they obtained the iron tools, his life would likely be forfeit. His focus shifted to the task at hand. He needed to grow stronger. As he reviewed Gobu's information, a notification about mating with her to ascend to goblin godhood caught his attention. Lin Tian realized it was time to embrace the responsibilities of adulthood. Noticing Gobu in tears, he gently urged her to stop crying. He sat down beside her and asked if she would like to join him. With a heartfelt promise, he vowed to protect her, provide her with food, offer her a warm home, and ensure that no one would ever bully her again. Confused by his words, Gobu hesitated and asked if he was truly sincere. Looking into her eyes with unwavering sincerity, Lin Tian assured her that every word he spoke was genuine. However, he was too weak to stop the bullying. He needed to grow stronger, and Gobu was his only hope. The girl, puzzled, asked how she could assist him in becoming more powerful. Lin Tian felt a twinge of embarrassment, but mustered the courage to suggest that if they mated, he would gain strength. Her face flushed a deep red at his words. She eyed Lin Tian with suspicion, questioning whether he was being honest. She admitted she had never tried this before, and Lin Tian felt a bit flustered bringing up the topic. He reassured her that everything would be fine and that he would be there to help her if she wanted. Without waiting for her response, Lin Tian gently kissed her soft lips and laid her down on the ground. Embarrassed, the girl shyly agreed, saying she would bear his children, and soft sounds of shyness echoed through the air. Simultaneously, a flurry of notifications flooded his screen, announcing that mating had propelled him to level 7. The sound of his upgrade resonated in the air, a triumphant echo of progress. With this new level came a boost to his attributes. Gradually, Lin Tian's physique began to transform. His muscles became more defined and pronounced. Now at level 7, he boasted 40 HP, 10 strength, 6 defense, and an impressive total strength of 65. Lin Tian marveled at the transformation of his body. He felt a surge of confidence, believing that if he continued on this path, he could defeat the goblin leader. Gently, he stroked Gobu's head, declaring that she was now his wife and that he would protect her for all time. The girl blushed, her exhaustion evident, and she thanked Lin Tian, calling him a good person. Just then, a cry for help pierced the air, drawing their attention. As they turned their gaze, they spotted a goblin sprinting toward them in a panic, a massive wolf hot on its heels. What drew Lin Tian's attention was the iron ore clutched tightly in the goblin's hand. He hadn't anticipated finding iron ore in this place, but first he needed to handle the immediate threat. Without hesitation, Lin Tian unsheathed his knife and instructed Gobu to stay put. Gobu gazed at Lin Tian with a mix of trust and concern, silently urging him to be careful. For Lin Tian, this wolf represented a true test of his strength. The massive creature was poised to capture the hapless goblin, who was frantically trying to escape. Just then, Lin Tian burst onto the scene, brandishing his sharp iron knife and charging straight at the formidable wolf. The fleeing goblin was left utterly stunned by this unexpected intervention. A wave of fear washed over the goblin as it witnessed Lin Tian dispatch the wolf with a single blow. In that moment, Lin Tian transformed into a figure of terror in the goblin's eyes. When Lin Tian demanded the iron ore, the goblin hastily complied, trembling with dread. As Lin Tian held the iron ore in his hand, a delighted laugh escaped him, impressed by its exceptional quality. They needed more of this precious resource. Once they returned, he would forge weapons for the goblins and the entire tribe. 2 days had passed, and with the assistance of the other goblins, Lin Tian successfully forged a spear with an iron blade. While it may not have been the most aesthetically pleasing weapon, it marked a significant achievement for both Lin Tian and the goblins. They were astonished that Lin Tian could actually craft a weapon from iron, but doubts lingered about its true effectiveness. To demonstrate the spear's power, Lin Tian effortlessly drove the spearhead into the tough skull of the number. The crocodile wolf fell swiftly to the ground, its body pierced effortlessly by the spearhead. The demonstration left the other goblins in awe. Lin Tian, the goblin who had been saved earlier, was practically bouncing with excitement as he pointed at the fallen beast. "I saw Lin Tian take it down in mere seconds with that iron weapon," he exclaimed, his eyes shining with admiration. "He really can make weapons." The other goblins nodded in agreement, recognizing the undeniable power of the iron spear compared to their stone ones. As the goblins engaged in their lively discussion, Lin Tian raised his spear high, asking if they desired weapons like his. Without a moment's hesitation, the other goblins erupted in excitement, clamoring for their own, hailing him as a god. However, not everyone shared their enthusiasm. The goblin leader seethed with anger, feeling his authority threatened by this newcomer who had so swiftly captured their admiration. To assert his dominance, he slammed his skull-headed staff onto the ground, his menacing red eyes glinting with fury. He reluctantly acknowledged that Lin Tian spoke the truth. Crafting a weapon from iron was indeed a remarkable feat, yet it wasn't sufficient for Lin Tian to remain in the tribe. As Lin Tian and the other goblins listened intently, the leader issued a harsh demand. Lin Tian was to forge 50 iron spears within 2 days. With that, he turned on his heel and departed. The other goblins were uneasy with this condition. They believed it was excessively cruel, but they dared not voice their objections. Instead, they resolved to support Lin Tian in completing the daunting task ahead. Lin Tian wasn't surprised by the conditions he faced. Instead, he laughed confidently, feeling a surge of advantage. Earning the respect of the other goblins marked a significant step forward in his plan. On the day of the delivery, he proudly presented 50 iron spears, a testament to his hard work. The tribe rejoiced, thrilled that Lin Tian would remain among them. With a menacing gaze, the leader expressed his satisfaction with Lin Tian's successful completion of the task, granting him a place among the tribe. To honor Lin Tian's induction, the leader declared a feast, insisting that everyone join in the celebration. The goblins erupted into joyous dancing, their excitement palpable as the festivities unfolded around the flickering bonfire. Amid the revelry, Gobu carved a generous piece of pork and presented it to Lin Tian, a gesture of camaraderie and welcome. This was the moment she had been waiting for, so she urged him to eat it. Lin Tian eagerly accepted, but after a few bites, a sharp pain suddenly struck him. He collapsed to the ground, writhing in agony, while Goblin looked on in horror. It became painfully clear that Lin Tian had been poisoned. The culprit? None other than the leader himself, who approached with a sinister smile playing on his lips. He told Lin Tian he was too foolish. The leader claimed he understood Lin Tian's true intentions, warning that those who dared to challenge his authority had only one destination, hell. Before Lin Tian could respond, the leader seized Goblin by the hair, yanking her toward him. With a cruel smile, he taunted Lin Tian, revealing that he knew how much he cared for her. Now, he would make Lin Tian endure the agony of watching her perish right before his eyes. A crimson line of blood appeared on Goblin's neck as the leader's claws dug in. His intent was clear, to crush Lin Tian's arrogance and make him suffer. In Goblin's terrified gaze, a stream of blood erupted, but it wasn't hers. It was the leader's, for Lin Tian had severed his arm. The leader, now filled with dread, could only stammer in disbelief, questioning how he was still able to move after being poisoned. Lin Tian smiled, dismissing the leader as an idiot. He remained vigilant, knowing that facing a villain like him required constant caution. In truth, Lin Tian was well aware of the impending poison. The system had warned him. The leader, now seething with rage, had no choice but to engage in battle. Having lost an arm, his strength had diminished, but he wielded the bone chain in his hand, launching a desperate attack at Lin Tian. Lin Tian sprang into action, his speed allowing him to effortlessly evade the attack. With a swift leap, he aimed his iron knife at the leader's head, striking true and delivering a fatal blow. The moment the leader fell, fear swept through the ranks of the goblins. Lin Tian surveyed the trembling crowd and boldly declared, "I will be your new leader. Together we will forge a powerful goblin tribe, and you will never go hungry again." Lin Tian embraced Goblin tightly, raising his knife high as he proclaimed his dominance over the tribe. With his formidable strength, the other goblins quickly accepted him as their leader. After all, they were simple-minded beings, driven by their primal desires for meat and mating. As a token of their loyalty, Lin Tian presented them with the corpse of their former leader. Once given permission, they quickly revealed their true vicious nature, devouring the corpse in a brutal and savage manner. Lin Tian felt a wave of disgust wash over him, but he understood that this was the harsh reality of life. What mattered now was building his tribe and nurturing the next generation of goblins to ensure their strength. This was merely the first step in his quest for revenge. Amidst the chaos, one pair of eyes watched from a distance, a golden-haired elf girl. As she observed the scene unfold, confusion washed over her. What was happening? Under the hazy moonlight of this peculiar world, ominous shadows danced among the trees, revealing bizarre houses that seemed to emerge from the darkness. A figure darted forward with astonishing speed, leaping effortlessly into a brightly lit home. Yet what truly caught the eye was the horrifying sight below. Countless withered blue goblin corpses dangled from massive bones. If Lin Tian had seen this gruesome scene, terror would surely have gripped his heart. The elf girl paused in front of a house, the very one where she had secretly observed Lin Tian's tribe. This was Kasana, the princess of her elf clan. A guard elf spotted her and felt a surge of joy at her return. However, Kasana brushed past the guard and hurried inside, ignoring her concerns. The guard's worry grew. It seemed there was something within that Kasana shouldn't witness. But the princess was undeterred, declaring that she had important news to share with her mother. Pushing the door open, Kasana rushed in, calling out, "Mother, I have something very important to report. There's strange activity in the goblin tribe in the eastern forest." However, the scene that greeted her left her utterly bewildered. Elves were known as a noble race, celebrated for their bravery. Yet here was a provocative elf, her ample figure on display in a revealing outfit, basking in the attention of two men. Kasana's cheeks flushed as she stammered out her apologies, claiming she had something urgent to attend to. Just as she tried to turn away, the queen's commanding voice halted her. "What pressing matter has brought you here in such a hurry?" Kasana's expression shifted to one of determination, as she once again brought up the goblin tribe lurking in the forest. However, the queen remained unimpressed, dismissing goblins as nothing more than lowly, weak, and filthy creatures. Kasana quickly explained, "I discovered the remains of a bear in the demon forest. It was completely chewed up, and there are clear signs of a struggle. The ground is littered with goblin footprints. It seems the bear was likely killed by goblins from the forest. That giant bear is practically the strongest creature around. There's no way those goblins should have been able to take it down." Her voice trembled with anxiety. "A few days ago, I witnessed the goblin leader being killed by a young goblin. I'm worried that the bear's death might be connected to that goblin." The queen raised an eyebrow, slightly surprised by the news of a new leader, but her concern was more focused on the increasing number of goblins. With a snap of her fingers, she signaled for the man to continue serving her. Turning to Kasana, she commanded, "Lead a group to eliminate the goblins, but don't kill them all. Leave a few alive." This wasn't an act of kindness. The queen intended to harvest the hearts of living goblins to brew a tonic for the elf men in her tribe. Kasana was well aware of the potion's effects, and the mere thought of it made her cheeks flush with embarrassment. In recognition of Kasana's diligence, the queen offered her a man for the night, even asking if she had any special requests. Startled by the unexpected reward, Kasana felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her. She quickly excused herself, claiming she needed to check on a few things, and hurriedly bid farewell to her mother. Back at Lin Tian's camp, the goblins gathered around a map of the elf tribe, meticulously studied by Lin Tian's subordinates. The tribe, consisting of 30 houses, was perched high in the trees. Lin Tian commended one of his subordinates for the thorough investigation, promising him 2 elf girls as a reward after they defeated the tribe. He then instructed everyone to prepare their iron weapons for the impending battle. Upon hearing about the reward of 2 elf girls, the goblin's excitement surged. He hurried off to rally everyone, urging them to prepare their weapons. Meanwhile, Lin Tian's expression was far from joyful at the thought of attacking another tribe. In this harsh world, strength dictated survival. If he didn't transform his tribe into a formidable force, they would inevitably face destruction. Lin Tian meticulously assessed the situation. The village comprised 30 houses, and if each housed 2 elves, that would amount to a total of 60 elves. Adding the 10 elves stationed to guard the mine, the tribe's numbers swelled to at least 70. Reflecting on recent events, Lin Tian recalled how, since their leader's death, he had taken charge of the goblins, guiding them in crafting weapons and hunting monsters, all while honing their skills. Under Lin Tian's command, the goblins surged through the forest like a tidal wave, mercilessly slaughtering countless monsters. Naturally, these defeated foes became their next meal. With each monster devoured, the goblins gained new skills, powerful tusk attacks, skin that hardened like stone, boosting their defense by 15 points, and abilities like silent movement and venom production. Not all goblins acquired skills from consuming monsters, yet the tribe's overall strength had noticeably improved. Some exceptional goblins had reached level 18, boasting impressive stats. Armed with basic iron spears and armor, they collectively possessed a strength of 250. While the average strength of the goblins in the tribe had risen to 200, the elf tribe's combined power still far surpassed theirs, leaving Lin Tian feeling a twinge of concern. This battle was fraught with danger, and Lin Tian knew he needed to prepare meticulously. He decided to utilize the simulation system to discover an effective attack strategy. As the simulation commenced, he found himself leading a vast goblin army against the elf tribe, brimming with confidence in his impending victory. However, the tables quickly turned when the elves launched a surprise ambush. The goblins fell into a cleverly laid trap, and one by one, they were shot down. In a twist of fate, Lin Tian was captured by the elf leader and hung in the demon forest, serving as a grim warning to any other goblins who dared to challenge the elves. Simulation results. You believed it was flawless, yet the truth revealed a different story. Your fate was manipulated by another, resulting in a score of 0 and no reward. As the simulation concluded, Lin Tian fixated on the phrase "under someone else's control." Initially perplexed, he soon grasped the chilling reality. The only explanation for this outcome was that his tribe was being monitored by the elves. He quickly closed his eyes and concentrated. Goblins had exceptional hearing and smell, and with a bit of focus, he could detect any anomalies around him. Strange sounds soon filled his awareness, and as he peered into the distance, he noticed unusual signs. Meanwhile, the elves hurried back to their tribe, with Kasana at the forefront. She couldn't fathom that the goblin tribe would dare to attack hers. Initially, she had gathered a group to eliminate the goblins, but upon arriving at the camp, she was shocked to find that they had transformed significantly, especially after learning about Lin Tian's plans. She considered retreating to report back to her mother, but it was too late. She had been discovered, and arrows rained down upon the elves. Now, Kasana lay injured on the ground, fear gripping her heart as she surveyed the lifeless bodies of her comrades. In the distance, Lin Tian and the other goblins approached, their smiles twisted with malice. They were thrilled to discover a live elf. Kasana attempted to flee, but her body wouldn't cooperate. The wound felt odd, as if the arrow had been poisoned. Lin Tian, taken aback by how effortlessly he had captured her, remarked that she had arrived at the perfect moment. With a cold demeanor, he commanded his subordinates to capture all the elves. Kasana stirred, awakened by an unfamiliar liquid. Her drenched form revealed stunning, elegant lines, while her dazed eyes hinted at dark thoughts and wicked deeds. The goblins fixated on her with hungry eyes, their desire for her unmistakable as they bided their time for the perfect moment. Lin Tian seized Kasana, fully aware of the elf's alluring form, which sent the goblins into a frenzy. Capturing her would be their ticket to defeating the elf queen. As she was held captive, Kasana trembled but stood her ground, attempting to intimidate Lin Tian. "Coward!" she spat, asserting her identity as the princess of the elves. "How dare you kidnap me and threaten my people?" She asserted that her mother's kindness had enabled Lin Tian and his goblins to survive, insisting they would have been wiped out long ago without it, warning him that if he dared to lay a hand on her, the Goblin Queen would unleash devastation upon all goblins in the area. She stood her ground. Lin Tian merely sneered at her threats, unimpressed. He hurled Kasana to the ground, scoffing at her assertions about the Elf Queen's kindness. The goblins around him joined in his laughter. He gestured toward one of them, declaring that what he had heard from his subordinate contradicted Kasana's story. "My subordinates may be foolish," he sneered, "but they never lie." In Kasana's terrified gaze, Lin Tian revealed that he was aware of her true purpose, to annihilate all the goblins in the forest. He mentioned that the Elf Queen wished to spare some goblins, not out of kindness, but for reasons he wouldn't bother to explain. With a chilling confidence, he declared that tonight he would lead his tribe to uncover the truth. He commanded the goblins to feast on the fallen elf, urging them to absorb their skills. The simple-minded goblins roared in delight, their excitement palpable, while Kasana was engulfed by a deepening dread. Since his betrayal by humans, Lin Tian had grown cold and cruel toward his enemies. A survival tactic, it seemed. He regarded Kasana with an emotionless gaze, announcing that he would personally deal with her. Kasana was paralyzed with fear, managing only faint, choked sounds before a scream erupted from her lips, echoing through the forest. It was clear that Lin Tian had committed something truly horrifying. The system announced that Lin Tian had reached level 30, gaining 50 HP, along with 10 strength and 10 defense. He also acquired the skills of invisibility and night vision. Meanwhile, from the Elf Queen's house, the sounds of moans of pleasure and pleas of exhaustion echoed through the air. Inside, the queen was filled with heartbreak. Her wicked desires remained unfulfilled. She regretted not capturing enough goblins last time to create the tonics that would satisfy these men. 3 exhausted men lay sprawled around her when a sudden thought struck. Where was Kasana? She quickly inquired about her return. An elf nearby informed her that Kasana had set out on a mission and had yet to come back, even though she was overdue. He proposed sending a party to assist Kasana, suggesting that it would not only help her but also give them more goblins to slay, further enhancing the tribe's combat prowess. The queen granted him full authority to send reinforcements to aid Kasana and eliminate the goblins. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence, declaring that Kasana wouldn't be returning today. The words sent a jolt of fear through the group, a chilling reminder that they were under attack. Just as the elf man prepared to draw his weapon, a flurry of iron arrows whistled through the air, striking him down in an instant. The Elf Queen, a blend of skill and fortune, managed to catch an arrow mid-flight. However, her moment of triumph was shattered by the sudden intrusion of goblins into her sanctuary. Lin Tian and his band of miscreants burst through the window, announcing with a twisted glee that he had captured Kasana and that she would soon bear his child. With a mocking grin, he referred to the Elf Queen as his mother-in-law, declaring that they were now family. The Elf Queen's expression twisted in disgust. Fury ignited within her as she demanded to know what Lin Tian had done to her daughter. Lin Tian feigned indifference, acting as if he didn't grasp her words. This only fueled the Elf Queen's fury, and she lunged at him, intent on ending his life. Yet it was clear she was drained after dealing with 3 men, her attack lacking the strength she intended. To Lin Tian, it felt almost like child's play. He calmly informed her that the elf tribe was currently encircled, and if she surrendered willingly, he might just consider treating them with kindness. The elf queen collapsed to the ground, her body numb and unresponsive. She couldn't even summon the strength to sit up. Lin Tian revealed that the arrow she had grasped earlier was coated in goblin bodily fluid, which would induce rapid paralysis upon contact. Anger surged within her as she attempted to rise, but her bare skin glistened with sweat, lending her an unexpected allure. Watching her struggle, Lin Tian felt a flicker of intrigue. He revealed that he knew she had used the goblin's heart as a stimulant, expressing his surprise at how depraved the elves had become, resorting to such measures. He mused that she likely never imagined a day like this, a day when the very goblins she despised would come seeking revenge. As she absorbed his words, the elf queen's fear deepened. She recognized that the figure before her was the peculiar goblin Kasana had mentioned earlier. Screams and cries for help echoed from outside, prompting the queen to ask what was happening. Lin Tian sneered, remarking that it seemed the chaos had begun. Without allowing the elf queen a moment to process, he seized her and dragged her to the window, forcing her to witness the turmoil below. With a sinister grin, he urged her to consider surrendering sooner rather than later. Below, the elf village was engulfed in flames, chaos reigning as goblins relentlessly attacked. The air was filled with the anguished screams of elves pleading with their queen for salvation, desperate to avoid capture by their merciless foes. Watching her warriors falter against the onslaught, the queen was consumed by worry and fear. In a moment of desperation, she asked a question that seemed almost foolish. "What are you to my tribe, Lin Tian?" Understanding her unspoken dread, Lin Tian replied, "The strength of the elves has not diminished. Rather, my goblin tribe has simply grown stronger. There is little hope for resistance now. In a time when the elves reigned supreme, they had mercilessly hunted down the goblins. But now, the tides had turned. The goblins had grown stronger, and it was only natural for them to seek vengeance against the elves." Lin Tian urged her to confront the harsh reality and make a swift decision to minimize the impending damage. Leaning closer to the elf queen, he whispered in her ear that he still required more formidable warriors, and in exchange for her life, he would spare her. The fate of her tribe hung in the balance, resting on her decision in this moment. Outside, the cries of the elf men echoed as they fell to slaughter, while the girls were seized by greedy hands in a scene of barbarity. The queen's arrogance crumbled, and she sank to her knees, pleading with Lin Tian. She promised to fulfill all his demands, as long as he spared her child. With a mixture of desperation and defiance, the queen sat before him, displaying her allure with a provocative display of her ample form. She assured him that she would bring her fruits to him and bear children in his name. The next morning dawned over the goblin tribe, the sky bright and filled with sunshine, illuminating the breathtaking scenery. Kasana stood before the elf queen, her heart swelling with joy at the sight of her mother once more. Yet, the weight of their circumstances loomed heavy. She was now a captive, and hope for their future felt distant. The elf queen embraced her daughter tightly, her voice filled with regret. "I underestimated the goblins," she admitted, her eyes reflecting the harsh reality. "I never imagined their strength could surpass that of the elves." In the goblin tribe, only women and children remained, stripped of their ability to defend themselves and protect the precious elf bloodline. The queen, filled with despair, understood the grim reality. They had become slaves, forced to survive within the confines of the tribe. She turned to Kasana, urging her not to lose hope. Just then, Lin Tian appeared beside the prison, a sinister smile on his face. "You two should wait patiently," he said coldly. "You'll bear children for me, and I'll ensure you have enough food. But if you dare to cause any trouble, I won't hesitate to end you both." The elf queen, displaying a surprising obedience, seems to have accepted her fate. With a calm demeanor, she expresses her understanding, but makes one heartfelt request. As she gazes at the young elves playing innocently with the young goblins, she reveals, "They are my children." She pleads with Lin Tian to allow her to care for them. Lin Tian, currently in the form of a goblin yet once a human, understands the profound bond between a mother and her children. This connection makes him hesitate at the queen's proposal. Just then, the system presents a new mission, the Motherly Love Mission. At that moment, Gobu reached out to Lin Tian, expressing her struggle to care for all the children alone. She proposed that the queen take on the responsibility instead. Understanding the significance of these children as the future of the goblin tribe, who would one day bolster their strength, Lin Tian readily agreed to the elf queen's request. At that moment, Lin Tian assessed his strength and realized he had met the requirements for an upgrade. With the new enhancements, his stats increased by 200 in blood, 30 in strength, and 30 in defense. He was pleasantly surprised to discover he qualified for the upgrade. The remaining stats were automatically converted into attribute points. A soft smile spread across his face as he resolved to continue his journey of self-improvement by forging bonds with powerful women. With his current strength, he felt ready to challenge Lodor. Once the elves gave birth, he would set out for revenge against his foe. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed in the Goblin camp. The air was filled with the cries of newborns. The first children had arrived. By some miracle, all the infants bore the unmistakable features of goblins. Their unconventional looks startled their mothers, who hesitated to accept them as their own. Yet, in the world of goblins, vitality reigns supreme. Lin Tian was curious about the number of new arrivals. After a brief moment of calculation, Gobu reported, "There are about 30 to 40 children." The conversation was abruptly cut short by Kasana's scream, sending a wave of worry through Lin Tian. After all, she was pregnant with his child. He rushed to the scene, where Kasana lay in distress, the elf queen by her side, filled with concern and encouragement. However, it was clear that Kasana was struggling. Upon seeing Lin Tian, the queen quickly turned to him, pleading for his help. This was Kasana's first experience with childbirth, and it seemed she was on the brink of peril. Lin Tian understands the gravity of the situation and turns to Gobu for assistance in delivering Kasana. The elf queen watches in astonishment, taken aback that a goblin is aware of such matters. Meanwhile, Kasana is furious at Lin Tian's presence. She demands he leave immediately, insisting she doesn't want him near her. Lin Tian, feeling the weight of her words, responds with anger, urging Kasana to be quiet. "This is my child," he asserts, his voice firm and resolute. After some time, Lin Tian completed the task, ensuring that Kasana was no longer in danger. Gobu praised Lin Tian's exceptional talent for saving her, but Lin Tian dismissed the compliment, considering it a minor feat. Meanwhile, Kasana lay asleep, exhausted, surrounded by a group of young goblins. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the calm. Lin Tian turned to investigate and was met with a shocking sight. A beautiful elf, recently given birth, was bound and helpless. Beside her stood two adult goblins, their intentions clear as they disregarded her feeble attempts to resist. However, their actions came at a steep price, their own lives. In a moment of fear, Lin Tian killed the goblin, driven by the terror it instilled. He had decreed that all elves, after giving birth, should be granted rest until they were fully recovered. Those who defied this order would face dire consequences. In response to the growing tension, Lin Tian announced that henceforth, each elf's food ration would be increased by 1 apple. These actions endeared Lin Tian to the queen, who remarked that he was unlike any ordinary goblin. Lin Tian humbly replied that it was simply a matter of treating others well. He believed the elves would be more obedient if they were treated with kindness. As the day came to a close, Lin Tian set to work on simulations, aiming to earn points from the system to exchange for new technologies. The current storyline unfolds with the goblins seeking revenge. After much effort, they successfully captured the elf tribe and fertilized all the elves. Following a period of pregnancy, the elves gave birth to children endowed with enhanced attributes, significantly boosting the tribe's strength. Realizing their newfound power, the goblins set their sights on avenging themselves against Lodor and his allies. Determined, one goblin resolves to return to the village alone to track down the location of Lodor's knights. Lin Tian found himself at a crossroads, faced with 3 choices. First, he could act alone and attempt to eliminate Lodor and his companions, earning himself 50 points. Second, he could rally the goblins to launch an all-out attack on the village, which would net him 30 points. Lastly, he could bide his time, waiting for a more opportune moment to strike, adding just 10 points to his tally. As he sat by the flickering fire, Lin Tian pondered his options. Was it wise to seek revenge so soon? While his strength now rivaled Lodor's, he couldn't ignore the formidable power of Lodor's allies. The stakes were high, and every decision could tip the balance in this dangerous game. With his current strength, Lin Tian decided to go solo, aiming to eliminate Lodor and his companions to gain 50 points. Soon enough, an opportunity presented itself when he spotted Lodor alone. Lin Tian launched a surprise attack, nearly succeeding in his mission. However, just as victory seemed within reach, a human knight intervened, saving Lodor at the last moment. Tragically, Lin Tian met his end beneath the knight's sword. After this encounter, Lodor's group returned to the capital, never to be seen again. The simulation process concluded abruptly, marking a disastrous failure. Encountering a holy knight left no chance for escape, resulting in a score of just 30 out of 100 points. The reward was multiplied by 30 life points, but the next simulation of the Imperial City would not occur for another 9 days. Lin Tian was taken aback. A holy knight in such a remote location was unexpected. With Loader's group likely to leave the village and never return, seeking revenge would prove to be an incredibly challenging task. Hatred consumed Lin Tian's mind. Aware that time was slipping away, he yearned for swift revenge. Determined, he ventured into human territory, seeking the support of the Goblin tribe. Among them, Goblin was the most respected and influential, so Lin Tian entrusted her with leadership for a few days. The Elf Queen, however, viewed this decision as reckless. If Lin Tian were to be discovered in human lands, he would face arrest and certain death. Lin Tian had little regard for the consequences of his actions. He harbored a deep grudge against humans and was determined to exact his revenge. Before he set his plan in motion, the Elf Queen offered her assistance, proposing to cast an invisibility spell on him to keep him hidden from human eyes. Lin Tian chuckled at her unexpected concern for his safety. "I didn't think you cared so much," he remarked. The Queen, with a hint of seriousness in her voice, replied, "I'm not worried about you, Lin Tian. I fear that if you were to fall, the other goblins might rise up and turn their wrath upon us elves." Her children were all gathered, anxiously awaiting Lin Tian's safe return. Only then would they truly be secure. Lin Tian couldn't shake the feeling that the Elf Queen was cunning. She knew how to survive in this harsh world. As he departed, Gobu called out, promising to look after the tribe and hoping for his safe return. The scene shifts to the town of Kwangmin. The air is thick with tension as knights patrol the streets, vigilant and armed, their presence casting a shadow over the worried faces of ordinary citizens. They scan the area, searching for something elusive, unaware of the shadowy figure lurking in a dark alley. This figure is Lin Tian, who silently observes from the darkness, puzzled by the knights' heightened vigilance and the town's reinforced defenses. He suspects that the holy knights are at the heart of this unsettling atmosphere. With a growing sense of unease, Lin Tian exits the deserted alley. He walks for what feels like an eternity, yet there's still no sign of Loader's group. This unsettling quickens his pace, though the elf's invisibility spell keeps him hidden from prying eyes. Determined to uncover useful information, Lin Tian makes his way to the bustling town square, where a crowd has gathered. He notices a group of armed individuals gathered around a large bulletin board, which prominently displays the town's knight rankings. While the list itself isn't particularly captivating, featuring 1 platinum-level adventurer, 2 silver-level ones, and the rest at bronze, what truly catches Lin Tian's attention is Loader's name at the top. This confirms that Loader has indeed grown stronger. This information is invaluable to Lin Tian. He understands that he must take his time to gather more intel and devise a careful plan. Rushing in would only spell disaster for his quest for revenge. Disguising himself among the bustling crowd, Lin Tian navigates the streets with purpose. Having once been human, he knows that the best place to gather information is a tavern. To his surprise, even before stepping into the tavern, he hears a familiar voice that brings a cunning smile to his face. Inside, alongside Loader and the Temple Knights, he spots Ephraia, all of them joyfully sharing drinks. One knight raises his glass, expressing heartfelt gratitude to Ephraia and Loader for rescuing him from a fearsome four-armed ape monster. Ephraia quickly deflects the praise, declaring it to be Captain Loader's victory, emphasizing that she wouldn't have been able to assist without his exceptional skills. Another man scoffs, claiming the monster was too weak and that the knight's inability to defeat it only highlights his own shortcomings. This sarcastic jab ignites the knight's fury. He snaps back, insisting that their story has nothing to do with him, and orders the man to leave. Tensions rise as a heated argument erupts, both men on the brink of a fight. Just as the atmosphere thickens with hostility, the tavern owner steps in, swiftly diffusing the situation. He reveals that the dragon on Dragon Island is currently in its breeding season, and it has been kidnapping livestock and humans for food. He suggests that instead of causing trouble in the tavern, the two should go defeat the beast. The tavern owner's words resonate with Lin Tian, stirring a sense of urgency within him. If the dragon were to attack the town, he fears the capital's reinforcements wouldn't arrive in time. Even if all the adventurers in town banded together, they wouldn't stand a chance against those ferocious dragons. A sense of impending disaster hangs over the town. Loader's words cut through the tense atmosphere in the tavern. With a hearty laugh, he declares, "A few dragons? Please, there's nothing to worry about. Let me share some good news. A holy knight is on her way here." Lower confidently announces that his teacher, a holy knight, will soon join them in their quest to defeat the dragons. With her arrival, the king won't need to send his army. Once the situation is resolved, their group will return to the capital. The crowd buzzes with excitement, astonished to learn that Loder's mentor is a holy knight. Their spirits lift at the thought of such a powerful ally, and the townspeople feel a renewed sense of hope. If they succeed, Loder will undoubtedly become the town's hero. Flattered by the praise, Loder stands tall and raises a toast to everyone, celebrating the arrival of the Holy Knight and their impending victory over the dragons. As the room fills with laughter and clinking glasses, Lin Tian has other plans. Seizing the moment, he stands up, settles his bill, and quietly slips away. His departure catches Loder's eye, prompting him to call out, "Hey Lin Tian, why are you leaving without joining us for a drink?" Lin Tian turns his head to Loder and says, "We'll have plenty of opportunities to drink together in the future." With that, he walks away, his arrogance igniting the ire of Loder and his men. As time passes, the townspeople joyfully celebrate the arrival of the Holy Knight. Inside a church, a blonde-haired woman kneels in prayer, while Loder stands quietly behind her. "Lower," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos outside. "The dragons are wreaking havoc everywhere. They're getting closer to the town, and now no one dares to let their livestock out. We can't afford to let them attack." Rising to her feet, she grasped her weapon with determination. The woman was striking, her captivating blonde hair cascading over her silver armor, which gleamed with a commanding presence. "Have you prepared everything I requested?" she asked Loder, her gaze unwavering. Lower reported, "I have prepared 10 dragon-hunting crossbows and positioned them at the highest points in town." The woman nodded, a satisfied smile on her face. "Make sure everything is arranged perfectly. Any mistake would be a tremendous embarrassment." As she stepped outside, the crowd erupted into excitement. It was the first time they had laid eyes on the Holy Knight. They marveled at her beauty, speculating on which man could ever hope to win her heart. To them, she seemed an unattainable figure, so revered that even the king would think twice before commenting on her actions. The woman surveys the anxious crowd, realizing the gravity of the situation. It's reckless to have so many people gathered here. She decides to order the knights to disperse them, but before she can act, the chaos catches the attention of the dragon. With a deafening roar, it lunges toward the town, sending waves of terror through the onlookers. In the ensuing panic, one unfortunate soul is snatched away by the beast. The woman anxiously announces, "This is just a scout dragon. Once it appears, more dragons will surely follow. Lure, take your men to the wall and prepare for battle." Meanwhile, outside the town, a goblin scurries along a cliff, breathless as he reports to his leader, "The dragons are coming. I saw many guards on the wall." The leader raises a hand, silencing him. "Wait," he commands. "It's not time to act yet." The leader, a cunning strategist, had brought his army to this town, biding his time for the dragons to unleash chaos. It was then that he would seize his chance for revenge. Disaster struck swiftly as the sky darkened, filled with a relentless swarm of dragons, an uncountable horde. Those who had once reveled in tormenting the weak, like Ephraia and Loder, now stood frozen in fear. Faced with the sheer magnitude of these terrifying creatures, they could do nothing but watch as the nightmare unfolded before them. The only calm presence amidst the chaos was the blonde knight, standing resolute alongside the soldiers defending their home. After successfully using a crossbow to slay a dragon, she turned to her comrades and asked if they understood how to operate the dragon-slaying weapon. "Use it," she urged, "and bring down those beasts." The soldiers, filled with faith in the knight from the capital, quickly loaded arrows into the massive crossbows, their determination shining as they aimed at the approaching dragons, ready to fight back. In a flurry of chaos, arrows rained down, striking down a few dragons. Yet, these losses barely registered against the overwhelming horde. The human assault proved effective, but instead of instilling fear, it ignited a frenzy among the dragons, who quickly grasped the grim reality of their situation. Victory was slipping further from their grasp. The sky was shrouded in dragons, casting a shadow over the ground below. An ominous presence loomed, and the soldiers felt a chill run down their spines. The deafening roars of the dragons pierced the air, so intense that many were forced to kneel, clutching their ears in agony. In that moment, Loder and Ephraia exchanged a knowing glance. They understood that the Dragon Mother, the formidable leader of these beasts, was approaching. As the dragon mother descended upon the town, her colossal form dwarfed the other dragons, instilling fear in the hearts of the soldiers below. They hastily readied their crossbows, launching bolts toward her, but deep down, they knew their efforts were futile. Her immense size rendered their weapons useless against her impenetrable scales. With a fierce glare, the dragon mother surveyed the people on the walls, her eyes blazing with fury. These insignificant beings had dared to slay her children, and she would not let their transgressions go unpunished. The dragon unleashed a deafening roar before conjuring a massive fireball, its signature dragon fire skill. As the blazing sphere hurtled toward the wall, the soldiers could do nothing but flee in terror, convinced that their town was about to be reduced to ashes. Amid the chaos, the blonde girl stepped forward, urging the soldiers to remain calm. "Let me handle the dragon," she declared, her voice steady and resolute. With a swift motion, she drove her sword into the ground, and a brilliant blue magic circle emerged, gradually expanding around her. The magic circle swiftly formed a protective barrier around the town, so robust that it not only deflected the dragon mother's assault, but also trapped her outside. Standing at a safe distance, Lin Tian watched the entire battle unfold, astonished that the villagers were managing to withstand the onslaught of such a formidable creature. Perhaps the silver lining for Lin Tian at that moment was that the dragon mother remained uninjured, allowing the battle to continue. He swiftly activated his skills to assess the creature's power. This formidable beast was classified as the Dragon Mother, level 79, belonging to the ancient dragon race, and held the title of Dragon Island King. With a staggering HP of 4100, strength of 510, and defense of 580, her skills included Dragon Fire, Long Transformation, Dragon Roar, and Ancient Call. Her overall power reached an astonishing 2,900. This was the strongest monster Lin Tian had ever encountered. As Lin Tian examined the power information of the blonde woman, a wave of anxiety washed over her. The woman appeared less like a dragon and more like a formidable monster. Her name was Alicenia, a level 80 swordmaster adorned with impressive titles: Holy Sword, Strongest Swordsman, Dragon-Slaying Hero, Top Human, and Heavenly Swordsman. With an HP of 1,700, strength of 690, and defense of 700, her skills in swordsmanship and beyond were nothing short of extraordinary, culminating in an overall power of 4,000. As Alicenia charged toward the Dragon Mother, Lin Tian felt a surge of fear. He recognized her power as something truly extraordinary and was relieved that he wasn't the one facing her. Otherwise, he would surely be in deep trouble. The clash between Alicenia and the Dragon Mother was nothing short of terrifying. It appeared that the Dragon Mother was slightly outmatched, but her immense strength still posed a significant threat. Lin Tian, filled with a sense of urgency, hoped that the Dragon Mother could buy him some time. Noticing that the Dragon Mother and Alicenia had ventured far from the town, Lin Tian seized the moment as an ideal opportunity to strike. This was his opportunity for revenge. He commanded his goblins to follow the plan. They would infiltrate the city, splitting into two teams. One team would create chaos, while the other would lie in wait for the perfect moment to strike. With their frighteningly greedy eyes glinting with anticipation, the goblins obeyed Lin Tian's orders and surged into the town. The town was engulfed in chaos, with fires raging in every direction and dragons circling ominously overhead, hunting for their next prey. Lure, battered and bruised from his attempts to slay a few of these fearsome beasts, struggled to maintain his confidence. After all, they were just monsters. How could they possibly defeat a brave man like him? Yet, his resolve crumbled as the terrified screams of the townspeople pierced the air, announcing the arrival of goblins attacking the town. The soldiers were in disbelief. They had always thought goblins too foolish to attack a human town, mere weaklings in their eyes. Yet here they were, embroiled in a battle with dragons, leaving no time to contend with goblins. Suddenly, a woman's scream shattered their thoughts. She was fleeing in terror, a horde of goblins hot on her heels. The sight of the repulsive goblins ignited a fierce rage in Loder. He commanded the others to keep the dragons occupied, as their numbers were dwindling. Lower and Ephraia would confront the invading goblins, exactly what Lin Tian had been waiting for. As they pursued the goblins, Loder and Ephraia unwittingly walked straight into an ambush that Lin Tian had meticulously orchestrated. With their prey ensnared, a goblin leader shouted orders for his comrades to attack. Ephraia was swiftly captured by Annette, her grip tightening as she heard her desperate cries for Loder. But Loder lay helpless on the ground, his body pierced by arrows and surrounded by a horde of goblins. He couldn't fathom how there could be so many of them. The other soldiers, witnessing his plight, rushed toward Loder, but they found themselves unable to advance, encircled by the relentless goblins. The situation grew even more dire when Lin Tian emerged silently behind two of the soldiers, drawn in by the chaos, while the other goblins remained oblivious to his presence. It was too late when Loder shouted a warning to be cautious of what lurked behind them. In an instant, the two soldiers fell victim to Lin Tian's ruthless attack. Loder and Ephraia were paralyzed with fear, more terrified than when they had faced the dragons, because they realized there was no one left to rescue them. As Lin Tian drew closer, he expressed his surprise at how effortlessly he had captured them. Loder roared in fury, vowing to kill Lin Tian and every goblin in sight. But Lin Tian swiftly retaliated with a kick, reminding Loder of his true position. He was the prey, and Lin Tian was the hunter. With a commanding tone, Lin Tian ordered the goblins to escort Loder and Ephraia out of the town through the sewers, while the rest of the goblins advanced toward the wall to eliminate the remaining soldiers. Lin Tian's plan unfolded with precision and speed. The town echoed with the terrified screams of people under attack by goblins. Alicenia's attention was immediately captured, her mind racing with confusion. Why would goblins dare to strike at such a time? Yet, as she grappled with her thoughts, her moment of distraction came at a steep price. The Dragon Mother had morphed her colossal form into a captivating yet fearsome girl. With an intense gaze, she urged Alicenia to focus, insisting that she had no time to concern herself with others. Now in a half-human, half-dragon form, the Dragon Mother moved with newfound agility, her smaller size enhancing her speed. She lunged at Alicenia, swinging a massive fist in her direction, yet Alicenia merely scoffed at the impending attack, standing her ground with unwavering calmness as the Dragon Mother charged forward. How much more punishment can you endure? Alicenia sneered, unleashing a devastating advanced skill. With her overwhelming power, the Dragon Mother found herself unable to dodge, forced to endure the excruciating pain. Alicenia reveled in the Dragon Mother's howls of agony, savoring her apparent victory. However, her delight was fleeting. Despite the Dragon Mother's weakened state, worry crept in. She couldn't shake her concern for Loder and whether he could handle the remaining dragons and goblins. Her question was abruptly answered by a resounding explosion, signaling that Loder was struggling to contain the chaos. The wounded Dragon Mother seized the moment as goblins emerged, using Alicenia's brief distraction to her advantage. In an instant, she transformed back into her full dragon form and fled before Alicenia could react. As she fled, the Dragon Mother vowed to exact her revenge on Alicenia once she had recovered from her injuries. Alicenia, filled with rage, longed to pursue her, but her duty to protect the villagers held her back. Instead, she swore to find Dragon Island and eradicate every dragon that dwelled there. In time, peace returned to the town. Alicenia had successfully dealt with the remaining dragons and goblins, but her fury simmered at the incompetence of Loder and his group. They had failed to defeat even the goblins. As Alicenia stepped into the town center, a knight approached her with urgent news. Loder and Ephraia had been captured by goblins. Stunned, she struggled to comprehend the situation. Everyone on the continent knew that goblins were the weakest of creatures, nothing more than a nuisance. But as she glanced at the bodies of the fallen knights, a wave of anxiety washed over her. She had heard whispers that these goblins were unlike any others. Their strength rivaled that of a formidable beast, and even Loder had been unable to defeat them. Alicenia's fury erupted at the news, and she vowed to eradicate every goblin tribe lurking in the nearby forest as an act of revenge. However, a villager stepped forward, pleading with her to stay and safeguard the town. They feared that both dragons and goblins would return, leaving them defenseless. Surrounding her, the villagers knelt in desperation, imploring Alicenia to remain. They were the faithful of the temple and the empire, and they looked to her for their protection. Despite her anger, Alicenia recognized that the lives of the villagers were far more important than the captured knight. Her duty was to protect them. She couldn't help but blame Loder for his weakness, for failing to even defeat a horde of goblins. The only course of action left for her was to send a message to the capital, urgently requesting assistance. Meanwhile, Lin Tian returned to his tribe, greeted with cheers and celebrations for his hard-won victory. He had also returned with two humans, Loder and Ephraia, as trophies. Upon arriving at the camp, the goblins secured Loder and Ephraia at the base of a towering tree, warning them to behave or risk being eaten. As Loder took in his surroundings, he was taken aback to discover that the goblin tribe was holding numerous elves captive. This revelation explained their remarkable strength. Ifreya was filled with worry, fearing that there were goblins within the tribe who possessed hero-level abilities. Loder grasped the gravity of their predicament and asked Ifreya if her powers had returned. She offered him a glimmer of hope. At her current rate of recovery, she would soon be able to wield magic once more. However, their conversation did not go unnoticed. Lin Tian, having overheard them, praised Ifreya for her remarkable healing speed. Ifreya was taken aback by Lin Tian's sudden appearance, her heart racing as memories of their past flooded her mind. Before she could fully process the shock, Lin Tian lunged forward, seizing her by the foot. "What are you going to do?" Ifreya gasped, her voice trembling. With a chilling smile, Lin Tian answered her unspoken question. His claws dug deep into Ifreya's flesh, eliciting a cry of pain that echoed in the tense air. Loder, witnessing the brutal scene unfold, erupted in fury. "Stop! You're a monster!" he shouted, his voice laced with desperation as he confronted Lin Tian. Before the situation could escalate any further, a goblin stepped in, delivering a powerful punch in a fit of rage at Loder for daring to insult their leader. Loder held back any further taunts, instead glaring at Lin Tian. "Are you truly an intelligent goblin?" he challenged. "Have you thought about the consequences of kidnapping us? My master is a sword saint, capable of wiping out your entire tribe." Lin Tian smirked, declaring that the woman was also his prey, but the time wasn't right. As he prepared to leave, he ordered the goblins to erase all traces of their presence. The woman sought them out, but her efforts were in vain. Wiping the blood from his hands, Lin Tian instructed a goblin to lead the second-generation goblins into the forest to hunt as many monsters as they could. The goblin promptly obeyed, eager to fulfill its master's command. Lin Tian understood the gravity of the situation. The humans would not let this event pass without repercussions. His foremost concern was to evolve his tribe before the inevitable attack. But setting that aside, the time for revenge had come. He stepped onto Loder, demanding that he sacrifice a part of his own body. With a piercing gaze, Lin Tian posed his first question. "You humans take pleasure in secretly imprisoning and torturing goblins, don't you?" Loder was taken aback, but he feigned ignorance. His deception, however, came at a steep price. Without mercy, Lin Tian severed one of Loder's ears. As Loder writhed on the ground in agony, he continued to curse at Lin Tian, insisting that all his actions were for the protection of humanity, that his duty was to eliminate monsters. Lin Tian found this claim repulsive, convinced that Loder was driven by a desire to elevate the status of his knightly order. Lin Tian understood that they chose to slay monsters, including the humans ensnared by them, because killing was far easier than saving. In fulfilling their duty, they had taken countless lives, becoming more monstrous than the very creatures they hunted. His words struck Loder and Ifreya like a thunderclap. They were bewildered by how the goblin could possibly know this truth. But Lin Tian swiftly ended the conversation. He declared that he was not like them. He had no need to prove his goodness, for he embraced his identity as a cruel monster. Now, he would wield that very cruelty to teach them a lesson they would never forget. Ifreya lay paralyzed by the goblin's poison, her consciousness slipping away. She was now a target for Lin Tian's revenge. Loder, despite his own injuries from the goblins, fought against his restraints, crying out in desperation for Lin Tian to spare Ifreya. But Lin Tian's heart was devoid of mercy for his enemies. With a chilling resolve, he declared that he would make Ifreya suffer for every ounce of pain he had endured, and this was only the beginning. He seized Ifreya and urged Loder to open his eyes and witness the spectacle, declaring that his goblins would serve Ifreya with unwavering devotion. Loder's heart sank at the thought of her being sullied by their filthy hands. It was the second day since Lator and Ifreya had been captured and brought to the goblin tribe. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a harsh light as the goblin guards changed shifts. A goblin steps out of the tent, a satisfied grin on his face after tormenting Ifreya. Another goblin watches him with concern, reminding him that the chieftain has strictly ordered that Ifreya must not be killed. The first goblin shrugs off the warning, declaring she's still very much alive. Indeed, Ifreya's clothes lie in tatters, and though she no longer screams as she did during her initial torment, her unsettling silence speaks volumes. Loder is compelled to watch the grim scene unfold, his gaze fixed on Ifreya with concern. He urges her to stay strong, promising that rescue will come soon. Ifreya whispers back, her voice barely above a breath, that she understands. But Loder's words draw the ire of a nearby goblin, who swiftly punishes him for speaking out of turn. Another goblin approaches, intent on tormenting Ifreya. Inside the tent, the elf queen and Kasana care for the children, their hearts heavy as they witness Ifreya's suffering. The elf queen's expression darkens as she realizes that Lin Tian harbors a deep-seated grudge against humans. Kasana is filled with fear, realizing that they are worse off than the two humans. At least, the humans have fruit to sustain them. It dawns on her that both she and the Elf Queen are pregnant with Lin Tian's children. Just then, Gobu arrives, confirming that Lin Tian indeed harbors a vendetta against them, revealing that these two are responsible for his wrath. The Elf Queen, seemingly having had a change of heart about Lin Tian, remarks that he is the most extraordinary goblin she has ever encountered, a goblin fueled by revenge, capable of anything. Even as he tormented her with his weapon, she felt an unusual fondness for him. The Elf Queen had shattered her perception of the noble elf. Beside her, Kasana sensed that her mother was strangely content in her suffering at Lin Tian's hands. Meanwhile, a goblin burst in to announce that the second generation of goblins had returned, catching Lin Tian off guard. The second-generation goblins return, accompanied by a variety of monsters, and are met with enthusiastic cheers from their fellow goblins. After all, aside from reproduction, their primary interest lies in meat. Among the crowd, one goblin spots Lin Tian and rushes to greet him. Lin Tian is a formidable figure, a large goblin at level 33, boasting the profession of warrior. He carries the titles Son of Elf, Blessed by the Lord, and Monster Hunter. With an impressive 470 HP, 142 strength, and 168 defense, his overall power reaches a staggering 500. Lin Tian surveyed the second-generation goblins with satisfaction. Having evolved into formidable large goblins after surpassing level 30, their strength was now rivaling his own. Curiosity piqued. He inquired why they had returned so soon and whether their hunt had been fruitful. One of the goblins stepped forward, reporting that they had cleared out all the nearby monsters but had to venture deeper into the forest. There, they stumbled upon a giant goblin tribe that was ruthlessly slaughtering the smaller tribes. Lin Tian is taken aback. It's the first time he's heard of a giant goblin race. Until now, he only knew demi-humans as the creatures closest to goblins in size. Another goblin steps forward to enlighten him about the Bloodtooth tribe, a clan of these towering goblins. He recalls a previous hunt where he stumbled upon one of their tribes under siege. The memory of that scene still haunts him. It was nothing short of terrifying. As Lin Tian contemplates the formidable goblins, a thrill of excitement courses through him rather than fear. If he could capture their chieftain and breed a third generation of goblins, they would gain the strength needed to withstand the human invasion. Lower, overhearing Lin Tian's ambitious thoughts, lets out a mocking laugh. "Keep dreaming," he scoffs. "Your death is drawing near. Even if goblins grow stronger, the knights will still crush them." Lin Tian fixes Loader with a chilling glare, his voice dripping with sarcasm as he thanks him for the reminder, admitting he had almost forgotten Loader was present. As a twisted reward, Lin Tian permits the other goblins to have their fun with Loader, cautioning them not to kill him. With gleeful abandon, the goblins pounce on Loader, their eyes gleaming with a ravenous hunger. It seems they find humans, even men, oddly enticing. Amid their chaotic revelry, Loader's desperate screams pierce the air. He curses the goblins, threatening them with the arrival of humans who will come to annihilate their wretched tribe. Freya remains silent, her gaze lowered as she observes the chaos around her. Perhaps she has learned that silence is her best defense. Hours later, Loader lies unconscious on the ground, his face a grim testament to the pain he has endured. Meanwhile, the goblin tribe revels in a feast of alcohol and meat, their laughter echoing through the air. Everyone seems to be celebrating, everyone except Loader and Freya. Amidst the festivities, Gobu turns to Lin Tian, inquiring about his plans to attack the Bloodtooth tribe. Lin Tian nods in confirmation, his expression serious. "We want to survive," he declares. "To do that, we must be the strongest. Our goal isn't just to attack. We aim to capture their chieftain as well." Lin Tian has chosen a name for his tribe. They will now be known as the Tribe of Frenzy. The name resonates with the goblins' wild spirit, and they roar with joy at the newfound identity. However, Gobu feels a twinge of apprehension about Lin Tian's decision. She warns him that the Bloodtooth goblins are formidable foes, having decimated many other tribes. Taking on such a powerful enemy and capturing their chieftain will be no easy feat. Lin Tian reassures Gobu, telling him not to worry, as he is well aware of their current strength. His gaze shifts to Freya, a spark of inspiration igniting within him about how she might play a role in the upcoming war. Before the battle commences, Lin Tian pays a visit to the Bloodtooth tribe to gather intelligence. He carefully selects a vantage point from which he can survey the entire area, intrigued by the formidable strength of these giant goblins. The Bloodtooth tribe boasts houses with modern architecture, a testament to the intelligence of these goblins. Inside, a group of massive goblins feasts and drinks, yet Lin Tian believes he can easily conquer them. As he observes, he notices the flicker of fear in their eyes, particularly when they catch sight of their chieftain. This giant goblin towers over the rest, a formidable presence at level 50 with the profession of high-level warrior. He carries impressive titles: Monster Hunter, Goblin Hero, and Breeding Machine. With 700 HP, 239 strength, and 14 defense, he wields a bone hammer, bringing his overall power to a staggering 900. Lin Tian was exhilarated at the sight of such a formidable goblin, already plotting his future use for him. Currently, he was perched in a tree near the Bloodfang tribe camp, enjoying a perfect view of the activities unfolding below. A smirk crept across his face as he observed the goblin leader. He wasn't nearly as intimidating as he appeared. With a combined strength of 900, a group of goblin warriors could easily overpower him. However, capturing the leader alive would prove to be a far more challenging endeavor. Given the immense size of these goblins, any poison would likely be ineffective, and paralyzing toxins simply wouldn't do the trick. Lin Tian needed a different strategy. He recalled Ephraya's binding magic, which had been used on him before, and realized it could be the key to subduing these formidable foes. A grin spread across his face at the thought. He resolved to speak with Ephraia as soon as he returned to his tribe. Before long, Lin Tian returned to his tribe. At first glance, everything appeared peaceful, but beneath the surface lay a grim reality. He made his way to the location where Ephraia was being held. There she lay, motionless on the ground, her delicate curves and milky white skin partially revealed to her tattered clothing. Just then, a goblin approached carrying a bucket of hot water. With a cheerful demeanor, he announced that Ephraia was still alive thanks to Lin Tian's instructions. Lin Tian commended the goblin for his unwavering diligence. His plan was to keep Ephraia alive for as long as possible, but it wasn't driven by kindness. It was fueled by revenge. The torment he inflicted on her was merely a fraction of what she had done to him. As he approached Ephraia, she lay there groaning, seemingly devoid of any will to fight back. It was as if she was pleading with anyone or anything to end her suffering. Deep down, she longed for atonement before the Holy Mother. Lin Tian sat beside Ephraia, gently using a warm cloth to wipe her down. The soothing warmth brought her a flicker of comfort. "You need a bit more care before you can be used again," Lin Tian said softly. In her dazed state, Ephraia slowly opened her eyes and was met with the sight of Lin Tian, the very embodiment of her nightmares. Panic surged through her and she screamed in terror, bolting upright. "Stay away from me," she cried, her voice trembling. In a frantic outburst, she ranted incoherently, shouting words like, "Monster! I'm going crazy, and it hurts so much." To silence her screams, Lin Tian struck her heart with a sudden blow, the pain cutting through her cries and leaving her with vacant eyes, filled with dread about what might come next. Moments later, he drew Ephraya's alluring form close, sharing the warmth of his own body. He leaned in and whispered in her ear that her punishment was finally over. His words pulled Ephraia back from the edge. Tears streamed down her cheeks, soaking them as she trembled and asked Lin Tian if he was truly telling the truth. Fear gnawed at her. Was this a genuine reprieve, or just another cruel trick played by the goblin? With a gentle expression, Lin Tian assured her that he would end her suffering. If she met one condition, she had to abandon her faith. Ephraia was bewildered. She wanted to understand what he meant by faith. Lin Tian clarified that she had to choose between believing in the Holy Mother and believing in him. He offered her the chance to become his pet, promising an escape from the pain she was enduring. As he spoke, he stroked Ephraya's head tenderly, as if she were a beloved animal. Ephraia quickly made her choice. She took his hand and began to lick it, her gesture undeniably seductive. It was clear she was signaling that he could do whatever he wished, and she would not resist. Lin Tian gently stroked Ephraya's tongue, praising her for her decision. He declared that as a reward, he would be her only master, the sole one she needed to serve. With a smirk, he bestowed upon her a new name, Little Bitch. Ephraya's spirit was broken. She had completely surrendered. A smile spread across her face at the sound of her new title, and she eagerly called him master, even beginning to bark like a playful puppy. Lin Tian felt a surge of satisfaction and decided to reward Ephraia by carrying her to a stone bathtub. By now, Ephraia had shed any lingering shame about her nudity. She was eager for Lin Tian to admire her body and assist her in bathing. With gratitude, she thanked the Holy Mother for her kindness, expressing her willingness to give everything for this moment. As Ephraia lay there, reveling in Lin Tian's attentive care, he prepared to set his plan into motion. Lin Tian turned to Ifreya, questioning whether she would truly do anything for this task. It felt like a coincidence that he had something specific in mind just as he posed the question. He wanted to witness her use the Holy Light technique, a name he had given to her unique ability. Ifreya assured him she could wield the Holy Light, but she was uncertain about what he wanted her to create. After Lin Tian clarified his vision, they stood together before a stone pedestal where an ancient book rested. This was the key to the spell Ifreya needed to perform. With a nod, she confirmed her understanding of his request. Without hesitation, Ifreya began to chant, a golden light radiating from the book in her hands. As she recited the incantations, the scene unfolded like a spellbinding tapestry, reminding everyone that this world was steeped in magic, not merely desire. In an instant, a massive cage of holy light materialized before them. This was precisely what Lin Tian had been hoping for, and he couldn't help but praise Ifreya for her remarkable performance. Having completed his task, Lin Tian set out to take his pet for a walk. It was no coincidence that they found themselves near Lotor's cell. When Lotor spotted Ifreya walking freely and looking vibrant, his joy was palpable. He roared with excitement, asking her if she had fully recovered. He urged her to swiftly destroy the goblin and use her powers to heal his body. Lin Tian merely laughed, a hint of contempt in his voice. He urged Lotor to pay close attention, saying, "Don't you see? She's completely submitted to my protection." Lotor remained skeptical. How could a temple priestess be tamed by a goblin? To prove his master right, Ifreya knelt down and licked Lin Tian's boots like a loyal dog. With a satisfied smile, Lin Tian encouraged Ifreya to tell Lotor that this act was entirely voluntary. Ifreya swiftly affirmed his words, insisting that everything she was doing was entirely voluntary. Her declaration shattered Lotor, leaving him reeling. In that moment, he realized his last hope had vanished. A howl of anguish escaped him, echoing his despair. He believed Lin Tian's actions would inevitably lead to one grim outcome, the extinction of all goblins. To him, it seemed that the only purpose of goblins was to be hunted down by humans. "The temple people will kill all of you." Lotor was consumed by rage upon discovering that Ifreya had willingly become Lin Tian's slave. His fury erupted as he threatened that the temple would annihilate all the goblins, for Ifreya was the daughter of the temple's leader. Lin Tian fell silent, taken aback by this revelation. He had never anticipated that Ifreya would have such a remarkable lineage. He understood that humans would dispatch formidable individuals to rescue her. After a moment's pause, Lin Tian expressed his gratitude to Lotor for the invaluable information, declaring it worthy of a reward. He then instructed the goblin guard, named Goblin, to keep a close watch on Lotor, ensuring he wouldn't be left idle. The goblin nodded, brandishing the whip in his hand, and assured Lin Tian that he would take excellent care of Lotor. Lin Tian felt the pressure of time slipping away. Eager to conquer the Bloodfang tribe swiftly, he summoned Ifreya to join him on this crucial mission. Together, they would defeat and tame the tribe, for Lin Tian understood the urgency of their task. Meanwhile, within the Bloodfang tribe, activity buzzed as a small goblin hurried to report to the tribe chief that all preparations were finally complete. The chief felt a sense of satisfaction as he reviewed the report. Today, they would launch an assault on the southern goblin tribe and rescue the elves held captive there, ensuring a lively time for all the goblins. During the discussion, it became evident that these towering goblins also had their sights set on attacking Lin Tian's tribe, eagerly anticipating the rewards that would follow their victory. Just then, a shout broke through the air, capturing the chief's attention. A goblin guard burst in, breathless and alarmed, reporting that an unusual goblin had infiltrated the tribe and was demanding an audience with the chief. The chief, taken aback by such audacity, couldn't help but wonder where this brazen goblin had come from. Just then, Lin Tian stepped forward, bowing respectfully. "Greetings, chief," he said with a calm demeanor. "I am aware of your reputation as a hero-level goblin, possessing intelligence rivaling that of a human." Lin Tian approached with the intent to speak peacefully, but the chief couldn't help but find his unusual attire peculiar, suspecting he might be a mutated human. Lin Tian, however, firmly asserted his identity as a goblin, just a bit more intelligent than the average one. Yet it was clear that his patience was wearing thin. Glancing around at the gathered goblins, he boldly introduced himself as the chief of the Mad Tribe, revealing that his true purpose for coming was to capture their leader. Lin Tian presented the remaining goblins with two stark choices: surrender or face death. The audacity of such a small goblin infuriated the Bloodfang chief, who was taken aback to discover that this was the leader of the tribe responsible for enslaving elves. With a hint of sarcasm, Lin Tian remarked on the chief's impressive lineage, suggesting he surrender and join his tribe. However, this offer was met with disdain. The goblin chief scoffed at Lin Tian, deeming him a fool for daring to propose such an insult. The chief seized Lin Tian's head with his massive hand, silencing him. A sense of satisfaction washed over him. Lin Tian had come here willingly. Once he eliminated Lin Tian and the rest of his tribe, the humans and elves in the area would fall under their control. The prospect of such a triumphant reward stirred the other goblins into a frenzy, rallying around their chief and urging him to finish Lin Tian off swiftly. Lin Tian regarded them as nothing more than fools, convinced he had squandered enough time in their presence. If capturing the chief alive hadn't been his intention, he wouldn't have hesitated for so long. Just as he finished his thought, Lin Tian sprang into action. With a swift motion, he drew his knife and severed one of the chief's arms. The unexpected assault caught the chief off guard, leaving him no chance to evade. His severed hand thudded to the ground, a grim testament to Lin Tian's resolve. To the astonishment of the surrounding goblins, their chief lay on the ground, howling in agony, and barking orders for his soldiers to swiftly eliminate Lin Tian. Fueled by a thirst for revenge, the goblins surged forward, eager to strike him down. With unwavering confidence, Lin Tian raised his hand, summoning the hidden goblins to reveal themselves. In an instant, goblins from the Bloodfang tribe fell, pierced by sharp iron spears. The sudden appearance of the goblins took them completely by surprise, leaving them questioning the origin of these unexpected attackers. Lin Tian's goblins had honed their stealth abilities, moving silently through the shadows, a skill they had developed after feasting on male elves. Now they served as the tribe's assassins. When Lin Tian's goblins approached him with a plan to annihilate the tribe, he readily agreed. He commanded all the hidden goblins to emerge and eliminate their foes. In an instant, a horde of goblin warriors sprang forth, armed with sharp weapons and the element of surprise. They swiftly decimated the Bloodfang tribe's ranks. The chief of the Bloodfang tribe soon realized he had been outmaneuvered. Lin Tian had feigned negotiation to catch them off guard. While all eyes were on him, the chief contemplated a desperate escape. With his strength, escaping would be a breeze, and no one could hope to stop him. But before he fled, he had one thing left to do: eliminate Lin Tian, the ugly and cunning goblin. The chief charged at Lin Tian, unleashing a punch fueled by all his might. Yet Lin Tian merely stood there, a mocking smile plastered across his face. This was the moment Lin Tian had been waiting for. Time to summon Ifreya. The instant her name was spoken, Ifreya unleashed her powers. A cage of shimmering light swiftly formed around the chief, ensnaring him within its radiant confines. He thrashed and slammed against the barrier, but escape was futile. It dawned on him that this was a light magic spell, something a goblin should never wield. Just as he voiced his disbelief, surprise and confusion washed over his face as he spotted a human, groveling at Lin Tian's feet like a loyal pet. Lin Tian gently petted Ifreya's head, praising her as a good dog. He noted how much stronger she had become since joining the dark side, promising her a reward upon their return. Ifreya whimpered happily, like a small dog basking in her master's approval, all while subtly flaunting her alluring curves. Moments later, the chief of the Bloodfang tribe lay bound on the ground, a testament to their power. He still refused to surrender, cursing Lin Tian with every breath. But Lin Tian remained unfazed, satisfied with the outcome. He advised the chief to be silent and accept his fate. A new day had dawned for the Goblin tribe. In the dungeon, the chieftain of the Bloodtooth tribe lay motionless, his massive form bound to a large boulder, blood staining the ground around him. Nearby, Lin Tian stood with a small knife in hand, a chilling reminder of the harrowing scene he had just orchestrated. He let out a sigh of relief. After a grueling struggle, he had successfully subdued the goblin, neutralizing the threat at last. In the adjacent dungeon, Loder trembled as he witnessed the full extent of Lin Tian's torment. He couldn't fathom how this monster had managed to capture a goblin of such heroic rank. The Elf Queen and Gobu arrived at the scene, tension thick in the air. Lin Tian directed Gobu to oversee the forced breeding of the elf women with the goblins, specifically selecting those capable of reproduction. Gobu, eager to prove his worth, readily accepted the task. With a swift motion, Lin Tian hurled Urfra toward Gobu, commanding her to comply and take part in the forced pregnancy. The prospect filled Urfra with dread. With that issue settled, Lin Tian turned his attention to his next schemes. He requested the Elf Queen's assistance in changing his clothes, claiming he needed to meet a friend. This revelation caught her off guard, prompting her to inquire about the identity of this mysterious friend. Lin Tian smiled enigmatically, hinting that his companion was someone of great importance. As Lin Tian observed Loda's arrogance and Urfra's distinctive position, he came to a stark realization. Human reinforcements would soon be on their way. With his current strength, he could only contend with ordinary knights, but not a sword saint. Raising children from a heroic-ranked goblin would require significant time and effort. Lin Tian needed someone to buy him that precious time, and the friend he had in mind was none other than the Dragon Mother. On the expansive coastline, Lin Tian stood before the lifeless bodies of two colossal beasts, bound together for a purpose. Dragon Island lay over 100 kilometers away, beyond the horizon. To ensure swift travel, Lin Tian had decided to use the scouting dragons as his means of transportation. To facilitate this, he had brought the massive corpses to the beach. The sharp scent of blood caught the dragon's attention. As anticipated, it swiftly appeared, racing toward Lin Tian. In a flash, Lin Tian concealed himself within the carcass of a beast, securing an unexpected ride to Dragon Island. With the dragon's incredible speed, he soared across the vast ocean and landed on the island. Upon arrival, the dragon quickly tossed food into a vast pit before hastily taking its leave. It was clear that the creature was frightened and eager to escape. Lin Tian, along with the two beast carcasses, landed on a massive pile of bones, which cushioned his fall. Crawling out from the remains, Lin Tian felt the sense of vindication. His instincts had been right. These dragons weren't hunting them after all. The next task was to locate the Dragon Mother. As Lin Tian stood there, he felt a presence looming behind him. A massive eye, radiating an ominous light in the dark cave, fixated on the offering he had brought. In comparison to the colossal Dragon Mother, Lin Tian felt like a mere ant. With a voice that echoed through the cavern, the Dragon Mother declared that she recognized him. It turned out he was the leader of the goblins that had attacked the town just days before. She demanded to know what he was doing in her territory, threatening to devour him if he didn't provide an honest answer. Other dragons emerged, their eyes locked onto Lin Tian with a chilling intensity. Remaining composed, Lin Tian addressed the Dragon Mother, urging her to calm down. He had come with a proposal for cooperation between their tribes. The suggestion took the Dragon Mother by surprise. Astonished to encounter an intelligent goblin, she expressed her willingness to explore this potential cooperation. As she spoke, she transformed back into her dragon-human form, revealing a captivating woman. Her stunning beauty was matched only by the powerful aura of a legendary creature. The Dragon Mother expressed her curiosity about the benefits of their cooperation. She made it clear that if Lin Tian could present satisfactory advantages, she might reconsider her intention to eat him. However, Lin Tian remained unfazed by her threat. He boldly reminded her of her own desire for revenge against the Sword Saint, who had caused her significant harm. The advantages of their alliance were clear in the recent battle within the human city. The goblin attack had provided the Dragon Mother an unexpected escape from a precarious situation. She found herself both shocked and amused by the notion of such a lowly creature as a goblin daring to scheme against the Sword Saint. Yet, this boldness only served to intrigue her further. The Dragon Mother was eager to understand the nature of their cooperation. Her curiosity was piqued, especially regarding Lin Tian's strategy for dealing with the Sword Saint, whom she referred to as the Bench. Lin Tian maintained his composure as he outlined their plan. He requested that the Dragon Mother consistently send her dragons to harass the City of Light. The Dragon Mother stepped forward, her colossal hand resting on Lin Tian's shoulder. She was curious about how he planned to take on such a formidable foe. How could a small, seemingly weak group of goblins dare to challenge the mad bitch? She demanded to know the specifics of his plan. Lin Tian grinned mischievously, suggesting that a direct assault on someone as powerful as the Sword Saint would be far from sufficient. They would strike at her heart, shatter everything she cherished, and bring about her slow demise. The Dragon Mother let out a chilling laugh, fully grasping Lin Tian's plan. Using goblins as instruments of death, all while keeping the dragons at bay, was precisely what she desired. A sense of satisfaction washed over Lin Tian. Their conversation had indeed yielded fruitful results. The alliance was formed, and the Dragon Mother gave her consent. Yet she was taken aback by the remarkable intelligence of the goblin among them. The more she observed Lin Tian, the more she found herself drawn to him. As thoughts swirled in her mind, she considered bestowing a reward upon him. After successfully persuading the Dragon Mother to join forces, she proposed that Lin Tian should receive a significant honor for his efforts. Lin Tian grasped the significance of that reward, and the mere thought of the dragons in their heat cycle sent a chill down his spine. He simply remarked that his small stature made him ill-suited for such an honor. His response, however, left the Dragon Mother visibly disappointed. In light of this, she resolved to offer him an alternative reward. Now, let us return to the scene with Lin Tian's tribe. The tents had given way to sturdy wooden houses, and the tribe was now encircled by a protective wall. In the heart of the settlement, a wooden stake stood tall, with Loder bound to it. Fear and anxiety etched across his face. He anxiously wondered why the knights had yet to arrive to rescue him. With each passing moment, the chilling thought crept in. If he remained there, he would surely be tortured to death by the goblins. Determined to escape, Loder weighs his options but quickly finds himself surrounded by goblins. Just as despair begins to settle in, his eyes widen with a mix of fear and excitement. Something terrifying is descending from the sky. As it draws closer, he realizes with horror that it's a dragon. Loder shrieks in terror, inadvertently alerting the goblins to the creature's approach. Desperate, he pleads for his release, fearing he'll be turned to ash by the dragon's flames. The sight of the dragon instills a deep sense of apprehension among the goblins. Gripping their weapons tightly, they brace themselves for a fight, pondering what could have summoned such a fearsome creature. As the dragon draws nearer, they spot a figure perched upon its back. To their surprise, the dragon doesn't unleash its fury. Instead, it lands gracefully in the heart of the tribe. Gasps ripple through the crowd as they quickly recognize Lin Tian, confidently riding atop the majestic beast. As Lin Tian steps down, a wave of excitement sweeps through the goblins. He instructs the dragon to stay within the tribe's territory and avoid wandering into the surrounding lands. The dragon responds with a series of deep, resonant growls, signaling its agreement. Once Lin Tian moves away from the dragon, the goblins, emboldened by his presence, rush forward, jumping with joy and declaring Lin Tian to be incredibly cool. The entire event sends chills down Loder's spine. His first thought is whether Lin Tian is truly a goblin. He fervently hopes for the knight's swift arrival. Meanwhile, in the City of Light, everything has been restored to its former glory. The destruction wrought by the dragon attacks has disappeared. Today, a reinforcement army from the capital has finally arrived. These knights are immensely powerful, each one sworn to the Sword Saint. After a long wait, the Sword Saint, eager for action, urges the knights to devise a plan to rescue Loder and Urfra without delay. Meanwhile, Lin Tian is deep in conversation with his system, focusing on the current storyline, nurturing the third generation of goblins. His stealth attacks on the City of Light and the Bloodfang tribe have yielded impressive results. To prepare for the impending clash with the Sword Saint and the human royal family, you've dedicated a month to training Gobu and Kasana in the depths of the Demon Forest. After this rigorous training, you will reach level 50, Gobu will achieve level 60, and Kasana will reach level 45. Option 1. If your strength proves inadequate, continue to level up by hunting monsters in the forest. You will gain 0 points. Option 2. Capture prisoners and breed more goblins for a gain of 10 points. Option 3. Accelerate the upgrade process and advance to the next stage after 1 month, earning 20 points. As Lin Tian ponders these choices, the arrival of the third option suggests a welcome reprieve from human attacks in the near future. Driven by curiosity, Lin Tian chooses the third option. As soon as he makes his selection, a ring of light envelops his body. The system promptly announces a time acceleration. While he cannot accumulate enough experience in the Demon Forest, Lin Tian is astonished to discover that the new simulation can be completed in just 1 month. With a reward of 20 points and a boost of 20 health, Lin Tian awakens, feeling a sense of discomfort as his body grapples with the effects of accelerated time. At level 50, he possesses 850 HP, 270 strength, and 300 defense, culminating in a total power of 1,000. Yet a wave of disappointment washes over him. His overall power has barely budged. His thoughts are abruptly interrupted by a knock at the door. Gobu enters, her expression etched with concern. She informs him that something has happened to the newborn goblins. Without hesitation, Lin Tian rushes toward the scene. From a distance, he sees numerous newborn goblins lying on the ground, enveloped in an aura of sorrow. The sight fills Lin Tian with a deep sense of worry and heartache. He was consumed by a desperate need to understand what had transpired. The Elf Queen, equally perplexed, observed that the newly born third generation of goblins appeared unusually weak. This somber atmosphere was abruptly pierced by Lothar's laughter. He derisively mocked Lin Tian, calling him a foolish goblin for attempting to breed stronger offspring. Then Tian's suspicion deepened. Lothar seemed all too aware of what had transpired. He fixed a furious glare on Lothar, his eyes blazing with anger, demanding an explanation. But Lothar only reveled in Lin Tian's fury, laughing even louder. "You see," he explained, "the higher a goblin's level, the harder it is to survive. Did you really think you could conquer the world simply through reproduction? Lin Tian fixed Lothar with a cold stare, acknowledging his information with a curt nod. However, this time, Lothar's words had come too late. Turning to Goblin, who stood nearby, Lin Tian presented him with Lothar as a gift. From that moment on, Goblin had free reign over Lothar's fate, but one rule remained. He couldn't let him die. Goblin's eyes sparkled with delight at this unexpected arrangement. Lothar's earlier joy evaporated, replaced by sheer terror. He screamed at Lin Tian, branding him a cruel monster and vowing to never forgive him, even in death. Ignoring Lothar's furious outburst, Lin Tian began to contemplate his next move. It was already too late to summon new hero-level goblins, but he desperately needed a substantial force. Without their help, defeating the Sword Saint would be nearly impossible. He pondered if there was a way to enhance his own abilities. Just then, a face with terrifying eyes emerged behind him. It was the dragon he had brought back. The creature's sudden appearance startled Lin Tian, leaving him to wonder what had happened to the beast. He knew that a dragon in its heat cycle was incredibly dangerous, and he couldn't help but wonder what it was planning. In the blink of an eye, the massive dragon transformed into a petite girl, her body adorned with alluring curves. As he gazed at this stunning figure before him, Lin Tian realized the mysterious gift the Dragon Mother had promised him was now a reality. Before Lin Tian could react, the girl leaped onto him, her face alight with pure excitement. She began to tease him mercilessly. This unexpected ordeal unlocked a significant achievement for Lin Tian, boosting his strength to 522, his defense to 1200, and his HP to 1500. After such an experience, one that others could only imagine, Lin Tian finally stood up. His spine felt as though it might snap. He had claimed that he only needed to drink a little dragon blood to evolve, but this dragon was putting him through torment. He thought she was merely venting her frustration on him, yet the girl didn't seem satisfied. With a fierce determination, she charged at him once again. Lin Tian had returned to his tribe with a dragon, determined to use its blood to help his people evolve. During her mating season, the dragon girl offered Lin Tian numerous advantages, yet he remained unsatisfied. Despite his concerns about his own well-being, particularly his aching back, she persistently threw herself at him, leaving him both flattered and worried. To buy some time, Lin Tian gestured toward the goblins in the distance and instructed the dragon girl to fulfill her mission to help them evolve by sharing some of her dragon blood. With a sense of urgency, she dashed toward the goblins at an astonishing speed, eager to complete the task and return to Lin Tian. Her fierce expression and lightning speed sent waves of terror through the goblins. Seizing this moment, Lin Tian searched for an escape route. As night descended, the goblin tribe erupted into a massive celebration. They danced around the bonfire, reveling in their newfound strength, thanks to the dragon blood that had transformed them into large, muscular goblins. From a distance, Lin Tian observed, a sense of satisfaction swelling within him at the power he and the tribe had acquired. Thanks to the dragon blood, he and his followers had evolved to hero level. However, their overall strength still fell short. To solidify his leadership, Lin Tian realized they needed better weapons. He commanded the system to open the shopping center, and a dazzling array of items materialized before him. With satisfaction, he noted that he had accumulated 180 points, enough to purchase several high-end items. As Lin Tian scrolled through the options, one weapon caught his eye, an elemental crossbow. Its compact size made it perfect for long-range and stealth attacks, and it had the remarkable ability to absorb and unleash arrows infused with water, fire, wind, lightning, and poison attributes. Just beside it, he noticed a peculiar blade designed to withstand 3 unarmed strikes. Despite the hefty cost of 80 points, Lin Tian resolved to purchase the weapon, convinced it could be a lifesaver in perilous situations. Cradling the elemental crossbow in his hands, he felt a surge of curiosity to put it to the test. Meanwhile, Loda remained bound to a wooden stake, an uneasy awareness creeping over him as he sensed that something was about to unfold. His worst fears materialized when Lin Tian selected him as the first target for his new weapon. As Lin Tian drew closer, Loda anxiously inquired about his intentions. Little did he know, he was about to be the first to witness Lin Tian's hero-level power. Meanwhile, not far away in the Demon Forest, a party of 4 heroes pressed deeper into Goblin territory. Among them, the purple-haired archer girl couldn't help but voice her frustration, grumbling about the dullness of their surroundings. She dismissed lowly creatures like goblins as unworthy of her time. If I had known we'd have to trek this far, I would have stayed in the city to assist the Sword Saint against the dragons, she grumbled. A knight in the group shot her a look, urging her not to complain. Remember, the Sword Saint is occupied defending the city from the Dragon Mother. It's up to us to handle the goblins. It was an opportunity to gain merit with minimal effort. However, the atmosphere shifted dramatically when the group's mage sensed an approaching threat. In an instant, a massive spider, its long legs and sharp fangs glistening menacingly, emerged before them. The mage's face paled. Her deep-seated fear of spiders was evident. Before the group could fully react, the purple-haired archer sprang into action, swiftly releasing an arrow that pierced the creature's heart, ending the threat in a heartbeat. With a disdainful tone, she scoffed, declaring it was merely a level 3 monster, nothing to worry about. Yet, their captain remained vigilant, urging the group to stay alert. Suddenly, a strange figure emerged in the distance. Moments later, a colossal goblin with 4 arms loomed before them. This was no ordinary creature. It was a goblin of hero level. Despite its imposing presence, the group felt no fear. They were confident in their abilities, convinced that this towering figure was the goblin leader they had been sent to confront. A sense of luck washed over them. They believed the mission would be a straightforward victory. The giant goblin let out a furious roar, its terrifying echo reverberating through the surrounding forest. In response, the hero party quickly fell into battle formation at their captain's command. The mage and archer were tasked with providing long-range support, while the captain and another knight readied themselves to charge at the monster. Just as they were about to spring into action, the heavily armored knight interjected. "Captain, there's no need to rush. You've already taken down plenty of goblins on the way here. Allow me to handle this one alone." The captain turned to the knight, a look of concern crossing his face. The armored knight boasted of having defeated countless giant goblins in the past. Yet, this was his first encounter with one of hero-level stature. After a moment's hesitation, he glanced at his confident teammate and decided to trust in their collective strength. He was certain the battle would be over swiftly. A grateful smile crossed his face as he focused all his energy into his spear, readying himself for the fight ahead. He concentrated energy at the tip of his weapon and unleashed his signature attack, the Storm Spear. With all his might, the spear shot forward at an incredible speed, and the knight was confident the goblin wouldn't be able to dodge it. However, as the spear hurtled toward its target, the scene that unfolded left the entire party in stunned silence. The goblin wasn't impaled. Instead, it effortlessly caught the spear as if it were a mere toy. The knight stood frozen, trembling in disbelief, his voice stuttering with fear. No way. How could it have caught that attack? Terror washed over him as the giant goblin casually tossed the spear back at them. The captain shouted, commanding the mage to conjure a protective magic shield without delay. A shimmering barrier enveloped the 4 of them, but as the spear struck, it began to fracture slowly. The captain's horror intensified as he grasped the true power of a hero-level goblin, far beyond what he had anticipated. Meanwhile, the once cocky, purple-haired archer stood silent, her arrogance shattered along with the shield. She acknowledged the creature's strength, but it couldn't withstand her ranged attacks. Fortunately, there was only one goblin in sight. However, before she could finish her thought, a wave of excruciating pain surged through her. A sharp hand had impaled her from behind. A smaller, yet agile and deadly goblin had employed an elf stealth technique to launch a surprise attack. Chaos erupted as the captain realized they were being ambushed by a horde of goblins. Towering figures emerged from the shadows, swiftly encircling the last 3 members of the hero party. Their eyes glinted with a predatory hunger, for humans were their favored prey. A fierce battle ensued, but despite their valiant efforts, the hero party was ultimately overwhelmed and defeated. The goblins didn't kill them. Instead, they captured them for their sinister purposes. One of the towering goblins seized the mage, proclaiming her as his prize. But before he could revel in his victory, another goblin interjected. "That doesn't belong to you. These are the spoils of war from the tribe. The chief has commanded that all humans be taken as prisoners. You're not permitted to keep any spoils for yourself." Especially after allowing one to escape. Goblin, the first goblin, was furious at being challenged. He believed his contributions were significant, and that he had amassed enough strength to claim the prize for himself. Another goblin shared his sentiment, agreeing that the 4-armed goblin was indeed correct. They were powerful now, and it was they who held the final say in the tribe. The other goblins quickly joined in, chanting praises for Gobutian's strength and fueling his ambition. The idea of overthrowing Lin Tian as the tribe's leader began to take root in his mind. When the goblins returned to the tribe with a host of prisoners, joy erupted among their ranks, cheers and praises echoing through the air. Yet, the elf queen sensed an undercurrent of trouble. With concern etched on her face, she turned to Lin Tian and asked anxiously if he could still keep the goblins in check. The 4-armed goblin wasted no time showcasing his strength. He seized the hero captain, boasting, "This one is my prize. I will eat him." Unfazed, Lin Tian stepped forward with a steady resolve. "Gobutian, put him down," he commanded, emphasizing the importance of the captive's valuable intelligence that he needed. Goblin, put him down, Lin Tian commanded firmly. He explained that the captive held valuable intelligence he needed. The four-armed goblin sneered in response. If you want him, then trade your woman for him. This bold statement sent a wave of tension through the elf queen and the others, but Lin Tian remained composed. He met the goblin's gaze and asked, "Do you even realize what you're saying? Remember, I am still the leader of this tribe." It appeared that Goblin wasn't entirely foolish after all. He cast a glance at the goblin standing behind him, convinced that this goblin was stronger than Lin Tian, and that he would now heed the goblin's commands. In contrast, Lin Tian, though dwarfed by the two towering goblins, maintained his composure. He turned to the goblin and inquired if Goblin's claim held any truth. Was Goblin now the leader? Lin Tian presented Goblin with a chance. If he could capture Goblin, Lin Tian would overlook the entire incident. Upon hearing this, Goblin erupted in laughter, dismissing Lin Tian as nothing more than a weak goblin. He boasted that only the strongest could lead the tribe, and declared that he would kill Lin Tian today, seizing control for himself. Before Goblin could finish his sentence, a massive hand seized him. His face contorted in fear as he stammered, asking the goblin what he intended to do. But there was no reply. Without a moment's hesitation, the goblin crushed the traitor's head, leaving the other goblins in stunned silence. Meanwhile, Lin Tian's expression remained eerily calm. As if all that had transpired was hardly worth fretting over, the death of a disloyal goblin was no true loss. Goblin understood Goblin's intentions, yet he harbored his own thoughts. Bowing his head respectfully before Lin Tian, he spoke with a tone steeped in reverence. "Leader, after evolving, I've come to realize many things. I'm not like those arrogant fools. I respect you, but I also believe in absolute strength. That's why I want to challenge you for leadership." In that moment, Lin Tian glanced at Goblin's full stats: level 50, 1700 HP, 340 strength, 280 defense, and an overall power of 1200. Despite the impressive numbers, Lin Tian felt no fear. His body erupted in flames, sending a wave of unease through the other goblins. Lin Tian acknowledged Goblin's strength with admiration, then posed a question. "Are you sure you want to challenge me?" The rebellious goblins erupted in cheers, clamoring for Goblin to defeat Lin Tian and establish himself as the true leader of the tribe. Their shouts were filled with taunts and provocations, fueling the tension in the air. Claiming that if he won, Goblin would claim all the women as his spoils. The taunts echoed around them. Amidst the jeers, Lin Tian offered only a slight smile, his eyes calm and unwavering. "It seems you have quite a few goblins eager to follow you," he remarked, stepping closer to Goblin, still wearing that mocking grin. "But before we begin, let me ask you one more time. Are you truly ready to face me?" Lin Tian stood before the entire goblin tribe, his voice ringing with authority. "Make your choice. Step forward if you stand with me. If not, I won't hesitate to destroy every last one of you." The human captain, still sprawled on the ground, was taken aback by Lin Tian's display of magic. Yet, despite the spectacle, he couldn't shake the feeling that Lin Tian was just an ordinary goblin. He felt a flicker of luck that the goblins were embroiled in their own internal conflict. This was his chance to escape. He was confident that Lin Tian would be swiftly defeated. The power gap between their forces was simply too vast. Even if Lin Tian could wield magic, it would be of no use. In a flash, the goblin tribes divided into two factions. With a sly smirk, Lin Tian taunted, "It seems more of them trust me than you. Only a handful are willing to follow you." "Are you sure you want to continue?" Goblin challenged, raising his massive sword. He proclaimed himself different from the other goblins, driven by a singular ambition, the pursuit of power. As the battle commenced, Goblin unleashed a flurry of fierce attacks aimed at Lin Tian, yet Lin Tian evaded each strike with ease. The human captain, observing the clash, was left utterly astonished by the spectacle unfolding before him. He hadn't anticipated Goblin's swift and powerful attack, especially in the thick of the forest. Yet Lin Tian dodged effortlessly, causing the captain to question his initial assumptions about Lin Tian's true strength. After skillfully evading and maintaining his distance, Lin Tian acknowledged Goblin as a formidable opponent. Then, with a quick motion, he drew his crossbow and aimed it directly at Goblin. The arrows soared through the air, infused with the fierce power of fire. Goblin was taken aback, particularly by the arrow's incredible speed. With no time to dodge, he braced himself and blocked the attack with his weapon. When the arrow collided with Goblin's sword, a deafening explosion erupted around them. Yet, to everyone's astonishment, Goblin remained on his feet. Lin Tian couldn't help but be surprised that Goblin had withstood his powerful strike. In an instant, Goblin materialized before Lin Tian, swinging his sword with all his might. Yet, before the devastating strike could land, Lin Tian merely smiled. A massive explosion erupted in the heart of the village, sending shockwaves of terror through both the human captain and the loader, who were awestruck by the goblin's overwhelming power. Meanwhile, the other goblins watched anxiously, their eyes fixed on the center of the chaos. As the smoke and dust settled, the goblins stood in stunned silence. Lin Tian had effortlessly deflected their attack with a single hand, while his other hand gripped a crossbow, aimed squarely at the nearest goblin. "You're strong," he said coolly, "but unfortunately, you're no match for me." With that, the battle came to an abrupt end. Goblin, drained of all strength, knelt before Lin Tian, accepting his defeat and awaiting the inevitable. Lin Tian's expression remained composed as he silently pondered where Goblin had acquired such resilience, recognizing the remarkable willpower that set him apart from others of his kind. Meanwhile, in the distance, the rebellious goblins quaked with fear, collapsing to their knees and pleading with Lin Tian for mercy. They had sworn never to rebel again. As Lin Tian surveyed them, his expression revealed no trace of sympathy. To him, traitors posed a grave threat, one that had to be eradicated to secure the tribe's future. He commanded Ephraia to heal Goblin, offering him a chance at life. If he pledged his loyalty, Goblin was left utterly astonished by this unexpected turn of events. However, Lin Tian showed no mercy toward the other goblins. He ordered his loyal followers to eliminate the traitors. Meanwhile, Goblin had fully recovered and expressed his gratitude to Lin Tian for sparing his life. Vowing to remain loyal to Lin Tian for all time, Goblin offered to personally carry out the execution of the rebellious goblins. The power of the goblin was overwhelming. The rebellious goblins stood no chance against the onslaught and were quickly annihilated. Once the slaughter concluded, Lin Tian commanded the surviving goblins to consume the traitors, a grim ritual intended to bolster their strength. The tribe chanted Lin Tian's name, their loyalty to their leader unwavering. Meanwhile, the captain lay on the ground, paralyzed by fear, a single question echoing in his mind. "Loader, what kind of monster have you provoked? This is no ordinary goblin. This is a creature capable of making the entire empire tremble." Lin Tian approached Loader, a cold smile playing on his lips. "I apologize for forcing you to witness such an imperfect display," he said, shrugging nonchalantly. "But tell me, Loader, did you truly believe this trash could save you?" How naive. Loader clenched his fists, his eyes ablaze with hatred as he shouted, "It's all the Sword Saint's fault. She hides in the city like a coward, missing the chance to eliminate this tribe before they grew this strong." The captain turned his head to glare at Lin Tian, his gaze seething with anger. "I underestimated you, but don't let it go to your head. Once the Sword Saint defeats the Dragon Mother, she will lead the Royal Knights to obliterate this entire place." Lin Tian chuckled softly, settling comfortably in front of the captain. "Do you really believe the Dragon Clan caused all this chaos on their own? How intriguing, but I must admit, I find it rather reassuring. It appears that matters with the Dragon Mother are unfolding quite smoothly." The captain's eyes widened as the painful realization struck him. Everything unfolding in the city was part of Lin Tian's sinister plan. He fixed his gaze on Lin Tian's calm demeanor, fully aware that a knight could be killed, but never humiliated. Rather than face a fate like Loader's, the captain yearned for a swift death, hoping that Lin Tian would grant him that mercy. Lin Tian, in turn, respected the man's bravery, recognizing him as someone truly worthy of honor. But unfortunately, he was no longer human. Against his enemies, there could be no mercy. Lin Tian granted the captain's final request, viewing it as a small act of compassion. Meanwhile, in the City of Light, the Sword Saint was abruptly awakened by the frantic calls of her subordinate. Sitting up, irritation etched on her face, she asked, "What has you in such a panic?" The dragon attack had just been repelled. "Have the knights returned?" the Sword Saint inquired. The soldier stammered, "Yes, Sword Saint, the knights have returned." But sensing something amiss in his tone, the Sword Saint pressed for clarity. Trembling, the soldier finally revealed the grim truth. All of the Silverblade Knights had been wiped out. Only one knight had survived to return. The news left the Sword Saint utterly stunned. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. How could a mere band of goblins wreak such havoc? After hastily changing her clothes, she rushed to the temple, eager to learn the fate of the lone surviving knight. The nuns informed her that he was critically injured, his wounds so severe that even healing potions had proven ineffective. The Sword Saint's gaze turned icy as she fixed her eyes on the dying knight lying in the bed. The deaths of the Silverblades, the kingdom's bravest warriors, ignited a fierce rage within her. She demanded answers, her voice steady but laced with fury, wanting to know how he had come to be so gravely injured and what had become of the others. The knight lay on the bed, his voice weak and trembling from his wounds. He reported that they had encountered a group of goblins with hero-level abilities. Desperation tinged his words as he pleaded with the Sword Saint to rescue the others. His voice grew fainter, but she could still sense the urgency in his tone. They were too strong. We couldn't fight back. Please, save the others. His voice grew weaker, each word a fading echo of his dwindling life force. Summoning the last of his strength, he urged those around him to exercise extreme caution. These goblins were unlike any they had ever faced before. As he took his final breath, the knight passed away, leaving behind a profound sorrow among those who remained. Despite the devastation, they remained skeptical that a mere group of hero-level goblins could be responsible. One furious knight, fists clenched in anger, swore vengeance for his fallen comrades. To him, hero-level goblins were nothing more than weak, insignificant pests. He was determined to hunt them down and eradicate them all. But just as he was about to storm out of the room, the Sword Saint summoned him back. She urged him to stop and take a breath, with dragons increasingly assaulting the city. Dispatching another force to eliminate the goblins would only compromise their defenses. The goblins could seize the opportunity and mount a surprise attack once more. The Sword Saint understood that she couldn't face all these looming threats alone. Her gaze swept across the room, sharp as a blade. With a fierce tone, she reminded the knight of her authority. Recall the knight squads immediately and deploy them to protect the city. I will personally deal with those goblins and the Dragon Mother when the time is right. The knight, known as Lady Saint, hesitated, her disagreement evident in her stance. He insisted they needed to rescue the others immediately, convinced they were still alive. A female mage placed her hand on his shoulder, urging him to calm down. Given the circumstances, it seemed unlikely that the others had survived. Just then, a man entered the room, asserting that sending reinforcements was unnecessary. This man was Kazimov, the leader of the Death Knight team. He believed that arrogance was a precursor to defeat, and the Silver Blade's downfall was no exception. It was a consequence of their own pride. With unwavering confidence, he proclaimed that he would single-handedly manage both the rescue and the extermination of the goblin horde. The Sword Saint regarded Kazimov with skepticism, puzzled by his boldness. After witnessing an entire knight team fall, she couldn't fathom why he felt so assured about facing the threat alone. Kazimov chuckled as he slowly removed his hat and face veil, revealing a scar that ran down half of his face to his neck, a testament to his strength and brutality. He exuded confidence, having once faced 4 Titan warriors alone and emerged victorious. To him, dealing with a group of hero-level goblins would be nothing more than a walk in the park. He reassured everyone not to worry and promised to bring them good news soon. The scene shifted to the goblin village nestled in the heart of the Devil's Forest, now thriving under the leadership of Lin Tian. In a remarkably short time, the entire village had transformed into a veritable paradise for goblins. As time passed, Lin Tian was ready to initiate another simulation, eager to see what new possibilities awaited them. He activated the simulation system, setting his sights on a bold goal, confronting humanity. His vision was to lead the giant goblins, forge an alliance with the Dragon Mother, and establish a heroic tribe. He also intended to eliminate any rebellious subordinates, consolidate the king's power, and strengthen the loyalty of the goblins. However, this idyllic period was destined to be short-lived. Kazimov, infamously known as the Death God, executed a surprise assault on the tribe at midnight, following the orders of the Sword Saint. His target, Lin Tian. Though Kazimov was ultimately defeated, the tribe endured devastating losses. For Lin Tian, this simulation proved invaluable, yet he couldn't shake the absurdity of someone daring to launch a sneak attack on his people. He pondered whether this man, Kazimov, could truly inflict such devastating damage on his tribe all on his own. Lin Tian now faced 3 options in this simulation. 1. Relocate the tribe to evade the hunt. 2. Brace for Kazimov's impending attack and wait for him to strike. 3. Take the initiative and launch a preemptive strike to eliminate Kazimov. Lin Tian rejected the notion of waiting for Kazimov's attack, unwilling to let his tribe endure unnecessary losses. Determined to minimize casualties, he resolved to take the offensive against Kazimov. Upon choosing this course of action, the system flashed a message. This was a life-or-death battle for Lin Tian, wishing him good luck. Alongside this, he received 20 points from the system, plus an additional 20 points for his health. The simulation had concluded, and there were 3 days until the next one. Lin Tian felt a sense of unease. The system had failed to deliver a clear verdict on the winner. He recognized Kazimov's formidable presence and knew he needed to dig deeper before making any moves. Thus, Lin Tian set his sights on gathering information about Kazimov, with Loader as his primary source. Upon hearing the name Kazimov, Loder erupted into maniacal laughter, his excitement palpable. The mere mention of Kazimov filled him with hope, as he saw this as his chance for salvation. In his exuberance, Loder warned Lin Tian that his demise was near, emphasizing that Kazimov was a fearsome warrior, known for slaying countless titans with his bare hands. Watching Loder's relentless grin, Lin Tian couldn't help but feel a surge of confidence in Kazimov's strength. He sought to grasp what Loder meant by Titan warriors. With enthusiasm, Loder elaborated that these Titan warriors were monstrous creations engineered by the opposing empire. Towering behemoths, they were genetically modified with Titan genes, capable of overpowering level 5 monsters with their bare hands. At that moment, Loder's excitement surged, and he shouted, "It's all going to end!" "You're all going to die," Lin Tian declared, a satisfied smirk crossing his face. It was clear to him that this Kazimov possessed some noteworthy talent. Lower, still chuckling, taunted Lin Tian, suggesting he should prepare for a gruesome fate at Kazimov's hands. As Lin Tian rubbed his chin in contemplation, a sense of caution washed over him. He understood that he needed to tread carefully. It was wise to send out scouts to assess Kazimov's strength beforehand. Meanwhile, Kazimov ventured into the Devil's Forest alone. Strangely, he encountered no monsters along the way, a rarity in this treacherous land. Soon, he reached the site of the fierce battle between the hero-level Goblin group and the Knights. As he surveyed the bloodstains and discarded equipment littering the ground, he felt no pity, only a cold resolve. He scoffed at them, dismissing them as worthless trash. Taking a deep breath, Kazimov inhaled the scent of blood in the air, feeling an unsettling sense of comfort wash over him. He pondered whether he could indulge in a satisfying massacre in this very place. As he moved a short distance, a scream for help pierced the silence. He paused, straining to locate the source of the desperate cry. The demonic forest lay cloaked in a thick fog, its eerie stillness interrupted only by the steady rhythm of Kazimov's horse hooves and the rustle of dry leaves beneath them. His keen eyes swept over the decaying tree trunks, urgency coursing through him as he recalled the faint cry for help he had heard. Ever cautious, Kazimov brought his horse to a halt at a safe distance, ready to assess the situation. Before him, beneath a fallen, decaying tree, lay a young woman with golden hair. Her pale face was streaked with tears and her body trembled uncontrollably, her soft whimpers breaking the eerie silence of the forest. Kazimov, filled with curiosity, asked, "Who are you?" The woman looked up, her eyes clouded with sorrow. In that instant, Kazimov recognized her. Freya. A wave of emotion washed over him, a potent blend of surprise and exhilaration. Freya, the woman he thought was dead, stood before him. "Please help me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The shock of her unexpected appearance momentarily lowered Kazimov's guard, prompting him to step closer. As she moved toward him, her desperation was palpable. "I managed to escape the Goblin tribe, but Loder is dead." Though her words stirred something deep within him, Kazimov kept his expression cold and unreadable. He brushed aside her pain, concentrating on the crucial information. "Where is the Goblin tribe?" Freya trembled, her eyes glazing over as she pointed ahead. "Over there, but it's a terrifying place." With the answer he needed, Kazimov wasted no time urging his horse forward. Freya called out in the panic, pleading to accompany him, but Kazimov merely shot back a cold reply. "Don't bother me. Just move along. I have an important mission," Kazimov declared, his tone leaving no room for argument. He understood the source of his own indifference. As a seasoned adventurer known as the Despair Knight, he had a unique ability. When fighting alone, his strength surged by 30%. Moreover, for every enemy he defeated, his attributes received an additional 20% boost. The best part? This enhancement had no time limit. As his battles raged on, Kazimov grew stronger in his isolation. The death of Loder, though tragic, played into his plans, granting him the opportunity to amass power without interruption. Yet, lost in his calculations, his horse suddenly stumbled into a hidden trap. The animal collapsed, throwing Kazimov to the ground. However, with his honed reflexes, he managed to land safely, poised and ready for combat. Just then, Freya appeared behind him, her expression a stark contrast to the weakness she had shown earlier. Kazimov's eyes narrowed in surprise. Before he could voice his question, she responded not with words, but with a swift attack. A surge of brilliant light erupted from Freya's hand, catching Kazimov off guard and leaving him unable to dodge. The blow wasn't lethal, but it was enough to make him fully grasp the betrayal. Kazimov stared at her, confusion etched across his face. "Why are you doing this?"
My master ordered me to kill you.
Before he could fully grasp the situation, another beam of brilliant light erupted from Freya, forming a colossal pillar that engulfed him entirely. In an instant, everything around him vanished within that blinding radiance. A plume of purple smoke surged silently from the heart of the explosion, quickly spreading to envelop a wide area. From within that hazy mist, a massive arm belonging to Kazimov suddenly emerged, seizing Freya and pulling her close. In an instant, Kazimov's entire form materialized behind her, his eyes glowing red like a predator poised to strike. He had her completely under his control. His powerful hands gripped her tightly, leaving her immobile. Kasimov's face twisted into a cruel grin as his voice dripped with menace. "You thought I only enjoyed killing monsters? I find stripping the skin off traitors like you quite entertaining as well." Freya struggled against him, but his overwhelming strength left her utterly helpless. Kasimov's voice dripped with malice as he continued, "I'll use you to gain strength before I take down the Goblin tribe. You'll be nothing more than a pawn in my game." But just then, a chilling voice resonated from behind him. "Now I understand why you dared to come alone to destroy my tribe." The powerful tone sent a jolt through Kasimov, catching him off guard. His eyes narrowed, tension coursing through him as he became acutely aware of his surroundings. From the shadows, Lin Tian stepped forward, his small frame cloaked in a menacing aura. A soft chuckle escaped his lips as he brandished Kasimov's sword, a magnificent blade imbued with the essence of death. It boasted high-speed attacks, the ability to strike multiple foes, and an astonishing 90% critical strike rate. Truly, it was a weapon of immense value. "If you manage to sneak up on me and gain that passive ability, our tribe will suffer greatly." Kasimov's unease deepened with Lin Tian's sudden appearance. What unsettled him the most was how effortlessly Lin Tian had disarmed him, taking his sword without any resistance. How could such a lowly goblin accomplish this? Fear began to gnaw at Kasimov, seizing the moment while he was lost in thought. Freya broke free from Kasimov's grasp and dashed toward Lin Tian, bowing her head as she addressed him as her master. In that moment, Kasimov realized he had walked straight into a trap. Freya had been nothing more than bait to draw him in. Rage coursed through him, and he roared, "Freya, you wretched traitor! To survive, you willingly become a slave to these lowly goblins." Lin Tian chuckled softly, running his fingers through Freya's hair as if rewarding a loyal pet. "Becoming my slave is an honor," he said coolly. "She's a good dog, always obeying commands." He then turned his attention to Kasimov, expressing his disappointment. Lin Tian had once believed Kasimov to be an exceptionally powerful individual, but he soon realized that the man was merely a twisted killer, relying on underhanded assassinations to gain strength passively. The contempt in Lin Tian's voice only fueled Kasimov's fury. "I don't care who you are," he growled, "but for a goblin like you, I don't need a sword. My strength alone is enough to send you to hell." With that, Kasimov lunged forward, drawing a short sword from beneath his cloak and aiming it at Lin Tian with terrifying speed. As Kasimov closed in on his target, Lin Tian stood his ground, betraying no hint of fear or readiness to defend himself. Just as Kasimov was about to strike, he suddenly froze, his eyes widening in panic. Behind Lin Tian loomed two formidable hero-level goblins and a massive dragon, their gazes cold and unforgiving. A triumphant smirk spread across Lin Tian's face as he casually declared, "You will experience true despair. Kasimov, let's see which of us reaches hell first." Without a moment's pause, the colossal dragon unleashed its fiery breath, a torrent of flames that engulfed Kasimov entirely. The inferno consumed him, transforming the scene into a waking nightmare. His screams of excruciating pain reverberated through the demonic forest. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a tranquil goblin village, a stark contrast to the chaos that just unfolded. The tranquility is abruptly shattered by the excited shouts of the goblins as Lin Tian returns, triumphantly bearing a trophy, Kasimov. In the prison, Loder stares in disbelief as Lin Tian tosses Kasimov's charred corpse at his feet. It's a stark demonstration of Lin Tian's victory over the very being Loder had deemed unstoppable. With a steady gaze, Lin Tian addresses Loder, who is now engulfed in despair. "Is this the all-powerful Death Hunter you spoke of?" Loder sneers, a hint of triumph in his voice. Sadly, he overestimated himself and fell to my hand. Despair flickers in his eyes, but it quickly morphs into a maniacal laugh. "Another one dead. Another one dead. You bastard." He scoffs, convinced that the Sword Saint is a fool for trying to protect the people of the City of Light. She dispatches formidable warriors to hunt us down, only for them to fall prey to the goblins. It's a foolish strategy. Lure even suspects a secret alliance between the Sword Saint and Lin Tian. Later, Lin Tian dramatically tosses Kasimov's lifeless body into the heart of the village. Surrounded by the elite goblins he has meticulously chosen, Lin Tian is intent on cultivating goblins with exceptional potential. Kasimov's body is a valuable resource, ripe for exploitation. With an authoritative gaze, Lin Tian surveys the goblins before him and coldly declares, "Gobushan, this prey is yours to devour first. The leftovers will be for the others." Gobushan stands out as one of the most exceptional goblins chosen by Lin Tian. He lifts his head, a greedy glint in his eyes as he gazes at Kasimov's remains. With a raspy voice, he expresses his gratitude to Lin Tian. The other goblins watch with longing, eagerly anticipating their turn. Lin Tian understands that evolving into a rare goblin type isn't merely a matter of luck. It demands both talent and genetics. Gobushan is selected for the first experiment, as he is the most promising candidate among them. Despite his small stature, Gobushan's eyes radiate fierce determination and ambition, setting him apart from other goblins. Lin Tian perceives in Gobushan a mix of hypocrisy and brutal perversion, a perfect seed for his plans. He envisions the rise of a rare goblin species and smirks, his eyes gleaming with cruelty and calculation. The Sword Saint has meticulously analyzed the situation and discovered that she commands only 3 squads of formidable knights. With the Silver Sword Knights now vanquished, everything appears to be unfolding as planned. The news of Kasimov's defeat will surely strike a heavy blow to the Sword Saint. To regain the upper hand, she must take decisive action and retaliate swiftly. Lin Tian senses that the moment has come to activate the simulation system and delve into the events that lie ahead. With a decisive command, he initiates the simulation. It concludes swiftly, and although the details remain shrouded, a spark of delight ignites in his eyes. The Sword Saint is quite greedy, he muses, a triumphant smile forming on his lips. It seems I've outmaneuvered him in this game of wits. In his excitement, Lin Tian instructs Gobushan to gather all the goblins for a significant mission the following day. The announcement sends a wave of excitement through the goblin ranks. Lin Tian boldly declares that this time, he will take the initiative to eliminate all threats. Meanwhile, the City of Light is rocked by a major event, the shocking news of Kasimov's death. Knights have discovered Kasimov's remains outside the city, leaving everyone who knew him in shock. He had only ventured into the demon forest a day prior. How could those wretched beasts have killed Kasimov and returned his body here? The Sword Saint quickly realizes that their ongoing failures to eradicate the goblins, combined with the relentless harassment from the dragons, have intensified the crisis. This cannot be mere coincidence. It's clear that the vile dragon and the goblins are orchestrating a conspiracy. They're using the innocent civilians of the City of Light as hostages, trapping them to suffer a slow demise. We can no longer remain passive. The Sword Saint's face twisted with fury. Driven by vengeance, he commanded the assembly of all members of the Battle Cry Brigade. For safety, she dispatched a squad of knights back to the capital for reinforcements. As the Sword Saint readied her army to launch an assault on the demon forest, the knights hastened their return. One of them, clearly anxious, spoke up. "Captain, even if we ride and eat at the same time, it will still take at least 4 days to reach the capital. If everyone leaves, who will protect the city from the dragons? I'm fast. I can go to the capital alone for help. Everyone else should stay and defend the city," a girl in the back urged, her voice laced with concern. She feared this was all part of the Sword Saint's strategy and worried they might be ambushed by goblins on the way. If that would happen, she hoped someone would manage to escape, carry the news, and bring back reinforcements. She believed that with the Sword Saint's current strength, breaking out of the city to slay goblins or dragons would be a mere challenge. However, at this moment, neither goblins nor dragons were foes the Knights Brigade could confront. The Sword Saint wouldn't dare take that risk. If she charged out, one of those two forces could seize the opportunity to attack the City of Light. The captain concurred with this assessment, convinced that defending both the city and the Knights Brigade simultaneously was beyond the Sword Saint's capabilities. Thus, calling for reinforcements was a shrewd strategy. Their mission was to return to the capital as swiftly as possible. However, Lin Tian had foreseen their every move. The Knight Squad came to an abrupt halt upon discovering the destroyed suspension bridge ahead. As the girl in the squad gazed at the collapsed bridge, a wave of anxiety washed over her. She was convinced this was no mere accident. Remaining in their current location would put them in grave danger. Urgently, she proposed they take a quick detour. However, the captain firmly disagreed. He labeled the suggestion a mistake, asserting that the destroyed bridge was a clear indication the enemy wanted them to take that route, laying a trap for an ambush. However, had the bridge collapsed, they surely wouldn't be here now. This was the safest place. With that conviction, the captain ordered everyone to repair the bridge before nightfall. The entire team sprang into action, working diligently. Just before dusk, the bridge was finally restored. Brimming with confidence and devoid of any doubt, they began to cross the bridge. What they didn't anticipate was that everything had been meticulously orchestrated by Lin Tian. As the night squad stepped onto the bridge, a colossal shadow loomed overhead, snuffing out the sunlight. An unsettling feeling washed over them. When they looked up, their hearts nearly stopped. A massive dragon soared in the sky, and atop its back stood a goblin, a sight both terrifying and surreal. The night squad was resolute. Their suspicions had solidified into certainty regarding the dark alliance between the dragons and the goblins in the demon forest. Yet, the bitter truth weighed heavily on them. It was too late to act. From above, Lin Tian's laughter echoed, dripping with mockery. Each chuckle felt like a dagger, piercing through the knight's pride. You didn't choose to take a detour. Instead, you repaired the bridge. Were you afraid of my ambush? His voice dripped with contempt. The captain stood frozen, disbelief washing over him as he processed the sight before him. A goblin speaking fluently, as if he were human. Anger ignited in his eyes. You destroyed this bridge! He roared, consumed by a desire to eliminate Lin Tian on the spot. But before he could make a move, the dragon unleashed a torrent of fire, obliterating the bridge once more. The entire night squad scrambled to evade the searing flames. Miraculously, they crossed the bridge without plummeting into the abyss below. However, the true horror lay in the fact that their fighting spirit had been singed by the inferno. Fear tightened its grip on each of them. The captain's voice rose in despair, cursing the wretched goblins and vowing to capture Lin Tian, promising to make him suffer slowly, letting him die in agony. Meanwhile, the knight on the ground erupted in fury, swearing that he would seize Lin Tian and ensure he endured a slow, painful demise to atone for all his misdeeds. Perched atop the colossal dragon, Lin Tian wore a confident smirk as he surveyed the hero-level goblins encircling the knights. With a mocking tone, he taunted, "I'd like to see you try. But first, you'll need to defeat my entire army and the dragon mother that's on her way." The knights gasped in shock. As they realized they were completely surrounded by goblins, horror washed over their faces at Lin Tian's mention of the Dragon Mother. A girl in the group quickly turned to the captain, urgency lacing her voice. "If the Dragon Mother really shows up, we don't stand a chance." Yet, the captain viewed this dire situation as a rare opportunity. With both the goblins and the Dragon Mother gathered, there was a glimmer of hope that they could finally resolve the threat to the City of Light. He turned to the dwarf beside him and commanded, "Bane, we'll hold them off. Use your speed to break through their encirclement and return to the City of Light to inform the Sword Saint." Bane let out a frustrated roar before charging headlong into the goblins blocking his path. With a fierce determination, he seemed poised to fight and eliminate them all. His ferocious actions and thunderous battle cry momentarily startled the goblins, causing them to hesitate. They quickly regained their composure and took up defensive stances. But Bane was undeterred. He charged forward, swinging his axe to unleash chaos among their ranks. In an instant, he broke through their lines, sprinting away while shouting defiantly, "As the Sword Saint approaches, a chilling certainty settles in. All of you will be wiped out." Suddenly, the girl senses something amiss. She catches the gleeful, mocking glint in the goblin's eyes and exclaims, "Captain, something's wrong. These goblins aren't genuinely trying to stop Bane. This could be a trap." Her voice trembles with urgency as she stands on the dragon's back, the weight of her realization sinking in. Lin Tian laughed triumphantly, praising the girl for her cleverness. "That's right," he sneered. "This is the trap I set. There's no dragon mother coming to save you. It was merely a tactic to lure that foolish woman away from the City of Light. Just wait and see what unfolds once she leaves the city." His voice was filled with excitement, confident that his plan would succeed, as he realized they had fallen for Lin Tian's scheme. But with catastrophic consequences looming, the knight captain lost his composure. Desperately shouting, he commanded his team to rally and eliminate Lin Tian. Believing the City of Light had lost all hope, they understood their only chance of survival was to hold on until the Sword Saint arrived to save them. The battle erupted with ferocity as a hulking goblin, its muscular frame towering over the others, charged at the captain wielding a massive sword. The captain swiftly blocked the attack with his axe, but the sheer force of their clash sent shockwaves through the ground beneath them. Stunned by the goblin's overwhelming strength, the captain staggered back, desperately trying to create distance between them. His eyes widened in shock as he recognized the sword the goblin wielded. It was Kasimov's sword. From above, Lin Tian watched with a satisfied expression. Pleased with his subordinate's power, he noted how the goblin stood toe-to-toe with the knight captain of the City of Light. "It seems I won't need to intervene much this time," he mused. Yet, beneath his satisfaction lingered a hint of disappointment. These knights were weaker than he had anticipated and would offer little in terms of skill or strength for the goblins to absorb. Realizing that time was running out, Lin Tian resolved to end the battle swiftly before the Sword Saint could intervene. He drew his small crossbow and leaped off the dragon's back, poised to deliver the decisive blow that would bring this bloody conflict to a close. With Lin Tian's formidable support, the battle concluded swiftly, resulting in a resounding victory for the Goblin army. The captain's two comrades had fallen, their bodies becoming a feast for the ravenous goblins. The captain, despite his desperate struggle, succumbed to Lin Tian's overwhelming magic, collapsing to his knees, trembling with despair. He was forced to witness his comrades being torn apart, blood splattering everywhere as the goblins feasted in a gruesome display. A wave of fear and hopelessness washed over him as he grappled with the bitter realization that his own arrogance had brought about this nightmare. The captain's torment came to a swift end when Lin Tian delivered a merciful arrow straight to his head. His lifeless body crumpled to the ground, met with cheers of triumph from the surrounding goblins. As they reveled in their victory and the spoils of battle, Lin Tian urged them to hurry, reminding them that time was of the essence and the battlefield needed to be cleared swiftly. His gaze then fell upon Goblin, the goblin in whom he had placed his greatest hopes, the one he had chosen to become something extraordinary. He commanded Goblin to devour the bodies quickly and make a swift exit before the Sword Saint arrived. Goblin's blood-red eyes sparkled with a mix of delight and hunger as it pounced on the girl's lifeless form. Without a moment's hesitation, it tore into her flesh, creating a truly horrifying scene. A merciless creature dismantling a human. Blood and bits of flesh flew in every direction. Just moments after the Goblin army vanished, the forest resonated with the heavy footsteps of the Sword Saint and her knights approaching the grim tableau. The sight before them horrified even the Sword Saint. The ground was strewn with half-eaten bodies, blood, flesh, and the white bones of the three knights she had sent. Bane, the lone survivor, rushed to his fallen comrades, sobbing in silent rage and anguish. He cursed the vile goblins, vowing revenge, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. The Sword Saint surveyed the gruesome scene, her anger boiling within her, despite their desperate haste to arrive. They had arrived too late, and even the bodies of her knights lay in disarray. The ground was marked with massive dragon footprints, undeniable evidence of their involvement in the battle. Enraged, the Sword Saint cursed the goblins and dragons that had wrought this tragedy upon them. In that moment, Bane swore he caught sight of a goblin commanding a dragon, surely their leader. The mere thought of a goblin wielding the power to command dragons sent a chill down the spine of the Sword Saint. She demanded that Bane recount every detail without delay. Bane hurriedly explained that it was the goblin leader who had commanded the dragon to incinerate the bridge, leaving no doubt that the captain and the others had fallen victim to the goblins, consumed by dragon fire. Sword Saint, you must destroy them and avenge our fallen, she urged, her voice steady yet filled with urgency. As she surveyed the area, her expression shifted to one of contemplation. Traces of dragon fire were evident, but they were few and far between. The bones scattered around bore the unmistakable marks of goblin gnawing. This evidence suggested that the presence of dragons had been far less than she'd expected. A chilling sense of dread washed over her. She suddenly realized that this could be a trap. The goblins and the mother dragon might have conspired to lure them away from the City of Light. The Sword Saint swiftly ordered a retreat, urging her troops to return to the city as quickly as possible. Paralyzed by fear, Bane stood frozen, horrified at the thought of what could happen if the Sword Saint's suspicions were indeed true. As the Sword Saint had dreaded, a harrowing scene greeted them upon their return. The once vibrant City of Light now lay in ruins. Every structure reduced to rubble, consumed by flames and stained with blood. Countless bodies littered the ground, while fires raged in every corner, leaving a path of devastation in their wake. Overwhelmed by despair, the Sword Saint collapsed amidst the wreckage, her eyes vacant and her lips quivering as she whispered, "No, this can't be. None of this is real." The City of Light now lay in ruins. Buildings crumbled into rubble, and smoke and dust choked the air. The Sword Saint knelt in agony, her vacant eyes fixed on the devastation around her. Nearby, a young boy cried out beside the lifeless body of his father. Gathering her strength, the Sword Saint approached him, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. "Don't be too heartbroken," she whispered softly. "You're not alone." The boy, consumed by anger, forcefully shook her hand away, his voice quivering with rage as he demanded that she leave. He accused her of feigning protection, questioning her whereabouts during the goblin attack on the city. His tirade culminated in a harsh accusation. He called her wicked. Each word, laced with fury, struck the Sword Saint's heart like a dagger. As the tension mounted, townspeople began to gather around them, their expressions brimming with anger and disappointment. They didn't seek apologies or explanations. Cold voices rang out from the crowd, declaring, "If you couldn't protect the city, you are unworthy of being our saint. We were wrong to trust you." Each relentless criticism struck her like a heavy blow, weighing down on her spirit. The Sword Saint's eyes widened in shock as she gazed helplessly at the very people she had once protected, now turned against her. The pain was unbearable, lodged in her throat as she coughed up blood. Her body trembled and she collapsed to her knees, surrounded by a storm of relentless accusations and insults. Overwhelmed by despair, Mother Dragon watched from high above, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Lin Tian's plan had unfolded flawlessly. Without a single direct confrontation, he had brought the Sword Saint to her knees. Her spirit utterly crushed, Mother Dragon silently watched Lin Tian run, a surge of curious delight washing over her. She found herself eager to meet this crafty man once more. The scene shifted to Lin Tian's tribe. Upon his return, everyone rushed to greet him, their faces alight with joy and admiration. They felt an even deeper respect for their leader, whose plans had unfolded flawlessly. Upon his return, Lin Tian's first order of business was to seek out Goblin and inquire about the mission's outcome and any potential issues. Goblin respectfully reported, "Chief, the attack on the city went smoothly. We captured many prisoners and seized a wealth of spoils." He gestured toward a large cage containing the captives, including several young women, and added with a hint of cheer, "They surrendered willingly to save their lives." Following Lin Tian's orders, they provided Kelia with a carriage filled with gold and escorted her family out of the city. Upon hearing this, Lin Tian nodded in satisfaction, a smile spreading across his face as he praised. "Goblin, you did well. From today on, you will enjoy the same privileges as Goblin, including first rights to monster meat." To Lin Tian, Kelia was the only person he truly trusted from his previous life, and ensuring her safe departure felt like a well-deserved reward. He was convinced that the Sword Saint had finally crumbled. Shortly after, Lin Tian returned to Dragon Island and once again stood before Mother Dragon. With heartfelt gratitude, he thanked her for her unwavering support, which had ensured the flawless execution of his plan. Mother Dragon smiled in response, then shared the latest news she had received. The Sword Saint had fallen gravely ill and was unlikely to recover. Lin Tian felt a surge of excitement at her words, but he tempered it with caution. He urged her to keep up the pressure on the City of Light, intensifying the assault on the Sword Saint, as he desired nothing less than to see her spirit completely crushed. The Dragon Mother drew closer, her presence both captivating and enigmatic, and inquired what he would be willing to offer in exchange for her ongoing support. Constantly flying to that place was exhausting, and Lin Tian felt a flicker of unease as she sensed the underlying tone in her words. In an attempt to deflect her question, she gestured toward the large pile of monster corpses in the corner of the cave. "Here, a gift I brought for you," she offered. However, the Dragon Mother remained unimpressed. She suddenly seized him, catching him off guard with a kiss, then licked her lips in a seductive manner. "What I desire is you, Lin Tian. What do you think of that?" Stammering in disbelief, Lin Tian replied, "You want me? You must be joking." The Dragon Mother remained silent, her intentions unmistakable as she completely pinned Lin Tian to the ground. Her tone shifted to a serious note. "I don't care that you've already left a certain female dragon I entrusted to you, now with a growing belly. But if you dare to reject me, I will be truly furious." Her eyes blazed red with anger as she tightened her powerful grip around Lin Tian's slender neck. Fear coursed through him as he grasped the weight of her threat. Desperate to clarify, he stammered, "Please, don't misunderstand me. I feel like nothing more than a weak goblin. How could I ever be worthy of your favor?" The Dragon Mother chuckled softly, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "You are no ordinary goblin. I see the potential of a king within you. Our kind of dragons has always revered strength. It is in our nature to seek union with those who are stronger than ourselves, to forge powerful children." Lin Tian, recognizing the depth of his resolve, smiled and willingly offered himself to the Dragon Mother. Her satisfaction with his obedience was palpable. What followed were sounds of passion that reverberated through the cave, a gentle melody intertwined with the wild intensity of the untamed. In the aftermath of their intimate encounter, Lin Tian unlocked a new achievement. With his stats significantly enhanced, vitality soaring to 1900, attack power reaching 600, and defense climbing to 1400, Lin Tian felt a surge of satisfaction. He realized that the Dragon Mother had bestowed upon him a strength far greater than that of the previous dragon. However, after expending so much energy in service to her, Lin Tian now sensed an urgent need to replenish his strength. In stark contrast, she appeared utterly tireless. He quickly departed from Dragon Island, aware that lingering there would only spell trouble. As sunlight streamed into the cave, the Dragon Mother stirred, a calculating smile spreading across her face. She gazed in the direction where Lin Tian had vanished, feeling that he was precisely as she had envisioned. Perhaps one day he would lead the goblins to forge a new world. A few days after returning from Dragon Island, Lin Tian found himself at a crucial crossroads. Following their assault on the City of Light, the goblin tribe had captured numerous human girls. In a bold move to preserve the goblin bloodline, Lin Tian decided to shift his strategy. He would grant freedom to the elf girls and entrust the humans with the responsibility of reproduction for the goblins instead. Kasana was left utterly shocked by the decision, prompting her to turn to Lin Tian for confirmation. Beside him, the elf queen wore an expression of clear discontent. Deep down, Lin Tian understood that allowing the elves to bear goblin children could lead to offspring stronger than humans. Yet, instead of coercing them, he chose to take a gamble, hoping to persuade the elves to willingly join the tribe. The elf queen, already enchanted by Lin Tian's strength and vision, turned her gaze gently toward her daughter. "If you and the others wish to leave, I won't stop you. As for me, I will stay." Her words left Kasana utterly stunned, but what shocked her even more was when the elf queen stepped forward and knelt before Lin Tian. With a serious tone, she explained that during her time among the goblin tribe, she had come to realize that Lin Tian was no ordinary goblin. She requested permission to stay by his side, pledging her loyalty as a devoted servant. Maintaining his calm demeanor, Lin Tian commended the elf queen for her wisdom. Her presence would undoubtedly benefit the tribe, and he assured her that he would not bring trouble to the elves. Deep down, Lin Tian understood that she likely sought his protection to help her people endure the perils of the demon forest. However, he chose not to reveal her true motives. This was all part of his plan. The queen's decision plunged the elves into chaos, particularly affecting Kasana, who couldn't bear the thought of leaving her mother behind. She knelt before Lin Tian, resolutely declaring that she would not depart. She was prepared to follow her mother and accept Lin Tian as her master. One by one, the other elves joined her, pleading with Lin Tian to let them stay. A satisfied smile crept across Lin Tian's face, though he kept his sense of victory under wraps. With his plan successfully executed, he declared that from this moment on, the elves would no longer be prisoners, but honored members of the goblin tribe. "I will ensure your safety," he promised. Having defeated the Sword Saint, the goblin tribe found itself free from external threats, making this the perfect opportunity to expand and cultivate new hero-level goblins. However, Lin Tian faced an unexpected challenge. The smaller human bodies made it exceedingly difficult for hero-level goblins to breed naturally. This dilemma weighed heavily on his mind, causing him considerable frustration. Just then, the elf queen stepped in with a solution. They would assist him with artificial breeding. Though hesitant, Lin Tian ultimately agreed to her proposal. At that moment, Lin Tian was hit with even more shocking news. A goblin rushed over breathless, reporting that Goblin appeared to be dead and urging him to investigate. This revelation sent a wave of worry through Lin Tian. He had poured countless resources into nurturing Goblin into a mutated goblin. Overcome with apprehension, he hurried to the scene, only to find Goblin's bloody body marked with strange scratch marks all over. When questioned about Goblin's condition, the goblins surrounding him could only report that he had suddenly gone mad. He clawed at himself until he ultimately succumbed. Just then, a horrifying transformation began to take hold of Goblin's body. The sickening sound of bones snapping filled the air as sharp spikes erupted from his skin, and his fangs grew to monstrous proportions. In the terrified gaze of the goblins, Goblin rose, now a grotesque creature beyond recognition. He was a mutated goblin, boasting a formidable level of 50. As a berserker, he carried ominous titles like Returned from the Dead and Mutated Body. His base stats were impressive: 1200 health, 350 strength, and 400 defense. Additionally, he had acquired new skills, including bone stimulation, bone blade, and bone growth. As Lin Tian gazed at Goblin in this terrifying new form, a chill of worry crept down his spine. He silently thanked his lucky stars for the powerful attributes bestowed upon him by his connection with the Dragon Mother. Otherwise, confronting Goblin in this state would be an overwhelming challenge. Just then, Goblin let out a thunderous roar, laughter echoing through the air as he reveled in his newfound strength. Lin Tian watched with a calm demeanor, acknowledging the truth. "Yes, your intellect and power have indeed grown significantly." Lin Tian then instructed Gobuhan to concentrate on cultivating a new, formidable generation of battle-ready goblins. Time flew by, and 3 months later, the City of Light had fully recovered. Life gradually returned to the peaceful rhythm it once knew, with laughter and chatter filling the lively taverns as townsfolk recounted tales of the Goblin tribe's attack. They wondered if the Sword Saint had managed to shake off the shock of his recent defeat. After all, losing to a band of mere goblins was a considerable disgrace. Just then, a knight strode into the tavern, drawing the attention of everyone present. He found it rather amusing that a group of so-called weak goblins had brought together their heroic team, the Snow Protector. He was the captain of the Snow Protector, a diamond-ranked warrior and a distinguished count with a legendary reputation. Over the past 3 months, the Goblin tribe had made remarkable strides, with their ranks swelling to 153rd-generation hero-level goblins. This surge had significantly bolstered the tribe's strength. Through the simulation system, Lin Tian learned that the royal family had issued a bounty of 300 gold coins, summoning heroic teams from across the realm to Light Town to eliminate his goblin tribe. The system cautioned him that this time, the enemies would be exceptionally formidable, featuring diamond and epic-level warriors. It urged Lin Tian to prepare meticulously for the impending onslaught. Lin Tian had gained an additional 10 system points, and his health attribute had multiplied tenfold. He could now perform the next simulation in a month. As he reviewed the information before him, a sense of concern washed over him. He would soon be facing diamond-ranked heroes, the elite among humanity's strongest. He now faced epic-level warriors whose strength surpassed even that of the Sword Saint. What troubled him even more was the fact that this time, the system offered no hints on how to tackle the challenges ahead. The uncertainty of the system loomed over him, casting a shadow on his already anxious thoughts about the future. Just then, Lin Tian's contemplation was interrupted by the arrival of the Elf Queen. She approached him, her expression grave. "There are urgent matters to report," she announced. He met her gaze with sharp eyes, sternly instructing her to present the situation clearly. The Elf Queen knelt before him, her tone respectful as she stated, "The young goblins have essentially reached maturity. However, the resources and beasts in the surrounding forest were nearly depleted, and the iron ore mines had been almost exhausted. This left their supply of weapons and equipment insufficient to meet the goblins' needs, directly affecting their training outcomes." Lin Tian paused, contemplating the situation. He understood that sustaining their development would require a new strategy. They needed a more abundant source of supplies. At the same time, the unrest in the Town of Light signaled that it was time to change their residence. A location with defensible terrain and rich resources was the ideal choice. Rising to his feet, he instructed the Elf Queen to inform the entire tribe to prepare for a major migration. Kesana was taken aback by this unexpected decision. The Elf Queen remained composed as if she had foreseen his decision. With a nod, she assured him that she would promptly arrange for the relocation of the entire Goblin tribe. Soon after, Lin Tian guided the tribe to a majestic mountain. Its rugged, intricate terrain posed challenges for movement, but offered a significant advantage in terms of defense. They selected a concealed cave behind a waterfall as their new settlement, an ideal location to evade human detection. This place truly felt like a perfect haven. Upon their arrival, Lin Tian instructed his subordinates to establish patrols, assigning teams to hide and observe the surrounding areas, prepared to report any signs of enemy intrusion. He also instructed those staying behind to swiftly clear the cave and prepare living spaces for the newborn goblins. Standing before the entire tribe, Lin Tian spoke with unwavering confidence. "From today, this is our new home. As long as you follow my orders and fulfill your duties, I promise that everyone will have plenty to eat and will be safe. Remember this well," he declared, his voice steady and commanding. "Anyone who breaks the rules I set will face only one outcome: death." The goblins below erupted in cheers, chanting Lin Tian's name and pledging their unwavering loyalty to him. Once he settled into his new residence and organized everything, Lin Tian knew it was time to journey to the City of Light for his investigation. If the system's claims held any truth, his first priority was to gather detailed information about the adventurer groups targeting the Goblin tribe. Only with sufficient knowledge could he navigate his next steps safely and effectively. Meanwhile, in the City of Light, Earl, a renowned nobleman, had just settled into his seat when the tavern owner promptly presented him with a chilled mug of beer. The owner wasn't surprised by Earl's arrival. As he polished a glass, he asked, "Earl, aren't nobles supposed to handle only high-level monsters? What brings you here to deal with goblins?" Earl took a sip of his beer and replied, "My presence here is purely unintentional. I'm just here to rescue my inept cousin who's unfortunately been captured by those goblins." The seasoned tavern owner could see right through Earl's facade. With a hint of sarcasm, he asked, "Is that really your only reason? A noble like you coming here personally just for a worthless cousin?" Before Earl could muster a reply, a voice rang out from the entrance of the tavern. "Hey, Earl, you said you'd handle this, so the reward is yours. Are you expecting me to make this trip for nothing?" The voice cut through the air, drawing everyone's attention. Earl turned toward the door, his annoyance evident as he recognized the figure standing there. An old man, his face twisted in anger, stood at the entrance. "Clad in robes that suggested a wizard's status," he continued, "the reward for dealing with those goblins is rightfully mine. If you won't let me join, you'd better pay me 1,000 gold coins right here and now." The old man's words sent a ripple of shock through the tavern. He was Gru, a gray-hatted wizard and the leader of the Gray Hat Hero Party. Earl, holding the prestigious diamond rank, smirked, his voice laced with sarcasm. "Old man, you've got quite the nerve, haven't you?" Before Earl could finish his sentence, a burst of laughter erupted from a man in the corner of the tavern. "Ha! How ridiculous! Do you fools really think that with the Sword Saint's decline, this is your chance to shine?" He leaned forward, a smirk on his face. "Don't forget, the cold-blooded woman will be coming this time too, the legendary adventurer Lucy." His words sent a wave of tension through the tavern, leaving the patrons uneasy and on edge. They knew she was a formidable threat. Whispers circulated that she was solely motivated by greed, willing to eliminate anyone, innocent or guilty. Without a second thought, a voice in the crowd murmured anxiously, "Be quiet. Speaking of her could cost us our lives." But Earl dismissed the concern. After taking another sip of his beer, he turned to the man and asked, "You're a wandering warrior, right? Are you here because of the goblins?" The man in black scoffed. "I have no interest in that. I'm here because I'm in the mood to hunt a dragon for fun. If I can slay that beast, I'll become a legendary adventurer." He leaned in, his tone turning sharp. "But let me remind you of one thing. Don't underestimate those goblins. Even if they seem like low-level creatures, their ability to evolve is truly terrifying, especially the mutated ones." His words cast a palpable unease over everyone present. Even Gru, with nearly a century of experience, couldn't dispute the truth. "He's right," Gru admitted. "I've lived almost 100 years, and I've encountered more goblins than the rest of you have seen women in your lifetimes. Those wretched creatures have plagued us since ancient times. They have long been the common enemy of all races. Despite countless attempts to eradicate them over the millennia, goblins have never been completely wiped out." Breaking the silence, Gru let out a hearty laugh. "Ha ha ha! Wiping out goblins is such a hassle. If it weren't for the reward, I wouldn't even consider getting involved in this mess." He took another swig of his drink, savoring the moment. Gru's words left Earl feeling uneasy. Deep down, he knew they were true. After all, even the Sword Saint and her formidable knights had fallen to these goblins. This realization urged him to tread carefully. To mitigate the risk, Earl swiftly made a decision. He proposed an alliance with Gru to eradicate the goblin threat, offering him the entire reward upon their success. Gru was taken aback by the generous offer, but accepted it with gratitude. He secretly mused that if things turned dangerous, he could rely on the Snow Trumpet Party to handle it, sparing himself any significant effort. Afterward, they unfolded a map and began strategizing. Gru proposed sending a small group into the forest to avoid drawing too much attention. Once they located the goblins, the plan was to confront them with swift and brutal force. However, Earl had a different perspective. Given the many uncertainties surrounding these creatures, he insisted on investigating specific locations first, aiming to devise a thorough strategy. Gru, irritated by the young man's excessive caution, chose to relinquish all planning responsibilities to Earl, eager to avoid the hassle himself. Earl felt a twinge of annoyance at Gru's attitude, but chose to remain patient as he had his own plans brewing. Just then, a man clad in full iron armor strode into the tavern, instantly capturing the attention of every patron. Confusion rippled through the crowd as they wondered about the identity of this imposing figure. However, Gru's eyes widened in recognition. He was staring at none other than Goblin Slayer himself, a sight that left him both surprised and intrigued. Gru suggested they have a conversation. The sudden appearance of Goblin Slayer left Earl taken aback. He was well aware of the man's formidable reputation from the world of anime, but had never encountered him in person. Recognizing the potential value of such a powerful ally, Earl quickly approached Goblin Slayer, adopting a humble demeanor. "My apologies for not recognizing you," he said earnestly. Goblin Slayer insisted he had no desire to attract anyone's attention. He then turned to Earl, directly asking why he had stopped him. Earl froze for a moment, not from the question itself, but from the unexpected quality of Goblin Slayer's voice. It struck him as oddly unusual. Earl couldn't shake the thought that the man was quite eccentric, claiming to shun attention while clad in such a distinctive outfit. Noticing Earl's hesitation, Gru broke the awkward silence with a cheerful tone. Haha, is this the same man who slaughtered a goblin leader? I heard you took down 1,000 goblins all by yourself in that battle. Earl was taken aback by this revelation, his doubt evident. After all, 1,000 goblins was an overwhelming number to contend with. Disregarding Earl's reaction, Gru suggested teaming up with Goblin Slayer to eradicate the goblin threat in the area. However, Goblin Slayer swiftly declined, reiterating his well-known mantra, "I don't work with people who slow me down." With that, he pushed Earl aside and continued on his path, leaving Earl seething with anger. Gru shared his irritation, feeling the tension rise between them. "There's no need to boast," Gru said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Just wait until those goblins capture you. Then we'll see how you beg for help." With that, he stormed off, clearly annoyed. He turned to Earl, urging him to stop dawdling and act swiftly to seize the upper hand. "We can't let someone else take the credit for this mission," Gru insisted, his frustration palpable. Earl, however, felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his chest. He didn't want to rush into danger without proper preparation. To someone as arrogant as Gru, preparation was nothing more than a waste of time. Meanwhile, Lin Tian had arrived at the outskirts of the City of Light. From a distance, he began to observe the throngs of people entering and exiting the city. Soon, his gaze was drawn to Goblin Slayer, whose distinctive armor set him apart from the crowd. With a flicker of curiosity, Lin Tian activated his appraisal skill on Goblin Slayer, and the information swiftly materialized before him. Name, Goblin Slayer level, 65 race, human profession, none titles, Goblin Hunter, handsome 1, tyrant, cold-hearted and ruthless, one who should not exist HP, 900 strength, 260 defense, 450 skills, powerful strike, blood of the father. Lin Tian examined the details of the equipment, rusty iron armor, rusty iron sword, with an overall combat power ranging from 1,000 to 3,000. He was taken aback. What truly captivated him was Goblin Slayer's combat power. Unlike anything he had encountered before, it wasn't a fixed number but a fluctuating range of 1,000 to 3,000. This was the first time he had witnessed such an anomaly. Lin Tian inquired of his system if something was amiss, but the system responded, "Apologies, Master. There is no issue." He didn't have time to ponder the reply. Just then, a group of knights emerged from the city gates. Swiftly, he activated his appraisal skill on them, his attention zeroing in on Earl first. Earl was a seasoned knight, renowned for his prowess in vanquishing monsters, boasting an impressive combat power of 1,300. Beside him stood Gru, a professional mage with a diverse array of skills and an overall combat power of 1,400. Lin Tian observed Gru closely, recognizing him as a formidable adversary. After evaluating the group, Lin Tian determined that only 2 members were at the esteemed diamond rank. However, judging by their demeanor, they didn't appear particularly clever, so he dismissed them as a significant threat. After gathering the necessary information, Lin Tian returned to his tribe to prepare for the uninvited guests, keeping a close eye on the Goblin Slayer, rumored to be the Goblin's nemesis. Before long, Earl led his men deep into the heart of the demon forest. Despite their exhaustive search, there was no sign of the Goblin tribe. Gru found this puzzling. A tribe of that size shouldn't be able to conceal themselves so effectively. Along the way, he had encountered numerous signs of battle and goblin foraging activities, indicating that the tribe had to be close by. As Gru contemplated this mystery, Earl suddenly called out to the group, signaling that he had made a discovery. He handed Gru a strand of golden hair and asked what it was. After a careful sniff, Gru recognized it as elf hair. This revelation surprised Earl, who was convinced that the elf tribe would never aid goblins in concealing themselves. Gru, however, countered that it was entirely plausible the elves had indeed assisted the goblins in their movements and hiding. He noted that their exhaustive search of the forest had uncovered no suitable locations for the goblins to hide. As he spoke, he revealed a small jar containing a delicate blue butterfly. Gru explained that this particular species was especially drawn to the scent of elves. He allowed the butterfly to catch a whiff of the hair, convinced it would guide them to the hidden dwelling of the elves and goblins. Moments later, the butterfly fluttered down to a riverbank, danced in circles a few times, and then returned to its jar as if signaling its next move. Gru concluded that the butterfly had lost its scent, indicating that the elves must have crossed the river. Sensing danger, Earl suggested they wait for the Goblin Slayer, emphasizing the need to act before he arrived. However, Gru, brimming with confidence, dismissed the idea as unnecessary. With a smug grin, he pointed across the river. There, on the opposite bank, a goblin with glowing red eyes glared menacingly at the intruders. The sight of the goblin sent a thrill through the entire team. They charged across the river, eager to intimidate the creature into retreating back to its tribe, hoping to uncover its location. However, they were blissfully unaware that every action they took was precisely orchestrated by Lin Tian. Perched on a rocky ledge, he observed with a satisfied smile, relishing the moment as his prey fell for the trap. As Lin Tian surveyed his surroundings, his expression abruptly shifted to one of agitation. He had spotted the goblin slayer nearby, and a wave of unease washed over him. His primary focus was on dealing with Gru and Earl first, but the unexpected presence of the goblin slayer presented a threat he couldn't afford to overlook. After watching her for a moment, Lin Tian was taken aback to discover that the legendary goblin slayer was, in fact, a strikingly beautiful woman. She reveled in the cool water, having shed her armor completely. As she admired her own stunning curves, Lin Tian realized she wasn't entirely human. Her extraordinary strength set her apart. The very fact that she could relax and bathe in such a precarious situation highlighted just how extraordinary she truly was. For the first time since becoming a goblin, Lin Tian felt an unsettling discomfort wash over her. It felt as though the enchanting woman was intentionally beckoning him closer, igniting his suspicions. Had she already sensed his presence? Aware of her cunning nature and the potential threat she posed, Lin Tian made the decision to retreat. Silently, he slipped away from his vantage point, determined to prioritize dealing with Gru and Earl first. As Lin Tian had suspected, the woman had indeed noticed his presence. As she watched him depart, curiosity sparked within her. What kind of intelligent creature could he be? A sly smile curled her lips, and she licked them slowly, as if savoring a delectable morsel merely by sight. Meanwhile, back with Gru's group, a brief chase concluded with the goblin's fall. Taking stock of their surroundings, Earl called for everyone to regroup. The goblin tribe was undoubtedly close. Before they could regroup, a barrage of sharp arrows descended upon them, revealing that they had walked straight into a trap. Gru quickly commanded his men to focus and stay alert. In a swift response, he conjured a massive fireball, hurling it toward the incoming arrows and incinerating them in a brilliant explosion. The danger was averted, and Earl couldn't help but feel exhilarated by the display of Gru's power. He praised Gru, saying, "You're as strong as ever. Without you, we would have fallen for the goblin's trap." Gru, seasoned in combat, cautioned Earl to stay focused. The battle was far from over. Just then, a terrifying roar erupted from behind their formation, startling everyone. They turned to see a massive goblin emerging from its hiding place, its grotesque form sending chills down their spines. With 4 arms, each brandishing a different weapon, it charged at them with astonishing speed. Gru instantly recognized it as a hero-class goblin. Earl and the others froze for a moment, taken aback by Gru's urgent warning. Hero-class goblins were a rare and formidable threat. Possessing strength and intelligence far beyond that of ordinary goblins, Gru quickly commanded, "Focus all fire. Don't let it get close." As the colossal goblin roared and charged forward, fear washed over everyone's faces. They swiftly gathered their strength, coordinating to unleash a massive, blazing fireball aimed directly at the monstrous threat. As the fiery projectile hurtled toward it, the giant goblin's eyes widened in a brief moment of surprise. Yet, its colossal size left no room for escape. A deafening explosion erupted, shaking the very ground beneath it. The force of the blast sent rocks and debris flying, carving out a massive crater that obliterated everything within a radius of dozens of meters. Fortunately, Gru had erected a protective barrier just in time, shielding himself from the devastation. The group behind him narrowly escaped the explosion's devastating force. But as the dust began to settle, a chilling sight emerged. The colossal goblin loomed defiantly amidst the wreckage, utterly unscathed. Its bloodshot eyes and fierce demeanor radiated a newfound fury. Even the seasoned warriors, veterans of countless life-and-death battles, struggled to suppress their trembling. A wave of helplessness washed over them, prompting instinctive retreat. But behind, a horde of smaller goblins growled and surged forward, quickly surrounding them. Earl shouted in alarm, urging everyone to regroup. Despite the overwhelming number of goblins, they were still inferior creatures. Even with a hero-tier goblin in their midst, the group should be able to stand their ground. Gru nodded in agreement, but couldn't shake his confusion over the goblin's iron weapons. He quickly commanded his troops to form a defensive formation against the approaching horde. "As long as we keep them at bay, victory is still within our grasp," he bellowed, driving his staff into the ground. With a series of incantations, a radiant magical circle shimmered to life, enveloping the entire formation in a protective glow. This circle acted as both a defensive barrier against ranged goblin attacks and a source of energy replenishment for the warriors, readying them for counterstrikes. Within this protective haven, the mages unleashed a flurry of spells: ice arrows, sand bogs, and toxic rain. These mid-level spells effectively disrupted the goblin onslaught. Yet, despite their efforts, the sheer number of goblins was staggering. Like an unstoppable wave relentlessly crashing against their defenses, the group was quickly overrun, plunging into a brutal melee. From above, Lin Tian watched the chaos unfold, his gaze cold and calculating. The opposing force was formidable, and the low-tier goblins struggled to breach their defenses. With a subtle gesture, Lin Tian raised his hand, signaling for action. Goblin, descend and create chaos. Let the goblins get close, then finish them off. Following the command, Goblin leapt from the cliff face, diving straight into the heart of the battle. Its sudden arrival sent shockwaves through the human formation. With terrifying speed and strength, Goblin locked onto Gru as its target. With keen observation and a stroke of luck, Gru narrowly dodged the fatal blow. His eyes blazed with fury as he glared at the monstrous goblin before him. Though he had escaped death, the emergence of another hero-level goblin filled him with dread. Despite failing to take Gru down, Goblin's attack had shattered the hero's formidable defense, creating an opening for the four-armed goblin and the rest of the horde to surge forward. Earl shouted, trying to steady his companions. "Don't panic. Re-establish the defensive formation immediately." But the goblins struck with blinding speed. In an instant, two warriors were knocked down, their bodies crashing violently to the ground. The defensive line shattered, and a suffocating sense of impending doom hung heavy in the air. In this dire moment, Earl chose to unleash his ultimate move. He swung his sword, conjuring a fiery whirlwind that enveloped the group, pushing back the advancing goblins and easing the overwhelming pressure. This powerful spell momentarily halted the goblin assault, forcing them to retreat. However, the hero team now found themselves completely surrounded. With no escape in sight, Earl commanded, "Protect the wounded. Focus all energy on healing spells and treat them as quickly as possible. Then we'll counterattack and annihilate them all." He couldn't deny that this was the most brutal goblin battle he had ever faced. Above, Lin Tian coldly observed the chaos, his eyes reflecting an icy indifference to the unfolding events. He recognized the formidable fighting skills of the diamond-ranked adventurer group, which far surpassed his expectations. If any other goblin tribe encountered this formation, no matter how many they were, the result would be a crushing defeat. Yet, as this thought crossed his mind, Lin Tian couldn't help but smirk. It was a pity these adventurers had chosen the wrong place to challenge, for he held in his possession a goblin of unparalleled strength, Goblin. As Goblin emerged onto the battlefield, every other goblin retreated in unison, making way for the display of their strongest warrior. Gru's face drained of color at the sight of the mutated goblin. This was no ordinary hero-level foe. Its power eclipsed anything he had ever encountered. Gru struggled to comprehend the existence of such a terrifying creature in this realm. Goblin Slayer watched the battle unfold, his gaze fixed on Goblin as she emerged. A sinister smile crept across her face as she remarked, "Goblins are truly a beautiful and powerful species." Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Goblin's presence shifted the tide of the conflict. With terrifying strength, she charged into the ranks of the adventurers, mercilessly cutting them down. The forest soon filled with their screams of agony, a haunting chorus that echoed through the trees. The survivors had completely lost their will to fight. Overwhelmed by Goblin's overwhelming power, a harsh reality settled in. No one could stand against him. Even Gru, despite his strength and experience, met a tragic end. With eyes as cold as ice, Goblin seized Gru's lifeless body and hurled it before Earl. Severely wounded and filled with despair, Earl watched as his strongest comrade fell so easily. He couldn't fathom how he had ended up in such a dire predicament. Gru lay motionless on the ground, his trembling arm weakly reaching out toward Earl, a silent plea for help escaping his parched lips. Gru's pitiful state shattered the remnants of Earl's fighting spirit. Overcome with fear, he collapsed to the ground, scrambling backward. He cursed himself for his foolishness, for greedily accepting a meager reward that had provoked such a terrifying goblin tribe. In his mind, these goblins were not just creatures, they were demons. He had completely lost his sanity. In a blind panic, he turned and fled into the forest, ignoring Gru's desperate cries for help behind him. The goblins watched from a distance, laughing savagely as they playfully fired arrows at Earl, reveling in his despair and fear. Tears streamed down Earl's face as he ran, mumbling to himself in a state of sheer terror. He cursed himself for underestimating the goblins. It should have been a clear warning when even the legendary Sword Saints party fell to them. In a moment of utter despair, Earl cried out, pleading for someone, anyone, to save him. He vowed he would accept any fate, even slavery, just to survive. Then, as if summoned by his desperation, Goblin Slayer appeared before him. Earl's eyes sparkled with the faintest glimmer of hope as he urgently pleaded for help. Yet, as the goblins closed in for another attack, that flicker of hope was snuffed out, leaving his gaze filled with utter despair. Goblin Slayer, please save me, I beg you. Though Goblin Slayer was not his ally, they shared a common goal, the extermination of goblins. For him, eliminating the creatures pursuing Earl was hardly a challenge. In the blink of an eye, Goblin Slayer surged forward. The sword in her hand glinted menacingly as each precise strike cut through her foes with deadly efficiency. The goblins pursuing Earl fell one after another, dispatched without mercy. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Earl bowed repeatedly, his voice trembling with appreciation. Thank you so much. I owe you my life, she said, her voice earnest. I promise to repay you once I return to the city. But Goblin Slayer showed no interest. Turning to him with a cold, piercing gaze, she replied, you fool, stay away from me, far away. With that, she strode purposefully toward the canyon, where more goblins were gathering. Don't go that way, Earl shouted, his voice laced with worry. This isn't just any goblin tribe. There's a mutated goblin among them. Yet Goblin Slayer remains unfazed. Earl's warning only brings a smirk to her face. If there truly is a mutated goblin, all the better. She relishes the thought of more goblins to slay. At the canyon, the goblins revel in their victory after a grueling battle. Goblin lifts Gru's limp body high above his head, roaring in triumph. His bloodshot eyes locked onto Gru with the intensity of a wolf eyeing its prey. But just then, Goblin felt a searing pain stab through his back. He turned, catching only a fleeting glimpse of a blade piercing his body. Blood sprayed in all directions as he collapsed, consciousness fading. The scene unfolded so swiftly that every goblin stood frozen in shock. In an instant, a heroic tier goblin like Goblin had been brought down, leaving them all in stunned disbelief. Even Lin Tian, watching from above, struggled to comprehend the unfolding chaos, but the reason soon became clear. The sound of Goblin Slayer's footsteps echoed through the air, capturing the attention of every goblin present. Their furious glares focused on the intruder. Unfazed, Goblin Slayer advanced slowly, her eyes locked onto Goblin. Are you the leader of these goblins? She demanded. She asked, her tone cold and detached. You seem stupid, not at all like the one I've seen before. Goblin didn't rise to her taunt. Instead, he unleashed a deafening roar, commanding his minions, kill her immediately. At his order, every goblin surged forward, their snarls echoing through the canyon. But their feeble strength was no match for Goblin Slayer. With calm determination, she unsheathed her sword, delivering calculated, swift strikes. She sliced through the horde like a whirlwind, her basic techniques proving more than sufficient to fell countless goblins, their bodies accumulating on the ground. From his elevated vantage point, Lin Tian observed closely, his unease intensifying. The unexpected arrival of Goblin Slayer posed a significant threat to his carefully laid plans. He couldn't fathom how she wielded such power, especially when the system's analysis rated her skills at a mere A rank. Could she be hiding some secret strength, perhaps the ability to wield magic? Meanwhile, the battle below grew increasingly savage. As he witnessed his comrades fall one by one, Goblin unleashed a frenzied roar, his body beginning to undergo a startling transformation. A crimson aura enveloped Goblin's massive form, and countless sharp spikes erupted from his rough skin. With this newfound power, he charged at Goblin Slayer with astonishing speed, his colossal body resembling a spiked mountain as it barreled through everything in its path. Yet, Goblin Slayer stood her ground, her expression betraying not a hint of fear. As Goblin closed in, she activated a swift movement skill, gliding to the side just in time. His powerful attack struck nothing but the ground. You're too slow, Goblin Slayer's voice echoed. With precision, she delivered a sharp slash that sliced through several spikes on Goblin's body. Momentarily stunned by his failed assault, Goblin left himself open as Goblin Slayer closed the distance and unleashed a second strike. With a fierce glare and blazing red eyes, Goblin slashed across his back, fixating on the approaching Goblin Slayer. Just then, her assault was interrupted by a swarm of goblins, who hurled a sticky, glue-like substance directly at her. The adhesive struck Goblin Slayer unexpectedly, ensnaring her body in its thick, viscous grip. She fought desperately to break free, but the more she struggled, the tighter it clung to her. However, the glue's grip significantly hampered her movements. From a distance, Lin Tian wore a faint smile as he signaled his dragon to descend. His keen eyes locked onto Goblin Slayer. A blend of satisfaction and cunning etched on his face. Lin Tian saw this as the perfect moment to make a safe retreat. However, the strength Goblin Slayer had displayed piqued his interest. If subdued, she could become an impeccable asset for breeding powerful goblin warriors. Acknowledging that Gobihan's strength alone wouldn't be enough to defeat Goblin Slayer, Lin Tian resolved to alter his approach and engage in a war of attrition. The plan was straightforward: wear her down. He commanded the goblins to retreat and encircle Goblin Slayer. Maintaining their distance, the goblins hurled large stones at her from afar. Goblin Slayer was momentarily taken aback to see a goblin riding a dragon. Yet, instead of fear, she felt a surge of confidence. This only reinforced her suspicions that these goblins were far from ordinary. They had certainly lived up to her expectations. As a barrage of stones rained down, Goblin Slayer deftly swung her sword, ready to face the challenge head-on. The blade gleamed as it sliced through the air, effortlessly shattering rocks into fragments. Each strike was executed with flawless precision, yet the sheer volume of projectiles was overwhelming. Gradually, the relentless onslaught began to wear down her stamina. Observing this, Lin Tian's smile widened with satisfaction. After more than an hour of battle, it appeared she wouldn't last much longer. Just when Lin Tian believed he had the situation under control, something entirely unexpected occurred. Goblin Slayer suddenly halted, her movements ceasing as she slowly raised her hand to remove her helmet. Golden hair tumbled down, shimmering in the light, while her piercing emerald green eyes surveyed the surrounding goblins. As her face was fully revealed, it became clear she was stunningly beautiful. It was so flawless, it appeared to be a masterpiece crafted by the gods. Do you truly believe that mere strength and numbers can defeat me? Her words, coupled with her otherworldly beauty, held an almost magical allure. The goblins, who had been attacking with ferocity, suddenly froze. Their eyes grew vacant, dazed and enchanted by her presence. They completely forgot their mission, standing frozen in awe as if they were gazing upon a divine being. This scene left Lin Tian utterly astonished. He had never anticipated that this woman possessed such a unique skill. As he grappled with how to navigate this unusual situation, the Goblin Slayer made a chilling move. In an instant, as the goblin's attacks came to a halt, she widened her eyes and plunged her hand into the chest of Gru, who lay motionless on the ground. In an instant, she tore Gru's heart from his chest, lifting it to her lips. With a grotesque delight, she licked it as if savoring her favorite delicacy. "A human heart is the finest supplement for my strength," she declared. This horrifying display filled Lin Tian with dread. He couldn't fathom that someone, revered as the enemy of goblins and a symbol of justice, could commit such a chilling act. After replenishing her energy with Gru's heart, the Goblin Slayer launched herself at the surrounding goblins. With extraordinary speed and overwhelming power, they stood no chance against her onslaught and were swiftly eliminated. As he watched his comrades fall, Goblin roared in fury. "Damn woman, go to hell!" he bellowed, charging at the Goblin Slayer with rage in his eyes. But before Goblin could close the distance, she hurled a sword straight at him, impaling his body. In an instant, she unleashed a fire spell. A massive fireball struck Goblin, resulting in an explosion that utterly subdued him. Lin Tian's eyes widened with fear. Damn it, who is this woman? How does she possess the power to devour goblins and so effortlessly defeat a mutant goblin with a single strike? In the heat of the moment, Lin Tian's foremost concern was to protect his tribe and minimize casualties. He ordered Freya to cease treating the injured goblins and follow him without delay. With urgency, he commanded the remaining goblins to retreat. Then, Lin Tian soared toward the Goblin Slayer. As he approached, she halted her relentless assault on the goblins surrounding her. A cold smile crept across her face. "It's been ages since I've encountered a goblin as formidable as you. If you allow me to examine you further, I won't just spare your life. I might even assist you in saving this mutated goblin." Lin Tian was taken aback by her proposition. "Do you really expect me to believe such nonsense?" he challenged, skepticism lacing his voice. The Goblin Slayer smiled, her eyes glinting with hidden intentions as she regarded Lin Tian. "You don't believe me?" she asked, her voice smooth and inviting. As she spoke, she began to remove her armor, the upper half falling away in an instant to reveal her alluring figure. It was a bold gesture, a way to demonstrate her goodwill and earn Lin Tian's trust. Lin Tian regarded her with a wary gaze, unable to fathom why she would so willingly abandon her weapons and defenses. Doubt swirled in his mind as he questioned her true intentions. With her current strength, his tribe stood no chance against her. After a moment of contemplation, he commanded his dragon to descend slowly to the ground. Cautiously shedding his cloak, Lin Tian began to approach the Goblin Slayer. He asked her what she desired from him. Upon seeing Lin Tian's figure, the Goblin Slayer was taken aback to find that he was merely a low-level goblin. This revelation exceeded her expectations. Feeling belittled, Lin Tian's anger ignited. "As you requested, I've revealed myself. Didn't you claim you could save my goblins?" Goblin Slayer pulled out a small needle and ran her tongue over it, a sly smile playing on her lips. She reassured Lin Tian not to worry, promising to keep her word. But first, she needed him to please her. As Lin Tian let his guard down, Goblin Slayer suddenly hurled the needle at him. It struck true, and an excruciating pain surged through his body, rendering him utterly powerless. Even standing upright felt like an insurmountable challenge. Goblin Slayer approached him slowly, revealing that her true passion lay in hunting formidable goblins and slaying them after indulging her own twisted desires. Despite being a low-level goblin, Lin Tian's intelligence rivaled that of a goblin king, which thrilled her to no end. Lin Tian couldn't fathom how this woman could possess such bizarre inclinations, and a surge of anger welled up inside him for having fallen into her trap due to his own carelessness. Helpless, he scanned his surroundings, desperately seeking help from the nearby goblins. To his shock, they all turned their backs on him. Rage surged within him as he roared, "What are you doing? Why are you abandoning me?" At that moment, Goblin Slayer let out a chilling chuckle. "Ha ha! They're all under my control now. Of course, I won't let them see what we're about to do." With no strength left to resist, Lin Tian felt Goblin Slayer's soft body pressing against him as she embraced him from behind. She whispered seductively in his ear, "Be a good boy, and I promise I won't kill you. I want to stay here with you. Let me see what a clever goblin tastes like." I was deeply curious about what kind of being we would become once we merged. Just then, a passionate kiss ignited a whirlwind of wild actions that set everyone's imagination ablaze. Among the onlookers was Earl, who, after being rescued by the Goblin Slayer, chose not to flee, but to hide nearby and watch the unfolding scene. What he witnessed filled him with a mix of fear and disbelief. He covered his mouth with his hand, stifling any sounds of agitation. He couldn't believe that Goblin Slayer was a woman, and he was utterly horrified by what she was doing with the goblin. Earl's choice to stay put would soon prove to be a fatal mistake. In an instant, a goblin emerged from behind him. With no chance to escape, Earl was swiftly dispatched. Time slipped away. 10 minutes, 30 minutes, or perhaps even an hour. The battle between Lin Tian and the Goblin Slayer finally came to an end. As the goblins around them began to clean up the battlefield, Lin Tian turned to the Goblin Slayer for a conversation. He warned her, "This is the Goblin Den. If you continue pushing forward, you'll have to face the consequences." With a calm demeanor, the Goblin Slayer responded, "I've already told you. I want to see just how strong you really are. As for the consequences, all that matters to me is whether you can endure," Lin Tian said, her voice laced with anger. "But who are you really? What is this strange power you possess? How can you control my subordinates? Even I feel like I'm under your influence." Goblin Slayer replied nonchalantly, "If I tell you everything, will you let me follow you?" Lin Tian declared that his decision hinged on the information she would provide. Undeterred by his attempts to dissuade her, the Goblin Slayer pressed onward into the depths of the goblin's lair. As she brushed past Lin Tian, she leaned in and whispered, "I am a descendant of the Goblin King." The revelation left him utterly stunned. Lin Tian quickly asked, "Are you really the descendant of the Goblin King? But why do you look so human?" At this, Goblin Slayer halted, a sigh escaping her lips. "Perhaps it's because my mother was human," she replied slowly. With that, she began to recount her past. From the moment she was born, her appearance set her apart from other goblins. Her mother, a human, had been captured by goblins and forced into slavery. Among her captors was the son of the goblin chief, who had violated her. Typically, high-ranking goblins struggled to reproduce, and their offspring were often weak, yet she was the exception. Strong and alive after all these years. A decade ago, she had taken matters into her own hands and killed the goblin chief, the very one who had tried to violate her. Not only did she kill him, but after swallowing him, she absorbed all the power of his royal bloodline, gaining dominion over all goblins. In the end, she annihilated the entire goblin tribe. At this moment, Goblin Slayer let out a chilling laugh. Lin Tian, sensing the darkness in his amusement, grew increasingly concerned about his twisted mentality. He fixed his gaze on her, slowly piecing together the truth. "You can control them because you possess the bloodline of the Goblin King." At that moment, she paused, a smug smile playing on her lips. When I forge my weapons, I mix my blood into them. Any goblin struck by my attacks is automatically infused with the seeds of their doom. From that point on, they cannot betray me. Their only option is to submit to my control. Goblin Slayer explained that while many believed her motivation stemmed from a deep-seated hatred for goblins, her true desire was to challenge and personally eliminate the strongest among them, an exhilarating pursuit that was simply her preference. After a brief exchange, Lin Tian began to grasp the roots of her twisted personality. Observing the situation closely, he found himself feeling a flicker of sympathy for her. He recognized that she was the nemesis of goblins, and if she turned against him, it would spell disaster. Keeping this in mind, Lin Tian adopted a diplomatic tone and remarked, "It seems we have some common ground. Then why not join us?" This suggestion prompted a hearty laugh from Goblin Slayer. "Ha ha! How intriguing! I assumed you'd be afraid of me, that I'd have to resort to some methods to control you. But it seems that's no longer necessary." Lin Tian was left bewildered, uncertain of how to steer the conversation forward. At that moment, Goblin Slayer slowly donned her helmet and prepared to leave the tribe. She sensed that the situation in the City of Light was far more complex, and being a spy for Lin Tian promised to be far more intriguing than remaining here. Lin Tian, taken aback by her decision, asked, "Are you truly doing this out of goodwill?" She shot him a sidelong glance and replied, "Because you belong to me, of course. I must be the one to protect you first." Those words left Lin Tian utterly speechless, watching her walk away in a daze. Later, he returned to his cave, finally able to assess his stats after merging with the Goblin Slayer. To his surprise, his level had risen to 55. Alongside the titles he had already earned, he noticed a significant boost in his base stats. His current stats revealed a life total of 1950, an attack power of 650, a defense rating of 1450, and an overall power level of 2200. Among his skills were weapon steel, sharp reflexes, trustworthy, and unleashing potential in critical situations. Lin Tian marveled at the remarkable boost in his strength after merging with a goblin of royal blood. However, his reflections were abruptly interrupted by the sounds of commotion coming from the prisoners. It appears that Earl has survived the goblin attack. Upon seeing Loader still alive, he erupted into laughter. "Cousin, you're still breathing. Ha ha, you're a scoundrel. Truly, you've tarnished our family's honor. It's no surprise the Sword Saint chose not to come here personally to rescue you." Loader's smile was icy. "Trash. You should savor these final moments of your life. Do you see that pot over there? You'll die before I do." Before Earl could grasp the gravity of the situation, a massive goblin loomed over him, snatching him up and striding toward a large pot bubbling ominously over the fire. Panic surged through Earl as he screamed in terror. "What are you going to do? Please, don't kill me. I'm a noble. I can offer you many women." Despite Earl's desperate cries, the goblin coldly dragged him toward the pot. Just then, Loader intervened, commanding the goblin to halt and requesting an audience with their leader, Lin Tian, who had been drawn to the commotion. "Cousin." Lin Tian approached Loader with a slow, deliberate stride. "It's been a while since we last spoke," he remarked, a smirk playing on his lips. "You surprised me today, you useless dog." Loader turned to Lin Tian, urging him to release Earl, promising to fulfill any request Lin Tian desired. At this, Earl felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. He gazed at Loader, regret etched across his face. "Cousin, I was wrong. I shouldn't have blamed you. I'm the coward here. I'm the useless one." Lin Tian regarded Loader with a sardonic expression, clearly unimpressed. "You are a prisoner. What right do you have to negotiate with me?" At this, Loader's previously blank expression vanished, replaced by a fierce glare brimming with malice. He demanded that Lin Tian sever Earl's legs before allowing him to leave, insisting that he would return with news for his family. They would come, he claimed, to rescue him. At that moment, Lin Tian saw an opportunity to confront even more formidable foes. It was crucial that the Goblin Slayer did not escape. Earl was appalled by these words, unable to fathom that a powerful and arrogant knight like Loader could utter such a thing. Perhaps the long years of imprisonment and the relentless tortures he had endured had twisted his perspective. Lura's mindset had warped into something dark and twisted. He now believed that everyone deserved to die and that he wanted to be the one to end their lives. Lin Tian smiled, intrigued. "It seems you're quite serious about your words, and I promise you that." At this, Loader's sanity seemed to unravel. He shouted incoherent phrases, laughing maniacally as if he had lost touch with reality. His disturbing suggestion did not go unnoticed. It caught the attention of the Elf Queen, who listened intently from the shadows. Who would have thought that releasing Earl was such a gamble? It could easily expose their position. Lin Tian smiled, reassuring her not to worry. Everything was under his control. Meanwhile, in the City of Light, chaos erupted in the pub. A man burst through the door, breathless, and recounted what he had just witnessed. He claimed he had seen Earl return to the city, one of his legs gruesomely severed. The tavern buzzed with disbelief as patrons discussed the shocking news. How could such a formidable hero team be defeated so easily? A man raised his voice asking, "Did he return alone? Is it true that Gru and the Snowstorm team are all dead?" Just then, Goblin Slayer stepped into the room, his expression grim. "Yes," he confirmed. "That's right. They're all dead, except for Earl." Goblin Slayer settled into a chair and ordered a beer. A concerned man quickly approached him. "Goblin Slayer, did you take part in that battle?" he asked. Goblin Slayer nodded in response. Just then, a figure clad in black approached him, eager to ask about the goblins following the chaos of the battle. Goblin Slayer responded with a calm demeanor. "They had hundreds of giant goblins, along with some mutated ones, but I killed them all." His words sent shockwaves through the crowd. They gazed at him with a mix of fear and awe, recognizing that he truly embodied the title of Goblin Slayer. The realization that he had eradicated every last goblin left them in stunned admiration. The atmosphere in the tavern was electric with surprise and admiration. The tavern owner, beaming with gratitude, offered Goblin Slayer free drinks, insisting he would cover the entire bill. The patrons nodded in agreement, acknowledging the overwhelming number of goblins, mutated ones included. It seemed all but certain that the Blizzard team would face defeat. Suddenly, chaos erupted in the tavern. A piercing shriek echoed through the air as countless filthy bats swarmed in from nowhere, filling the space with their frantic flapping. Panic ensued as patrons scrambled for their weapons, ready to confront the bizarre onslaught of creatures. Fear gripped the room as the bats took over, leaving everyone on edge. Goblin Slayer savored his beer, his gaze drifting to the bats hanging upside down from the ceiling, their eyes glowing a menacing red. With a dismissive tone, he remarked, "Just a bunch of cold-blooded mercenaries. But I must admit this entrance is rather dramatic." A chilling sound echoed from the shadows, emanating from a mouth lined with sharp teeth. One of the bats spoke up, addressing Goblin Slayer directly. "You claim to have fought hundreds of goblins, but have you found their lair yet? After all, goblins are known for being exceptionally elusive." As the conversation unfolded, the fearful atmosphere in the tavern shifted to one of surprise. Yet Goblin Slayer remained unfazed, his resolve unwavering. He replied calmly that he hadn't yet located the goblin lair, but he would return to eliminate them. He was confident in his ability to handle the situation. Just then, a bat flew closer to Goblin Slayer and expressed its belief that he could indeed defeat the goblins. However, it suggested that he leave the task of finding the lair to it. They could join forces to eliminate their foes, but Goblin Slayer slowly rose from his seat and made his way out of the tavern. He declined the offer of collaboration, stating that he preferred not to operate at night and wasn't accustomed to working with others. His refusal was firm. The bat, filled with anger yet tinged with regret, lamented that all the reward money would have been theirs. Instead of sharing, Goblin Slayer remained indifferent. The scene shifted to the Demon Forest, where night had fallen. The bright moonlight was obscured by a swarm of bats flitting through the air, casting an eerie atmosphere for anyone brave enough to wander there at this hour. As the search continued in the area where the Lintian group had clashed with the Blizzard team, tension hung thick in the air. The bats paused their flapping wings and began to converse. One bat spoke up. "Commander, how do you feel? It seems there are no goblin forces nearby." The commander replied, "I can smell blood. It ends here. They must be hiding behind the waterfall." With that, the bat commander ordered his subordinates to fly into the cave. The sudden flurry of bats startled the goblin guards, but in a cave, such an occurrence was hardly remarkable. They shrugged it off, failing to raise the alarm. The bats swooped deeper into the cavern, eager to explore, only to find a throng of goblins, and just one mutated goblin among them. Confused, they began to wonder if they had stumbled into the wrong lair. This was just an ordinary goblin tribe, devoid of the giant goblins that Goblin Slayer had warned about. Realizing there was no immediate threat, the bats seized the opportunity to attack the unsuspecting goblins. With their crimson eyes gleaming and sharp teeth bared, they swooped down in unison, intent on draining every last drop of blood from their victims. As they drew closer to the goblins, a blinding beam of light suddenly struck them. The bat, caught off guard, couldn't evade the attack and was violently slammed against the cave wall. Slow footsteps echoed through the darkness, and Ephraia emerged, her eyes icy and her weapon at the ready. The bat was taken aback to find a human in the heart of the goblin lair. She quickly recognized her as the holy woman Ifreya. It appeared that the bats had fallen into Lin Tian's trap. At that moment, a horde of giant goblins emerged, brandishing torches that flickered ominously in the dim light, encircling the bats. Realizing the perilous situation, one bat cried out in panic, "We can't escape! What should we do next?" Just then, Lin Tian appeared, his voice cold and unwavering. "If you dare come here to suck blood, I want to see what you blood-sucking vampires are truly capable of." The bat, its red eyes narrowing, quickly recognized Lin Tian as the leader of the Goblin tribe. With a swift flap of its wings, it prepared to respond. The bats began to transform, leaving the goblins in stunned silence. In an instant, they morphed into strikingly beautiful women. One of them, exuding confidence, declared, "Now that we've been discovered, we'll simply eliminate all the goblins here. After all, you're just a bunch of low-level goblins." Lin Tian, unfazed by the sudden turn of events, calmly activated his skill to assess the vampire before him. The system displayed the following information: name, Lily, level, 61, race, vampire, titles, countess, immortal, curse of God, basic stats, health, 1970, strength, 500, defense, 500, skills, blood drain, bloodthirst, shadow transformation, overall power, 2800. As Lin Tian examined Lily's stats, he couldn't help but acknowledge her impressive strength. He felt a wave of relief wash over him, grateful for the preparations he had made after receiving intel from the system about the cold-blooded mercenaries poised to attack his tribe. Just then, Lily soared into the air, her wings beating with tremendous force. The resulting shockwave rippled through the cave, sending many smaller goblins tumbling away. With a confident smirk, she challenged, "Let's see if your flames can burn me first, or if I'll take you all down before that." Lin Tian returned her smile, then commanded the goblins to spring into action. Instantly, the massive goblins behind him struck a peculiar pose in unison and began chanting Hallelujah. In an explosive display, a brilliant beam of golden light erupted from their bodies. This was the nemesis of vampires, a blinding light that engulfed them, eliciting screams of pain and panic. Lily couldn't comprehend how these lowly goblins wielded such holy power, but it was too late for questions. The entire group of vampires was overwhelmed by the radiant force, stripped of their ability to fight back. Seeing the scene unfold, Lin Tian raised a hand, signaling the goblins to halt. He approached Lily slowly, locking eyes with her. "If we fight, it won't benefit either of us," he said calmly. "How about we sit down and discuss this? I assume you came here for the reward money, but I can't quite grasp what you blood-sucking creatures need it for." Lily was taken aback by the question, turning her gaze away to avoid the piercing eyes that seemed to glow like lamps. After a moment, she spoke. "Dealing with the church and the Sword Saint is no easy task. We were forced to sign an agreement prohibiting us from drinking human blood. So to survive, we have to earn money to buy it." Lin Tian's surprise deepened as he absorbed her words. A realization struck him. This was an opportunity. If he could win over these vampires, the fighting power of the Goblin tribe would be significantly enhanced. After Lily expressed her inability to oppose the church and the Sword Saint, Lin Tian nodded in understanding and proposed an alliance. This unexpected offer took Lily by surprise. Before she could gather her thoughts to respond, Lin Tian demonstrated his goodwill by commanding his subordinates to cease their assault on the girls, wielding holy power to protect them. He also promised to provide blood for their needs. At that moment, the girls rose to their feet, appearing less injured than expected. However, Lily hesitated to accept Lin Tian's offer, pondering whether the amount of blood he could provide would truly be sufficient. It wouldn't be enough to sustain all her subordinates for long. Lin Tian smiled as she spoke. Ancient texts often mention that the kidneys govern the blood essence of humans. However, with certain demonic creatures, blood and essence serve not only as sources of life force, but can also substitute for human blood entirely. The girls were utterly bewildered by Lin Tian's words. The concepts he introduced were completely foreign to them, prompting hushed whispers among the group. "Captain, do you understand what he just said?" one of them asked, glancing at Lily. Her expression was one of helplessness, her eyes wide with confusion. Realizing that his knowledge exceeded the girl's understanding, Lin Tian felt a twinge of embarrassment. He cleared his throat softly before beginning to explain. "According to legend, there exists a demonic creature known as the Lustful Ghost, which long ago discovered that blood essence possessed unique properties. Since that revelation, these creatures have regarded the absorption of blood essence as their primary means of sustenance. Without the need for plundering or killing, they simply wandered, stealing blood essence from their prey to sustain their energy and power. At this point, Lin Tian confidently proclaimed, "Our goblins may lack many things, but we will never lack blood essence. If we work together, I assure you, you will never run out of blood to drink." After hearing Lin Tian's explanation, the girls began to murmur among themselves, weighing the implications of his words. "I think I've heard about this, but is it true? Is he trying to deceive us?" At that moment, Lily stepped forward. "True or false? We'll find out once we try." As she moved ahead, one of the girls quickly grasped her hand. "Captain, we are loyal to the Countess. She is currently sealed. Shouldn't we wait for him? Isn't this too much?" With determination in her eyes, Lily was convinced that this method needed to be tested. After hundreds of years and the loss of countless team members, she believed that if this method held any truth, they could afford to wait without enduring further suffering or taking unnecessary risks. Soon after, the girls and Lin Tian made their way to a secluded spot, ready to discuss their next steps. The air was thick with strange, pleasurable moans that echoed throughout the space. Lily's body was pushed to its limits, drenched in sweat from her exertion. The other girls watched, their faces flushed with a mix of embarrassment and anticipation. Suddenly, a deep sigh of satisfaction broke the tension. Lily's eyes widened, and her cheeks flushed a deeper shade of red as she succumbed to the overwhelming wave of pleasure. She never anticipated that this method would grant her strength far beyond simply drinking blood. The other girls were taken aback. Could this really be true? I want to try it too. Without hesitation, they rushed toward Lin Tian, showering him with kisses and completely disregarding his desperate pleas to stop and stay calm. Surrounded by powerful goblins in the cave, Lin Tian's protests fell on deaf ears as he found himself battling against the girls all at once. After the battle concluded, Lin Tian was left utterly exhausted, his joints feeling numb. The Elf Queen offered a sarcastic smile. "Thank you, Captain, for your hard work." Lin Tian sighed, muttering to himself, "These vampire girls are really starving." At that moment, Lily approached him, a satisfied glint in her eyes. "I'm ready to cooperate," she said, eager to know what he needed from her. Lin Tian explained that his cave was cloaked in darkness year-round, making it an ideal sanctuary for vampires. He proposed that they take up residence there, tasked with protecting the cave and keeping intruders at bay. This seemingly straightforward assignment took Lily by surprise. Yet, with the insight of a true leader, she understood that the situation was far more complex than it appeared. Despite the risks, the benefits Lin Tian offered were too alluring to resist. She eagerly accepted, vowing to safeguard the cave and transform it into an impenetrable fortress. Once their agreement was sealed, Lin Tian departed, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. His plan had unfolded flawlessly, and with it, the strength of his tribe would soon grow significantly. Some time later, the City of Light received alarming news. The elite mercenary group had gone completely silent. Despite their best efforts and every resource at their disposal, the explorers had failed to make any headway against the goblins. Amidst this turmoil, a heated argument erupted in the tavern. "You coward! I've been dissatisfied with you for a long time. Are you really too afraid to face the goblins? Yet you brag about being a diamond-level adventurer," a man in a black cloak shouted. "Don't lecture me. I don't have time to help you earn a reward." Their heated argument was suddenly interrupted as the tavern door swung open with a loud crash. A woman with golden hair strode in, and the atmosphere shifted. Gasps filled the room as everyone recognized her, the legendary Sword Saint. They were filled with joy at the sight of her full recovery. Moments later, the tavern fell into a hushed silence. In the center sat the Sword Saint, encircled by a throng of adventurers. One brave soul broke the stillness, asking, "Sword Saint, are you planning to venture to Dragon Island alone and hoping we'll unite to confront those goblins?" The Sword Saint simply nodded in response. "That's right. This is the only way we can eliminate both the dragon tribe and the goblins at once," one man asserted. However, another voice, tinged with worry, chimed in. "Can we really pull this off? We're just low-level adventurers." But then, a third man spoke up with unwavering confidence. "It's a small effort for a great cause. I'm ready to help. I stand with the Sword Saint in her mission to uphold justice." "I'll organize everyone to enter the forest and wipe out those goblins," declared Allison, a diamond-level adventurer. The Sword Saint regarded him with approval, entrusting him with the mission to lead the charge against the goblin menace. Turning her gaze to the man in the black cloak, she continued, "I know you possess the ability to control objects with magic. However, the only way to reach Dragon Island is by ship. Therefore, I would like to know if you would be willing to escort me." The proposal took the man by surprise. After a brief moment of contemplation, he bowed deeply and replied with enthusiasm, "Absolutely. Fighting alongside the Sword Saint is an incredible honor." A smile spread across his face as he imagined that after this mission, he would undoubtedly rise to the ranks of an epic-tier adventurer.
Wait, don't go just yet. If you enjoyed today's recap, hit like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next chapter.